Yo, what up, guys? We have a fun day. So this is going to be the epic finale to the Destiny versus Rollo debate. Initially, it's supposed to be at 6 p.m. today. Actually, Destiny told me, and then they moved it to 9. Now they moved to 9:15. So hopefully, this is the last time they moved it. Yeah. So it's supposed to start at 9:15. And my initial plan was just to react to it, like after the show, right? But since they bumped it to 9 o'clock, so I figured I'd just react to it live, which is going to be just as good. If anything, maybe even potentially better. I just didn't want to start streaming at 6 p.m. Also, I'm going to have Not So Erudite joining me. So she's going to be reacting to this as well. And I think this is going to be a really good one because I actually helped Destiny prepare for this one for a little bit. I gave him a whole series of notes of things that he can go after Rollo for. In fact, if you guys want in the chat, let me know and I can tell you what exactly I told Destiny in terms of preparing for this debate. Put a 1 in the chat if you want to see that. Or put a 2 if you don't give a shit. Rhaegar. That's baby Rhaegar. Look at him. So majestic. So majestic. Okay, I see a lot of ones. All right, I'll tell you. None of this is like really private, so it should be fine. Let me see. I'll pull up my Discord. So here's what I wrote out for Destiny. I said, okay, I sent a bunch of videos. Okay, so here's what I said. The biggest common theme I would tie everything back to is hypocrisy. Rollo is the epitome of a hypocrite in literally every way. One of the best ones I would use is false allegations. He constantly whines about how false allegations are bad and people need to be held accountable. But then he goes and makes false allegations about me and Abin Preach that we're being paid off by Anthony Johnson to make videos about him, which is obviously laughable. In addition, when his buddy Donovan attacked Preach's wife, which turned out to be just his friend, Rollo defended him. So that's a big thing I would hit him on. Also, if you look at that infamous tweet, he literally doesn't do more than the half of that himself. He's married with kids, and that's the biggest pattern. He always says one thing and does the polar opposite. When it comes to him saying there's no quality woman, the kill shot I would use is, so is your wife not a quality woman? There's no way he could respond to that question without taking an L. He also calls himself the rational male, but he's one of the most emotional people out there. Most girls are less emotional than him, so I would also definitely hit him on that. And I sent him here 3 videos that give him sources for that. So yeah, that's basically the notes I gave him. Should be fun. Destiny said that he's hoping to end Rollo's career tonight, so I'm hoping as well. But let's see what happens. I'll try to be objective in my reaction. Me and Rollo also had some pretty funny tweets back and forth. I hit him with a really good tweet. Okay. Oh, can you Discord? I want to make sure I don't lose them. What is that? Deal. Okay. But if I'm going to pause throughout the whole debate, we're going to let it play and watch it live. No, I'm gonna pause it, right? Because if I just play live, then like, why would you guys you guys are here for my commentary? You know, you're not here just to like as a way of watching it. You can just do that on the Freshman Fit channel. What do you think won between TFM and Destiny when you hosted that? I thought at some points TFM won and some points Destiny won, so I thought that one was kind of a draw. Why do we never get a SJW Presser Part 3 debate? I want to, but he completely ghosted a flake. I guess he wasn't too happy after the last one. Yeah, that dude completely disappeared, Mr. SJW Professor. That dude was funny. I don't know who I think are cringier, like the hardcore red pillars or the fuck SJWs. They're both so cringe in their own way. Like, what's cringier? Saying that you should be an emotionally vulnerable man around your girlfriend, or is that you could never show emotions around your girl? Like, I don't know which one of those positions is more cringy. They're both so cringy to me. I hope Rollo actually did some prep work this time. Yeah, we'll see. We weren't alive to see the Titanic sing. This would be the modern day Titanic. That's funny. I think Sarkane will try and intimidate Destiny. No, I don't think so. I was hoping if Destiny would have asked Myron if he could bring you. Yeah, the freshman fit will never have me on. I would actually, dude, if they offered, I would go on there. As long as we could agree on like reasonable preconditions, like there was going to be like no interruptions and no bias moderating. As long as we could agree on like a reasonable like preconditions, I would totally do that. But yeah, they'll never have me on. Rollo recently removed the pockets of the 5 other grifters. Okay, interesting. Wait, Sartain. There should be 3 people at the table of Rollo, Destiny, Myron, 91. I agree with that. Like, Fresh contributes absolutely nothing. That dude is like basically brain dead. Myron could probably moderate, and yeah, I agree with that. I think those are the people that should be there. But if Destiny's bringing Sneeko, that's only fair that Rollo gets to bring someone as well. Alex, show this video of Rollo's band. They have a butch singer. There's everything they claim to be against. Oh God, yeah, send me the link. MJ, I don't see the link. Alex, can you invite Malik for this debate? Yeah, I can text her, I guess. Here, let me hit her up. Oh, Sneeko backed out? Oh yeah. I know he's like notorious for doing that. He is like very flaky because one time me and him were supposed to be on Valuetainment and then he just like backed out. So yeah, he's kind of notorious for just like Sneeko very much like goes with his feelings, right? He's just, oh, I feel like doing this day. He's very much in his feelings, right? Which I guess is fine, but it's just funny that they kind of preach against that. Yeah, I don't want to have to like share screen or something and have people get pissed just to go. I'm kind of confused what Kyla is saying. Okay, so she wants me to call her on Discord. Okay. Try to figure out how the logistics of it, but it's okay because we still got like 10 minutes before this begins. I'd love to see a debate between Rhaegar and Hero Fresh's dog. Oh, Rhaegar would demolish him. Look at Rhaegar. He's a badass. This is a badass husky. Rhaegar would destroy any dog. He said his cred is up and he has nothing to gain from the debate. Well, that's actually probably true. Sneeko can only go down. He can't really go up. Okay, so if we hop in the call, I'm just continue what we're doing. Okay, so I'm going to call Kyla. Although I don't know how I can share both screens. Okay. Let's try this. Yo, what's up? I can't hear shit. Did this go through? Or I don't understand what the fuck's going on. Kyla? Kyla? I can't hear anything. I don't know how the fuck to do this shit. Yo, Kyla.
Dude, give me a second.
Oh, there we go.
All right.
So I just realized there's going to be an issue though. When I share the screen for the reaction video to Destiny and Rollo, I can only share one screen at a time, I believe. So I'm not going to be
right.
Yeah.
Maybe it would be better. Do you want to watch it separate and then after it we can chat after? Talk about what we think about it? Yeah,
sure, we can do that as long as we like finish at similar rate. What do you think? How many interruptions are you gonna be doing?
Probably not a ton since it's gonna be live. I'm gonna probably try to keep it flowing the whole time as much as possible.
Okay, you might finish before me then. So just jump on my screen whenever you're done, even if I'm not finished yet.
Sure, sounds good.
All right, take care.
Okay, bye.
All right. It's just gonna be Meek tonight, guys. All right, I'll text Malik and see if she wants to. Oh, Malik got banned from Discord, so I got to message her on Instagram. Hey, are you streaming tonight? Okay. All right, there we go. I texted Malik. So the next person who interviews Brandon Carter is sitting on a gold mine. Yeah, I know. You know, the funny thing is, I was actually supposed to interview Brandon Carter because his assistant is like a big fan of mine. But then Brandon Carter last minute bailed because he saw that I talked shit about Fresh and Fit. Why'd she get banned? It was an accident. She told me that she was like, she got randomly added to some Discord and they were doing something against TOS. Discord doesn't allow titties bigger than 36C. Yeah, so like it was something that, I mean, at least that's what she told me, but yeah, something that was like outside her control. Someone added her to a random Discord and make her moderator, and they were doing stuff that was against TOS. Okay. Do you think the dude from The Love Is Blind, what feminists would say is the right kind of guy? Yeah, probably. Except for, unfortunately, for those guys, it never works out. But yeah, they would say that's like the ideal guy, right? The blue pillars, they'd be like, yeah, you want someone who's very emotionally in touch and very sensitive. That's what women really want, except they don't. PW, for real talk, if I had to shoot Rhaegar after owning him for a year, or Natty after dating her for a month, who would you shoot? Natty only after I knew her for a month, definitely Natty in that situation, because at that point I didn't really have like strong feelings for her. If it's like now, I have to pick either Rhaegar or Natty now. That would be an impossible choice because I love both of them. So that would be like, I don't think I could even make that choice. I would probably go into like shock and freeze. But if it was only after knowing Natty for a month, yeah, it would be the dog. Alex, how many likes do you get on average in Miami after about a day on Hinge? I don't know. I've been banned from Hinge, but I used to get like, I don't know, like 5 to 10 a day. How much is a dramatic high resolution hair transplant? I don't know what a high resolution, but how much is a hair transplant in the US? It's like about 10 to 15K. Blame with that. Why do you have photos of Rhaegar up on your wall but no photos of Natty? Because I use my Instagram to pick up girls, and if I have a photo of my girlfriend on my Instagram, that's going to be counterproductive to that goal. So yeah, that's because of that simply. Okay, let me see. Okay, Malik responded. See if you wanted to react to the Rollo debate with me. Okay. How did you get banned from Hinge? I think because I do a lot of videos where I show screenshots, and I think that's against their TOS. Like typically people who do what I do, like content creators who do like those types of videos, typically all get banned. Is Fresh and Fit trying to glue Rollo's beanie on his head? Yeah, potentially. When is the next Valley Pod and when? Or who's the next? I think the next one's going to be this guy, Diego Day or something like that. It could either be him or this Billy Ray Brand chick. Both of them agreed to come on. What do you think about Spencer being sued by RSD Derek? Not sure if you watched the video he uploaded today. I feel bad for him. I didn't see the one that he uploaded today, but I think it's super duper cringe. I think it's super duper cringe what the RSD Derek is doing. And he apparently sues a lot of people, so I think that's super cringe. Fresh and Fit blocked my comment asking if the red pill is dead. Well, yeah. You know how many you know how many times I've sued someone or threatened to sue someone? 0, because it's cringe as fuck. Will the black pill become more popular than the red pill in a few years? I don't think so because I think the red pill is more relatable to a normie. Rollo won't debate Alex unless it's on his show, but he will debate Destiny and other people's shows. Yeah, it's really weird logic too. Oh, we got the fake looks for L. Okay, I'm gonna block you. Lock user. Okay. I don't know why people fucking create fake accounts. Is Nico still butthurt about you calling him Walmart tape? Not sure. I haven't had any contact with him, so maybe, maybe not. I don't know. You never know with that guy. Can you do another webinar? Yeah, I do them like every 2 or 3 weeks. Myron just called me a loser when I challenged them on the red pill rage. That's a typical Myron argument. Have you ever met Fresh in real life? He seemed nice though. I don't know Myron. Yeah, I met Fresh back in the day. I've even had conversations with him at the gym, way before this whole thing began. But yeah, I met him. He's exactly in real life. He's exactly the same way he's online. Honestly, I will give both of them that credit. They're both pretty similar to the way they are online. Okay, let's see how close they are. They should be starting any second now. I'm going to get ready and share the screen. Okay. All right, so they should be starting any minute now. Rollo's in his stream recently cried about paying $600. Dude, I offered for a part of my deal with Rollo. I said I would pay for his flight and for his hotel because I know he's a cheap ass motherfucker. I don't know how a dude who's apparently like very successful can't afford like a fucking cheap plane ticket. I think it's more of an ego thing, but yeah, I offered to pay for his plane ticket and his hotel. He still would do it. I'm so excited for this. Yeah, me too. Alex, did you see Rollo use the N-word? No, I did not. If you can link me, we can take a look at it. I'm curious. He literally said he showed me how to choke an N-word out. Interesting. I guess I would have to see the original context to see if it's fucked up or not. Do you have to give hot takes to stay within fair use, or can you let it play? I don't know. I mean, it doesn't have to be hot takes. It can be any kind of a take. I think if I just let it play, then that might not count as fair use. But again, I don't think like you guys. I think you guys are here to hear my commentary because otherwise you could just watch it on their channel. So I feel like not only is it better in terms of like the stream being able to stay up, but also it's more interesting for the viewer to like actually get my feedback and input because I think I have a lot of interesting things I could add to this commentary. Watch Rollo Tamale. It doesn't even show up. It's possible, I guess. Alex, how does Hinge know you do videos to ban you? Because people report your account. So some girl sees her. Some girl gets a text from her friend like, "Hey, you're in this random video. I'm playing with fire." She goes, she sees my account, she reports me to Hinge, and multiple people do that, and that's how you get banned. Is it better to avoid online beefs like Brendan Carter's cool, but he's fresh and fit and enter? You're pretty chill, but by the way, his friends probably refuse collapse. I think you want to avoid stupid beefs. You want to avoid like petty beefs, but some strategic beefs, as long as you win them, or as long as you don't come out like as the loser, are okay. Like Destiny is going to come out on top in this beef, right? And he's going to gain, a good amount of the Red Pill community from this. So some beefs are good, but like petty beefs are like, yeah, like I would avoid those. What is more cringe, fake accounts or threatening to sue people? I think threatening to sue people is even more cringe. What do you think about the fallout of Rollo Valley Tainment? I did a whole video on that. Have you ever used Upward or CRISPR? I've never used Upward. I have used CRISPR once, and some person on there tried to scam me, and then I quit. Do you generally agree with Destiny or Sneaker more? I definitely agree with Destiny a lot more. All right, it's starting. It is beginning. Okay. I don't really feel like watching their intro, so we'll go in like 20 seconds. I'm getting my results. Blood work tier T. Too many concerns. Tip I should bring up to the doc. Just look at your total testosterone compared to your free testosterone. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of better videos about this than me. All right, so let's get going. Let's add to the stream. I'm gonna unmute.
All right, we are live. What's up, guys? Welcome to the Fresh Fit Podcast, man. It's a special day today. It's Monday, but we got something special for y'all. We canceled the after hours. We're going to have a debate. You guys have been waiting for this one for a while. So let me go ahead and make some quick announcements before we get into the show. Number one, rumble.com/freshfit. Check us out over there, guys, because we'll probably get canceled any day now with Sneeko. And he's over there on Rumble as well. Rumble.
Oh, Christ. They've been saying that for the last year and a half. Oh, we're going to get canceled any day. It's just say you want people to subscribe to you on another platform because, you're trying to grow a platform. The whole, we're going to get canceled any day is like super cringe.
.com/Sneeko. So go check him out.
Yes, sir.
Over there. It's the future.
And Kai and Speed just joined Rumble too, so it's really taking over. Ooh. All the people that were doubting, everybody that's talking about Kick. I know Aiden's panicking right now because Rumble's looking really good. Kai and Speed, two of the biggest Gen Z streamers, are going to be a huge demographic coming over.
Oh, Sneeko did show up
before it's too late because things are really about to start to switch up.
Facts.
All right.
Shout out to Rumble,
good stuff.
Rollo, let's start Rumble. Let's get on Rumble.
Yeah,
I'm already on Rumble.
It's a new wave, man. Freshfit.locals.com, guys. Go check us out over there as well. Also, we're on Megaphone. So if you guys want to listen to the podcast audio version, make sure to wear headphones so you don't get fired at your job. Get the merch, freshfitpodcaststore.com. I got my Chris is a Bum shirt on, my favorite one, because Chris definitely is a bum and he doesn't even know how to do the cameras correctly. Chris, once again.
Funny, they just like make fun of the producer.
Funny? He's the one that set the cameras up. Hey, oh my God, man.
New angles, man.
You stupid. Come on, man.
I don't know, but I am excited for this show.
Oh, yeah. That's the excuse to use every time. And then also, guys, get after that one. Yeah. And then also check out our Clips channel, guys, Fresh Fit Clips. And then also check out our other channel, more Fresh Fit Clips. Check out Fresh Fit Vlog.
Yep. Guys, for vlogs, man, funny shorts. Go check it out.
We don't care.
Guys on the network, man. Add value, get value. Let's go. And then Myron's channel.
Fed 1811, as you guys know, I break down criminal cases. Actually, my bad. I changed it to Fed Reacts.
Fed Reacts.
It's called Fed Reacts now, guys. So go ahead and check it out.
That channel Fed Reacts is actually pretty decent. Like I'm actually kind of into cases, so Myron actually does a pretty good job on that channel. I think he should quit doing this manosphere shit and focus on like actually doing that. He's so much better at that than this
episode I did was God damn it,
Golden
State. Yeah, Golden State Killer. Thank you, bro. Yeah. I did the Golden State Killer yesterday. He went on the run for like 30-40 years. It took forever for them to catch him, but they finally did through DNA. So if you guys want to go check that out, go check it out, Fed Reacts. And then I'm going to be dropping Al Capone and the outfit on Thursday this week.
Almighty.
And and then I won't be in town, guys. So you guys are actually going to get a special show with these guys without me here on Friday.
Rollo, Sartine, and myself.
Yes.
Running the show.
And then, Fresh?
And the show? And Sneeko might come with somebody. Who knows?
Who knows?
We might have something for y'all. But anything else? Oh, yeah, and get my book, guys, Why Women Deserve Less. And
I don't know, Rollo looks a little nervous. Look at his body language. Destiny's all calm and relaxed. Sartain's pretty relaxed. Rollo looks a little tense.
I'll go ahead and read the chats. And then also, all the guys, all their links are below, guys. Go support them down below. I got their Rumbles, their YouTubes, etc. Destiny, Sneeko, Rollo, Tomassi, Michael Sartain. So I'll read these chats real quick. From this point forward, guys, we're not going to read anything outside of $100 and up because obviously we want to make sure that we have the debate going nice and smoothly. Just so you guys know, me and Fresh are
Aren't you guys so happy that I don't pander to super chats and make you guys super chat me, read your comments? You guys have to give me $50 so I can read your comment. Oh, because I need money so bad.
Not going to participate. We're just going to simply moderate.
Yeah,
I got a couple topics here at hand, but let me read these and I'll give you guys the ground rules. Jordan 14 goes, Sneeko too focused on a vasectomy last time. The point is not to have kids when you're broke and haven't built yourself up yet and can't provide. Not every man is young and successful like you are. Well, sir, you will be armchair debating somewhere else because don't worry. Colin Stevens goes, you should ask the resident blue-haired cuck if he still supports the position on ethical CP, have him elaborate and see if the panel agrees. That's not today's topic, my friend. Manuel J. Hernandez, Destiny likes men unless his chick get ran through. Not the best guy to get advice from. Be a man. Okay, Mulan. We got Fresh's stutter.
I wonder if they like purposely, like if Rollo is having his like diehard fans like purposely super chat, shit about the Destiny. Because last time it was like all positive for Destiny, all negative for Rollo. So I wonder if there's something that happened behind the scenes here. I don't know. I could be completely wrong, but there's my speculation.
I did get invited to the round table again. L Fresh. I hope you haven't skipped any therapy sessions.
Let's
Thank you, sir.
You've been skipping them sessions.
Let's go.
And he did come late, by the way, too.
CPT.
Yeah, he definitely did come late. Masculine Excellence goes, question for Destiny. You think it's important for a father to be physically present in their son's
Psychically.
life? Particularly. What?
Psychically.
Psychically. Oh, shit.
They
Okay.
probably meant physically, I'd imagine. But maybe they're that kind of person.
Yeah,
too.
let's use grammar with some
present
of these.
in their son's life, particularly during the adolescence and teen years. If so, how much in-person father-son time is necessary to raise a virtuous son? That might come up in today's topic. Zorino goes, I'd like to hear Sneeko and others answer this. Is Leonardo DiCaprio a high-value man for scoring with 19-year-old models in his late 40s without having kids? Don't worry, we'll talk about that. 0259 goes, I like how Destiny makes fun of extreme RP ideology while he believes a woman.
I don't even know what the point of super chatting into Fresh and Fit is. They don't actually answer your question. They just read it. Like, why would you pay $50 just to have like someone read what you have to say? Like, at the very least, you want an answer. So I don't even see the point of people doing that.
Body count don't matter. Okay,
We're gonna get to that today too.
Martin, would you say Destiny fits the description of a placeholder husband, and he's just coping when he says he's cool with his girl cheating on him? No, whatever, man. Y'all asking me
This is about them guys, not us.
There. Come on, man.
Yeah, man.
Derek Stacy, $20. Have y'all looked into the Israel Adesanya situation yet?
Stop Bender. The UFC guy with the girl.
Oh, yeah, we'll cover that probably next week.
We will, yeah.
His
ex-girlfriend.
His ex-girlfriend of 2 years is trying to take half his stuff. No kids, no marriage. P Clown World. FNF, W Destiny.
Adesanya for pretty good or just hate money.
This case.
Oh, that's crazy, bro. That
We can hold you to it then. Good.
Hey, you're supposed to moderate, man. Be quiet.
Salam Martin and Sneeko, vasectomy is not a solution. Better advice would be to make a bunch of money and leave the U.S. Okay. Samuel L. goes, Lyra Gonzalo has been arrested again by Ukrainian SBU at gunpoint.
Really?
There's a video. He needs your public support and the social pressure to save his life. Please bring attention to this extremely important fact. God help Lyra. God damn, bro.
Is that like for the third time or the second time?
Yeah, it's the second
Second
time.
time.
Maybe the last time.
That we know about.
Yeah, living in a country that's in the middle of war and spreading Russian propaganda now, that is probably not the best idea. I mean, it should be protected under free speech, but Ukraine is not America and it's the country of war. So pretty dumb move on Lyra Gonzalez's part.
They're hating over there in Ukraine.
I saw
man.
the second time. I didn't know.
Charlie Jones, hi, I love Funna. Rollo's explanation of the tweet didn't make sense. He said a high value man is subjective to you, which it's not. Don't worry, we're going to actually define that
we'll
at the
get
top
to
of the
that.
show. High value man is objective based on the marketplace of society. Otherwise, everyone is high value man based off our own subjectivity. All right. And then Nate Diaz goes, Destiny mind fucks women and keeps them on the line with blue pill game. His wife is just a trophy 304. He's admitted last pod that he doesn't really care about marriage. Rollo at least lives life. S&D say you should.
Suck and dick.
Okay, I don't know.
I don't think that's what the N is for.
Yeah.
I don't think that's what.
Oh my god, that was a good one, Sneeko sucking dick.
Sneeko Phil Alpha getting the French girl's number who he won't wife yet lectures FNF that high value men should want more than just sex. Is your Pat's hypocrisy padded with sermonizing?
You guys are in too deep. Like these super chats are just way.
Yeah,
I get a girl's number on
this
a
is good.
show.
This is where you're humbled at the beginning of the show, right here. Yeah.
Don't worry.
Any more about me sucking dick? Or
Those haven't come yet.
Okay,
When can we have Coach Greg Adams on the show? By the way, I've been following ever since he got on, and 40K subs. Will anyone in this table hold a debate with CGA? We agree with a lot of his points. Man.
He's cool.
Tell the truth. Did the show start late because Destiny was scissoring Sneeko's girl? No, it did not. It was actually because Fresh. First super chat.
Was
Of
scissoring
course,
Sneeko's girl?
Fresh.
you guys have brought so much Bites My Life credit. Score over set 50 got me.
Fresh got lost. He couldn't find his way back
Keep doing
home.
what you're doing. Chris, what aren't these? Chris,
Yeah, these are before, but it's fine now.
okay. How many? Okay. I wonder if Sneeko will be on Rollo's side today,
fucking
considering
super
how he
chats
changes
are
his mind every week. What if?
Damn.
What kind of
Changes my,
flowers
like,
he
tell
does?
me exactly when I changed my mind on.
So
Did anyone ever say that, or just like I'm a leaf going in the wind?
I'm Steve Bunnell. I host politics, YouTube, philosophy YouTube, and video games on YouTube, youtube.com/Destiny. I've been doing this for about 13 years.
All right.
Sneeko, canceled streamer on Rumble, and certified douche nozzle.
There you go.
That is correct. Certified.
Fantastic. So, guys, all the chats are going to be shown on screen. However, we're only going to read the ones that are 100 and up, just so that we can make sure that we get through this debate. So, first, we're going to start with defining what a high value man is, alpha male, and hypergamy. And then we're going to come to basically an agreed upon definition for the table. So that way nothing is lost in translation during the course of the conversation. We already got 20,000 y'all in here. So do me a favor, like the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and then subscribe to everyone's channel here. Sneeko on Rumble, Destiny on YouTube,
Access
Rollo
Vegas,
on YouTube,
Rollo.
and Michael Sartain on YouTube as well. Their links are below. And then pretty much. So we'll go ahead and who wants to kick it off with defining high value man?
Before we define things, I wrote like 6 things down so we can all agree on things. So we have like a common base going forward. Okay. So I wrote 6 rules that I hope we can all kind of adhere to for this conversation.
Yes.
So for the first one, all of us here are trying to approach some notion of what is true in terms of what we're analyzing. We're not here to make fun of each other, scream at each other, be emotional, whatever, but we're trying to figure out what the most true shit is, essentially, right? Number 1. Number 2, I personally think we should move through arguments point by point rather than like diatribing for 5 or 10 minutes so that the other time, because you don't want to start off a point where somebody already disagrees and then talk for another 5 or 10 minutes. And so if I'm saying something or Sneako's saying something or you guys saying something, if you disagree, just be like, hey, let's talk about this thing before we rattle on a ton.
Okay.
What Destiny's doing is actually really smart. I didn't even think of this, but he's like, basically, he's like, hey, we're going to play by my rules.
Okay. Number 3, because I hear this accusation a lot. If anybody feels like there's a debate tactic in the room, call it out, and we've got the moderators here. If somebody feels like they're straw manning or appealing to emotion or false authority or whatever, so like, hey, hold on, I don't like that. Point it out. Nobody should be leaving here and then in 2 weeks being like, there was a lot of debate tactics going on. Call it out if you see it, and we'll address it right here.
Yep.
Okay. Number 4, we've kind of already addressed this. So words have to have meaning when we're having these conversations. So even if we want to say that a feeling about a particular word is subjective or whatever, we all have to agree on that. Otherwise, we're going to be lost in the sauce if we're all like arguing, what does it mean to be alpha or beta? And we all have like 4 different definitions working. Okay. And then 2 more. 5 is trying to keep this as scientific as possible. So if somebody says like, well, there was a study in England with 33 million participants, and another guy's like, well, on Instagram, I saw 2 stories. Okay, let's try to keep it like as, I know you do a lot of scientific stuff. I know you've done a lot of reading. Sneeko is very scientific here with his Quran. So let's try to keep it as base as possible. I'm sorry. I was cutting it. My bad. Okay, and then final point. If some side feels like they're not being understood, or if they feel like their points are being misconstrued, ask the other side to just like state like, hey, what do you think I just said? Or hey, what do you think I think about this particular thing? And then the other side will try to restate the argument so that we're all on the same page. Okay. So roughly speaking, you should keep it.
I love how Destiny's already dominating this.
Definitely, and we'll stay away from that homonyms and keep it as cordial as possible. Cool. So yeah, we'll start with.
And now we lost half of the viewers.
All right, so we'll start with defining what a high value man is, and then also real quick, when we're making arguments, whatever, I'll be timing you guys at least on the vasectomy part. We're going to cover that first. But let's define what a high value man is.
Mention how this started from last show or no?
No, they know.
Okay,
they
trust me.
All right, so let's define high value man. Who wants to take the first crack at it so everyone at the table can agree what it is?
I'll go. If you guys want me to go. So, of course, everybody wants to like nail me on what's a high value man. Okay. So I could have said this on our last engagement here, is that a high value man is the man that other men want to be and other women want to fuck. That's straight out of I think it was my 3rd book or my 2nd book. Okay. That's too broad a definition, I think. So I could have just simply said that. People ask me all the time in the tweet or on Twitter and social media afterwards, like, why didn't you just simply say that? Okay. Well, problem with that is because once you get past that, it's a little bit too broad of a definition. So I did a little bit of homework on the way over here on the plane.
I mean, this is like super massive cope. Like, well, I could have given you this definition. So why didn't you? Oh, it's too broad. So you're saying that giving a slightly broad definition is worse than giving no definition. At least it's a step in the right direction.
And we generally go to the female delusion calculator on our show, and you guys have used the female delusion calculator as well. So what is a high value man? Well, we've asked that question quite a bit from pretty much every girl that we've had on our show. Now, should it be defined by women? Maybe not, but there's a criteria there that forms the basis, I would say, like just the core principle of what is a high value man. So when we go through that, we go and we say, okay, well, how tall is that guy? How much money does that guy make? What is his, is he obese? Is he like, and there's very specific details that go into that. And then through that, we say, okay, well, that represents what, like 0.02% of the population.
Yeah, I mean, if you're specific, we're talking about the GSS survey, or not the GSS.
No, CDC,
the CDC stuff,
and census stuff. So we always, and you guys do the same thing when we are looking to establish what is a high value man, at least as far as what women are looking for at that time. And I'm not saying that there's not a definition for guys as well. As I said, it's other men want to be and other women want to have sex with.
So what parameters would you?
Exactly. Good question. Now, you guys, right around the first year of your show here, you had Kevin Samuel sitting right here, and one of the things he said is that the guy must make something like $10,000 a month, I believe is what it was.
Roughly, yeah.
Roughly. So that comes out to $120,000 a year. Can we agree that if you make $120,000 a year, would that make, like, as far as money is concerned, would that make you a high value guy?
I think it depends on where you are. Like if you're in Manhattan, I think that would be problematic. If you're in Wichita, Kansas, that's a lot of money.
I think that making $120,000.
I'll give a very broad definition. I think we can all agree on this. I think in the broadest sense, when we talk about men, we talk about what a high value man is. We think about what men are designed to do. I think that a high value man is somebody that can partition or acquire a lot of resources.
Okay.
In the broadest of senses. And that can be done in a lot of ways.
Do we want to put a specific number on those resources?
I think a lot is relative, so it's gonna be more than your fellow guy. Right. So if you make $120,000 a year in Kansas, you're the fucking king.
Correct.
If you make $120,000 a year in San Francisco, your neighbor is probably a crackhead. Right?
Yeah. So
it just depends on
your argument last time was the subjectivity of what you were saying, and that's the thing. No matter what number we say is a subjectivity. For me, high value man is going to be the guy who puts fitness first. He's going to have a job that's scalable, where he's doing something that he loves, and he's going to have his options on what woman that he can date. Now, if you were to look at that and say, like, for instance, I like Grego Gallagher. I'm a big fan of How to Beast. Brandon Carter's a buddy of mine.
Brandon Carter.
Goggins. What's his name? Jocko Willink. Those guys I consider.
Stay away from Brandon Carter, bro.
Grego Gallagher is dating a woman with breast implants and fucking plastic surgery. Another person who has different religious beliefs is going to be like, no, that's haram. That's bad. So that's the thing. It's the subjectivity of it.
Sure. I think important to keep in mind is when we say value, we're implying some sort of exchange between multiple people. So like a moral man or a virtuous man might be way different than a high value man. We can all probably think of people that are very virtuous or moral.
Someone virtuous who goes by the Quran then have a different definition. Like, for instance, you guys had an argument before about family creation. If several of those guys I just mentioned, they are not interested in family creation. They're interested in being the most attractive versions of themselves they can be. So you would have one person say, this is not a high value man. They would call that person a joke. And another guy would be like, yo, man, I have been used by women my whole life. I've been broke my whole fucking life. And I see this guy and he's fucking killing it. That's a high value man. The subjectivity of it is like something like when you.
I don't think it's as subjective as you're making it. I don't think religious people would really disagree about that. I just don't think that. And this is where red pill kind of hits the wall, because it doesn't go past just how much money you make. So,
like I think something that's really important.
That's just one aspect.
Yeah,
of what
the subjectivity part comes in, I think, when it comes to, if we use my broad definition of resource acquisition, the subjective part is what do you need to acquire resources? So, for instance, we say fitness, right? Fitness could be a proxy for acquiring resources. If you're hunting in the wilderness, a more fit guy can climb a tree, kill a bear, whatever. But in some societies, fitness isn't a proxy for how much money you make, right? I imagine that on average, there's probably a lot of really wealthy people that are not. I don't know how much Bill Gates can bench press, right? But for resource acquisition, he's very, very, very valuable. So, and then also, I think we have to keep in mind, when I say high value, and I know Rollo likes to do this a lot, and so I'm going to try to play in this realm. I'm not trying to morally load any of these words. A high value man. So this question got asked, right?
You mean just supply and demand?
Yeah. So Epstein was a high value man, but obviously morally a horrible character, right? And there's going to be a lot of high value people that have a lot of value in society in terms of how much resource they can demand, right? Or Genghis Khan or whatever, who are morally deplorable people. And there's going to be a lot of very morally righteous people, virtuous people, who don't really possess a lot of value. Maybe it's a carpenter, or maybe
if
it's
I can intervene real fast. I think one thing that we can all agree to, right, is I agree that it's immoral, right? A guy being high value. So it could be someone
amoral.
Amoral. It could be, someone that's good or bad, but I would say this: respected by peers, has a skill set, he has a network of successful men around him, and we could say $100,000 per year, but let's say if you make $100,000 per year, and let's say like maybe a Kansas living type quality.
Sure. So those are all subjective, but we'd all probably agree in the West. So that'll get you to probably.
So I would say we'd agree on the that comes closer.
Yeah, sure.
The problem is that that's only half the picture. Talking about external things, right? But you can still have all those things. You can have a good network. You can be rich and still be a massive fucking beta loser, right? So they don't talk about the inner qualities, which are just as important. It's not all inner, right? But confidence, charisma, right? Game, social skills, social intuition, right? Those are also parts of being a high value man. Again, like just being a rich loser, it's not necessarily going to make you a high value man. I mean, it's by external factors, sure. The red pillars always ignore the internal factors, which I think are just as, if not more than important.
We agree on the vector.
And you seem to be agreeing with Myron now, but you also said last time that Elon Musk is not a high value man.
From a particular context, no, he's not.
From what context?
Well, from the context that he is not married. Is a high value man married?
That has nothing to do with being married or not.
Well, it does to the definition that other people.
Do you think other people think that being a high value man would have some correlation to being married and having kids?
I would say
some people would say because the tweet that I made, everybody had a very big problem with not focusing on family creation or not getting married. So is a high value man married?
People saw it as advice.
I think for the purpose of this debate, we want to probably keep it as simple as possible. so that it isn't extremely nuanced definition. I think like if the person is married or not, should it matter? I think it should be on things that we can all mutually agree. Like,
or how about we can agree that a person of high value probably has the ability to get married and have a lot of children, but they might not necessarily.
If they choose not to do so, that's on them. And going back to the morality, I think that's a fantastic point. Even though someone like Epstein is a deplorable individual,
I really wish that either Sneeko or Destiny brought up the inner stuff, but maybe they will later, because I feel like that's such a crucial component of being a high value man.
Well, on paper, he had a network of high net worth people. He had politicians in his pocket. He had quite a bit of money. He had a skill set.
He probably had a vasectomy too.
Yeah, probably.
Shout out to the CIA. Shout out to the CIA.
Right now, I would have so by now.
He did have a skill set, and he earned a good amount of money. So on paper, he's a high value guy. And I think that's something that we can all agree to. So we can. Fair enough. Okay, so we'll go off of respected by peers, has a skill set, network of other successful people around him. Morality doesn't matter, and we could say $100,000, if not more. And when we talk about $100,000, we don't mean $100,000, but we mean
still only
the ability
part of
to
the
live in a
picture.
certain way. Fair?
Cost of living adjustment.
Yeah, cost of living adjustment. Fair enough?
Consistently.
Can I take? Oh, you're probably going to say the same thing I'm going to say.
Go ahead.
Okay, so but he also has to be useful.
Yes.
Correct.
Yes,
Utilities.
yes.
Okay.
So competency. Yeah.
Right. So there's a competency. So is a high value man educated? Like
well, so
formally
competency
educated?
again is going to be valued by society. So, for instance, I can change a light bulb, but I can't like fix a toilet. So my competency in the household is going to be relatively low. But as an entertainer, my competency is very high. That happens to be valued by society right now. In another society, I might be left for dead in the woods. So competencies, and same,
So again,
you can probably find like
who's doing the
exactly. You can find the best hunter possible in sub-Saharan Africa and bring to the United States, and he's not going to do shit.
Yeah.
Right?
I don't think education has to be a component. I think if they're like a doctor,
education could be a way towards competency. There's lots of different ways you can build competency. Right?
Okay, cool. So is that fair with all you guys?
Yeah, competency.
So one more time. So just to define for the audience here, when we talk about high value guy, we're talking about someone that's respected by the peers, has a skill set, has competence, has a network of other successful men that respect them, and we'll say $100,000 per year, bare minimum, based on living.
I would not have agreed to that definition. I would be like, that's all fine, but what about confidence? What about game? What about charisma? Those are necessary prerequisites of being a high value man.
A certain way, not necessarily $100,000 per se, but $100K per year, just so you guys have a placeholder. Now we go into alpha male. I mean, I don't use this. We don't use this term that often, but I mean, just for the purpose
of use it a lot.
Well, that's why we're talking about high value male, because that's kind of what has replaced alpha male over the years. Like when I first started writing, it was all about alpha. And then like right around 2017, 2018, everybody started using high value.
So you guys want to just use HVM as the same?
Yeah, I'm going to fight. Kevin Samuels made it popular for the most part.
So just HVM.
I'm probably going to fight in particular on alpha male, but that's going to be later because he wants to do the vasectomy talk first. So
okay, but how do you want to define alpha male then? So we have.
I don't know. I'll ask them later because when that's a whole line of questioning.
Okay, and then hypergamy. How do you guys want to define hypergamy?
Let me do one more real quick on the useful side things, because I had a list of other things here. So it was like as far as being useful and educate, I wanted to ask the education question. The other thing is you got to be productive. Obviously, you got to be at least a productive member of society. Would that also be included in the conventional?
It is, but all of these things are proxies for value. So again, I'm very productive, but it's just because people like entertainment. In another society, I would have no production.
And that's where the respect comes in, because your productivity will align to some.
And then the other aspect of this is recognition. So people, when they see you, they understand that you are high value in some way. Like I go,
almost every human is wired for resources.
Exactly, but we're also plugging that person into a hierarchy.
Well, I think it depends on which hierarchy. Like you said before,
exactly.
If he goes to a mechanic shop,
that's why that's the subjective thing that we're.
An extreme example would be like Stephen Hawking, right? Who had motor neuron disorder, was relegated to a wheelchair, but was one of the smartest men who ever lived. That would be an example of someone who's super competent, but in other areas isn't competent. I would consider him a high value man, but you know he couldn't walk. So that's an interesting. That's what the subjectivity of it.
All right, cool. So I guess alpha male will deal for later, and then hypergamy. How do you guys want to define that, just so we understand here? Because I mean, it's an ever-growing term. It used to be the practice of marrying up originally. So how do you guys want to do it?
Okay, so let me just see if I can define terms here. Okay, so the classic understanding, if you go and you look in the dictionary, you go to Wikipedia right now, the classic understanding of hypergamy, to the letter, is it was a term that was used by a sociologist. I want to say it was in the like 1950s, and he was studying the caste system in
India.
In Hindu cultures, and how the tendency for women to marry from a lower caste to a higher caste. That was based primarily on the socioeconomic status of that person and that family and everything else, and that's the original.
All right, let me just quickly answer a question because we're doing this at 1.2 speed, so that even with all the interruptions, we can stay like up to date. Can I give my opinion on who's high value on that panel? So like there's degrees, right? I don't think it's an absolute, right? It's like either you're high value or not. There's degrees of being high value. So I would say that at the very top, I would put probably Michael Sartain, probably close to him and Destiny are kind of at the top of the list, right? Michael Sartain hasn't beat in terms of fitness. He hasn't beat in terms of having a better social circle of women. But I think that Destiny hasn't beat in terms of cloud. So I think those are very much at the top. The layer below that, I'll put someone like Sneeko and probably Myron, right? I would probably put those there. Then Fresh is a layer below that, and the very bottom I'll put Rollo. Or actually, Rollo and Fresh might be in the same similar department, right? Kind of like not really that physically attractive, not really that fit, not really that confident, right? They have a little bit of clout. I mean, obviously Fresh has a lot more clout, right? But again, so I think that's kind of like the tier. So yes, I would say that what's his name? Sartain is a high value man. Now, of course, there's a lot more high value men than him, right? There's levels above that. You know, we can take like Leonardo DiCaprio is like 10 levels above that, but you know, there's everything in between, right? And then of course, like I would say Destiny is also somewhere in there. So he meets the threshold of high value man, but he's not all the way up on the ladder, like at the most, like the pinnacle of high valueness. All right, let's get back into this.
Idea came from. So it's based primarily on sort of like the provisioning, protection, and parental investment. It's dowries, it's marriage, it's the formalization of like a relationship. In the last, I would say, 20 some odd years, we broadened the definition of hypergamy to include the alpha fucks beta buck side of things. Okay, so there is the short-term sexual side of things because women mate up, across, and up, as well as marry across and up. And as far as the definition is concerned, I've been trying to do this myself, right, is to expand the definition. But also people like Jordan Peterson have been using that expanded definition for probably going on another 5 or 6 years right now. So,
Okay. So
that would be my definition of it.
Can I?
Okay. So to boil it down, will we say?
By the way, this is not a law. This is more of a general rule. Generally speaking, women do tend to date across or up. But there's a lot of women also who date down. But those are the exceptions to the rule. So I just want to clarify that. It's not like an absolute thing where pretty much every woman is dating cross or up. Like there is a decent amount of women who are dating down, right? But again, it's more common for a woman to date up or date across because they have the vast majority of the leverage in the dating marketplace. Like that's why also if you're a guy and you have all the leverage in the dating marketplace, you're someone like Dan Bilzerian. Like, do you think you're gonna date someone who's similar looks as you? No, of course you're gonna date up.
The practice of marrying and or dating up when it comes to socioeconomic
attempt.
The attempt.
So this is so I'm going to come from an evolutionary standpoint. There is some algorithm that men, Homo sapien males, have to where they can see a woman and be like, that woman's attractive immediately. It's not something that's taught to them. They know immediately that woman is attractive.
She passes the boner test.
She passes exactly very quickly. There must be some correlating algorithm in a female psychology to determine the men she finds attractive or would consider having sex with and the men she doesn't. Now that is going to be more complicated because for women, there are so many more things. What we talk about in statistics, negative kurtosis, there are so many more things that women are attracted to about men. The book, Why Women Have Sex by David Buss and Sidney Messon lists 237 reasons why women choose to have sex, whereas for men, it's like 4. So because of that algorithm, that complicated evolutionary algorithm is hypergamy. That's what I would consider it. It is the way by which women sift which guy I like from which guy I don't like. It must exist just like it exists in men. So that's the way I would pose it.
All right, would it be fair to say it's sifting up though, right?
Yes,
it's not sifting, just sifting. It's sifting up
because her evolutionary imperative is to find the strongest son that she can. So that strongest son is going to deal with some competency or some physicality that man has that she's choosing him for.
All right. Is that fair for you guys?
I accept the definition. Yeah.
You accept that definition? All right.
I agree.
So a quick little recap. So we went over this, defining the terms. We went over high value men. We say about $100,000 when it comes to cost of living of a certain way, respected by your peers, having a skill set network of successful individuals around you, competence, and it's his amoral. So even someone like Jeff Epstein, even though he's a terrible person, he would be considered a high value man on paper, just so that we have it.
Can you say
defined. Epstein? Whatever. Epstein, doesn't matter. He's one of them boys anyway. He's one of them boys. Who cares?
Listen, he faked his own death. He's fine. Whatever.
And then
we don't know about that.
I'm kidding.
Hypergamy is the attempt,
Allegedly.
The attempt to mate up or sifting up and having filters for men. And then alpha male I guess that's a bridge we'll cross when we get there. So I guess we'll open up the discussion here, guys, with obviously the infamous tweet. Let's pull it up real quick, Chris. We got 28K y'all watching. So
like the video, man. Sub to the channel.
We'll probably have to kill the Facebook and Twitter stream here very soon. But come on over to YouTube, guys.
Doesn't that get you banned off of Twitter for cuck? Or Twitch for cuck?
Yeah, I think so.
We're banned on Twitch anyway.
Yeah. Okay, guys. So this was Rollo's tweet. So I'm going to read it real quick for y'all. The quickest path to becoming a high-value man. Number 1, do not get married. Number 2, avoid family creation. Number 3, vasectomy in your 20s. Number 4, live consistently.
Vasectomy.
Number 5, eliminate all sedations. Number 6, learn game and networking. Number 7, play to your strengths and build wealth. And then number 8, resist easing up on your focus. So I guess I'll turn it to Roll. Do you want to?
Sure. Okay. So I think we have already established the fact that to be a high-value man, we have that sort of a convention, at least somewhat of a conventional definition of that right now. Now, how long would it take the average guy to achieve what we would in some way say this is what makes you a high value guy? It doesn't have to be the $120,000, but like the functional evaluated equivalent of that. I think it takes longer for men
Yeah, for sure.
to get to reach maturity and to reach a point of where they get their maximum, they can maximize their potential.
Well, let's stick to the
So-
science because that's what he wanted. Number one, we had Richard Reeves on, and he talked about boys being 1 or 2 years behind women as far as development is concerned, and also from the book Dataclysm, men reaching their sexual peak around, or attractiveness peak around the age of 38 to 43, somewhere in that area.
Yeah.
So that's science behind what you're saying. It would take longer for men.
So, but my point being is that, and I'll reiterate this one more time. The reason why I put this out there is because I watched you guys with Derek Moneyberg, and I think it was Brandon Carter. Who was on here. And Brandon Carter, I'm really impressed with Brandon Carter. I think but his sort of outlook on life is to maximize.
Rollo goes back to Tomas's man crush on Brandon Carter. Just do count every single time that Rollo talks about Brandon Carter.
His efficiency, his potential. So it's he doesn't go to the grocery store. He doesn't own a car. He doesn't, the things that would take him away from staying on his grind. I mean, to the extreme. Now, this is an extreme that I would not do, clearly, because I have a wife of 27 years. I have a daughter of 25 years. I am who I am. I do what I do. Right? So I have a car. Yeah, actually, I have two cars. I do have a car. So clearly, this is not about me. This is the most over-the-top, absurd, extreme
You
example.
also have a kid. I think that's we all should point
exactly.
that
So
Brandon Carter?
who's Brandon Carter?
The guy you're talking about.
You don't know Brandon
You know
Carter?
Brandon Carter?
Really?
You've been on the show.
Have you not met Brandon Carter?
Oh, he also
Brandon
also has a kid.
Yeah.
Yes, I understand.
Sorry.
But the idea is that the most over the top, like, what are you willing to sacrifice to get to the point so that you can get to that state of being a high value male, right? So, by the way, when I'm putting out the idea of vasectomy, okay, keep it coming because I love that one. But if there was a male birth control pill, I probably would have put that in there as well, because what that one section in there was meant to say is that beware of, like, when the sperm leaves your body, you lose all power over paternity and children and everything else. That's one of the things that really slows guys down. It's a hindrance to becoming to getting up to becoming a high value guy. So family creation. I'm not saying you should do these things, but if you want to get to the quickest way to doing those things, because it takes longer for men to mature into their peak potential, then these are the sacrifices that you're going to have to make to get to it as fast as you possibly can.
I feel like Sneako's probably going to take off from this, because when I came into these spaces, this is kind of a question I had, and I think I fought with Fresh and Fit, I think, a lot on our first couple episodes, trying to figure out, like, what are you guys advocating for? So when I would bring up, like, Andrew Tate tweets and Bugattis and all that shit, a lot of the times these two clowns would tell me, they'd say, oh, this stuff's just a proxy for success. You know, you don't actually need the Bugatti. You need the ability to buy the Bugatti. You don't need to travel the world. You need to have freedom, and all these things. So
lucky we're moderating.
Yeah, so it seems like, it feels like the goal initially wasn't to, like, be the richest motherfucker in the world. The goal was to have the freedom to basically do what you want.
Right.
And then I think the confusing part is, it feels like there's this kind of schism happening right now, or it's already started to happen in the Red Pill community. We've got, like, the kind of trad people that are going in one direction, and then you've got, like, the grind set hustle culture that are going in the other direction. And it feels like the lightning point for this was your tweet, where it was like, okay, we're going to make it clear where we stand. Yeah. Get a fucking vasectomy, fuck family, and do this shit. And I think that it feels like the ultimate red pillar to you guys is what this is feeling I have. The ultimate red pillar is a guy that grinds his fucking life away, and then at 35, he's, like, got fucking 15 million in the bank. He's fucked 50 girls, and now he's looking for, like, the best mom that he can find, who's like 20, 21 years old. He's going to get with that girl, 0, 1 body count at the most, maybe 1, 0 at the best, right? Virgin girl gets with her, has a family, and then boom, that's like his life. Whereas it feels like on the kind of traditional side, it's like, well, what if you were like 24 and found a really good woman at 22, and then you had a family at 25, and you followed your career, she stayed at home, took care of the kids, and you followed that more traditional route. And your tweet, I think, really showed the division of people in terms of how they felt about which of the two lifestyles people were actually aiming for.
You got it.
Yeah.
Excellent.
And Sneako can...
Yeah, so what do you believe in? Like, do you think that is the life that you should follow? Because when you go to the Red Pill spaces, that's pretty much the end route, is because you're high value, you got a bunch of Lamborghinis, you're extremely rich. And we talk about competence when it comes to a high value man. Like, I didn't have a rich dad growing up, and that didn't really hinder his competence. And in fact, in a lot of ways, being a father will help you become more competent because other people are dependent and you're responsible for them. So that will make you become a full, capable man, which is, I think, the most important part of life. It's the most important part of life is not having a bunch of hoes, not fucking 50 girls, or getting the most amount of money possible and just hustle, grinding forever. The reason that we are here is to have a family, is to create. And so you see the red pill, and it's a response to feminism. You see this doomer way, like all these girls are hoes, all these girls on Instagram, they're all thoughts, whatever, they all belong to the streets. And so the reaction to that is the red pill, which is basically feminism, just male feminism. It's the same response. We make fun of girls who say that they want to freeze their eggs and wait till they're 35, and then men are giving the same advice to each other, saying, and I know you're not saying that's advice, but pretty much, like, if you look at the definition of advice, that's what that tweet was.
Yeah. So I think there's two things here. We specifically don't run around calling girls 304s, and, like, I actually have a problem with it, because I hear you sometimes talk about the audience there. We have to separate the audience, almost like Christ, Christianity, and the church. We have to separate the audience, because I agree with you. There's some shit that I see that people write on your streams as well, where I'm like, what the fuck is this, man? This is crazy, and I don't want to be associated with it. Red pill is not, and again, I'm red pill adjacent. Red pill is not something I get a union card for that I pay dues for. It's an ethereal thing that just sort of exists. Like he calls it a praxeology. So the idea that like one of the things.
By the way, one interesting thing I just want to quickly point out is Fresh and Fit treats men so differently than women. Like, can you imagine if some chick called them clowns? Oh, they would be like, and like, look, their reaction here was fine. Like, they just laughed it off, right? That's kind of how you handle, someone like giving you a little bit of shit, like at least when it's the first time. But if some chick said that, their reaction would have been totally different. So it's just funny to point that out.
Things that's happened is every time, because he calls himself the godfather of it. When somebody does some stupid shit in the arena, then it's his fault. And then now we're gonna punch his book. Because now the thing is, it's just a cloud. But then there's a book. Okay, now we have a physical thing to attack. And now Rollo has a tweet. Now we have a physical thing to attack. And so that's part of the issue is that like now he's being held accountable for every. And I agree with you. Some of the things you hear are fucking idiotic.
Over the top, yeah.
Right? But here's an example. When we go over the psychological studies that show that men don't have the same, they don't necessarily cheat more because they have more higher body count, but women do. They tend to be unhappy in a relationship. There's the Institute for Family Studies study that we refer to all the time. That's not a validation for cheating. We're not suggesting men cheat. You said that in the response thing that I definitely do not think men should cheat, because in that whole situation you're still lying. That is a lack of integrity regardless. But do men have the ability to have more sexual partners early on in life? I was 20 years old. I'm 45 now. I was 20 years old at once, and there was a point in my life where I was going to UT Austin and I wanted to have sex with attractive women, and I didn't think about anything else except doing that. That's how my brain worked. And later on, did it affect me negatively? I don't think it did. I just don't think it had the same thing. So I don't think it's a rationale for that belief. But the thing is, what happens is anytime something bad happens or somebody says something stupid, it just comes back. It's like, now all red pillars are saying this all the time, and I just don't agree with that.
I understand what you're saying here. So first, let me clarify one thing. So I understand.
Should we define the red pill?
No, I don't think that's going to take a minute.
How long
Next week.
So I think the issue with Rollo's tweet, because for a lot of people it looks like advice, and for Rollo, he feels like it wasn't advice. I think the reality was, the disconnect is that that tweet was advice, but it was for advice to become a certain type of high value man that Rollo isn't saying everybody needs to become.
It said the quickest.
So, the quickest way to get to this part, it was the advice to do that, but he wasn't necessarily advising you to do that, right? It would be like him tweeting out, like, if you want to become the flattest person possible, jump off a cliff. And I say, well, is that advice to jump off a cliff? Well, if you want to be the flattest person possible, but you don't have to do this thing because you don't have to be the flattest person. Yeah, exactly, sure.
Well, and there's a few people who got it almost immediately. Hotep Jesus got it immediately. He did stream it. Jedediah Bila, while you were on with Jedediah, she got it immediately. She's like, I know Rollo. I know he's not like this. I know this is a troll. This is she understood it immediately.
But then I also saw
she's familiar with my background.
I also saw you tweet the next day, like you were kind of making fun of the TradCon way of life, saying that you want to be at your funeral bed with a bunch of kids around.
I was
saying that you'd rather be listening to metal in your car.
I was mocking.
It almost feels like Destiny's going too soft on him. Like he's giving him, I think he's being almost too charitable, but we'll see. Maybe he's setting him up.
Mocking the idea of this sort of pastoral kind of Norman Rockwell fantasy of dying on your bed with, like, as an old man with surrounded by grandchildren and whatever, and like as if that's like my funeral's going to beat your funeral,
right?
As if it's like
heavy metal in a car.
I put it this way: would you rather go out? Would you rather go out in a blaze of glory? Would you rather better to burn out than fade away? What would you rather?
I don't see heavy metal in your car as a blaze of glory. That seems.
Okay,
but
here's the thing: is it's over the top because I'm drawing attention to this fantasy of staying in your bed in an assisted living.
He said that he would go hard.
90% of people are never going to experience that, but it's a fantasy that we sell people so that we can sell them other ideologies.
I want to consider one other thing. You remember what he said earlier? He's like, one of the things you said was avoid family creation. And I read in that same tweet, what I would have said instead was, be the one who chooses when and where you have kids, and don't let
control the birth. Wow, imagine that.
Well, I understand. Yeah, so I understand.
The extreme example of that is a vasectomy. I would not have said vasectomy, but guess what? My tweet would not have gone viral. I wish I could say vasectomy on Twitter all day and go fucking viral.
That's the only thing they focus on.
So I understand what you're saying. That so I would argue that you do pay dues to some extent to certain groups that you're a part of. So this is something that I noticed being relatively outside of groups myself. I kind of watch how people move through groups, and it seems like there very much is a kind of there are a lot of groups that exist in these internet communities, and you get benefits for being part of the group because you kind of inherit audiences and cross-pollination from other people. And then there are sometimes shitty parts of being in the group. So for instance, if somebody says or does something crazy, well, now you're kind of on the hook for it because this motherfucker in your union just said some wild shit, and now you kind of have to go to bat for him. I think that something that I wholeheartedly disagree with is this idea that you can say, like, well, everybody in my comment section might say this, but I didn't say that, or I'm just making descriptions. Humans never just make descriptions. We never just observe things. The process of choosing to observe something already requires a decision to be made, right? When you go into a laboratory to study medicine, we're not just plugging random chemicals and random elements into a formula and see what happens. We're doing something to try to figure out, like, well, what is going to help make humans healthier? What's going to be a good medication for treating a disease or whatever? That's typically what we do. So when we're analyzing, like, the red pill, it's not just a praxeology, I think you called it, because even I think in your first book, you say, like, the goal is to make it so that your wife is not fucking the alpha, right? The reason why we observe things is so that we can take something useful from it and then go and do something with it. If I had an audience and I was making certain observations, and this has happened a lot, where I fight with a lot of black people.
Why would you not just want to be the alpha so she doesn't need to like thirst for some alpha. Like I don't understand.
Well, I notice my audience is getting a little bit racist. I fight with a lot of white people. I notice my audience is also getting a little racist. I fight with a bunch of women. They're starting to hate women, right? I notice that like if I do certain things, my audience definitely responds in certain ways, and you guys as well.
But you're not racist.
But it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, I think what matters is the impact you have on other people around you. Like if I go every day and I see my wife and I'm like, hey, what's up? And it's not at the end of like 6 months, she's like, you haven't told me that you think I'm pretty like a single time.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking like, okay, well, obviously I think you're pretty. You're my fucking wife. She's like, well, I need to hear it. I can't just say like, well, listen here, you stupid bitch. Obviously I think you're pretty. I don't have to say shit to you, motherfucker. Right? I was like, okay, I have to understand how you feel. I got to tell you that I think you're beautiful. Blah blah blah. I have to do that every day because that's part of like what really matters at the end of the day is the impact you have on another person.
Should you be held accountable for the racist comments in your from your streamers?
Like directly, like you said them, no. But if you're fostering a certain type of audience, I think as leaders, which we're not going to believe it to some extent we are, that's how we're treated, right? We're paid. When somebody gives you, like, we'll say on one end, well, I don't influence my audience, and then in the next breath, somebody will be like, I'll give you X $1,000 to promote a product. Why are you promoting a product? Because if I tell you to buy it, I know you will. Yeah. Right. So obviously we have influence over our audience, and if our audience is all heading in a certain direction, I think it's important to be like, hold on.
Oh, I see what he's doing here. Okay, he's playing the long game. He's kind of setting him up. And then once Rollo agrees to this, he's going to be like, well, then you're responsible for the effect you're having, right? So basically he's doing this so Rollo can't weasel out and say, oh, I was just really saying hypothetical advice. Hypothetically speaking, you should get a vasectomy, right? So, okay, I see what he's doing now.
Guys, I see you guys are saying a lot of this shit. Maybe we need to pull it back. So when you say things about like avoiding family creation, you know, you might say like, well, I don't actually mean to avoid it. I just mean to choose when you have children. Yeah. That might be the case, but broadly in the red pill speaking, I've seen this huge push where it's like, never fucking have kids, never get married, women are trying to steal your shit, child support, alimony, women are coming after you. And it's like, okay, well, combine that with the vasectomy advice or the, you know, control your birthing advice, and it makes the relationship seem very adversarial, like you are trying to avoid having kids at all costs. That's what it feels like, I guess, from the outset. And I think that's what a lot of the followers of red pill people and comment sections, I think that's the message they would carry forward.
I think the issue is then who's responsible? Because one of the issues, one thing we tried, Rollo and I tried, is our show, we try to have girls on there who have master's degrees. We try to have girls on there who do all.
I like Michael Sartain, but I wish he wasn't there because I feel like Rollo was just going to let Michael do most of the talking because Michael is like smarter and more articulate. So no disrespect to Michael, but I really wish he wasn't there because it would be way more interesting to watch Rollo like hang himself.
All different kinds of jobs. And when we do, we get the exact same response. Yeah. When we had Miss Nevada on there, Miss Nevada, and they were like, yeah, she's a ran through fucking hoe. And I was like, what the fuck can we do?
We have women on there with masters.
What can we fucking do? And so the thing is, while I agree with you, no matter what we do, this audience still exists and they still talk about it.
But why do they think that? Why do they think that about these people?
The thing is,
because they want something to complain about. They want something to bitch and moan about.
Yeah, but they could complain about anything, right? They're choosing to complain about these particular subjects,
I also don't think commenters are the normal in the middle of the distribution. I think commenters are on the extreme ends of the distribution, which is why I personally don't feel super responsible for some of the idiotic things that they say. So I do understand what you're saying. Are we fostering an echo chamber? We specifically aren't. Well, like our
people think we're soft on the girls because we don't. Think we are so soft on the girls. We're not like in their face too much because they're looking for blood. They're looking for something that's exhilarating. They're looking for Jerry Springer, you know.
But how many people do you think saw that tweet and whether or not you call it advice, saw that and are now going to apply it? Especially because we talk about how important it is as leaders. You call yourself the godfather of the red pill. Like you kind of own this ideology and it's like you are the forefront of it. So is tweeting that a good idea?
I think I put first off, it was meant to provoke. That's number one. And it did. I got Matt Walsh. I got Ben Shapiro. I got Lauren Shannon. we wouldn't even be talking about this right now.
This is such a little Weasley frame control. He's saying, I meant to create a stir. I meant to get, people to negatively react to that, right? I don't buy that for one fucking second.
I don't have any of those people retweeting my shit. That's the only thing I'm saying. Like I retweeted vasectomy 5 times on Twitter.
And we're still talking about it 2 weeks later. It was success. It was a
Can we add in what Twitter's used for, by the way? And you yourself said so as well. You want to go viral, you got to say the most outlandish things. So Twitter,
I would say,
but if that was really the only reason that you did, then you wouldn't have gotten that debate and got so emotional about everything that happened.
Yeah, there we go. Fucking
idiots. You called us douche now. So if it was just in order to,
because you weren't getting it, that's why.
Well, then you would have been rubbing your hands and be like, okay, I got the reaction I wanted. Here they are talking about it. Ben Shapiro, all these people are talking about it. I got what I wanted.
But base, Nico, base. That's exactly what I would have said. It seems like Nico is actually the one that's kind of bringing the heat, so as to speak to this debate.
To be fair, he did a reaction video where he said he was married for 50 years. I'm a cokehead, and Justin Waller pays for prostitutes.
Damn.
So that to be fair, there was a little ad hominem attack on us. You weren't part of it, but that's probably where some of this came from.
I would have taken that if I were you.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Yeah, because you would be here for it. You're fucking 2 hours late, Fred. Shut the fuck up.
I've never.
I'll do the moderator.
Thanks, moderator.
So going back, because so Sneeko, you have some traditional conservative beliefs, so you disagree with the whole vasectomy part. What is the main, I guess, issue with it? Is it because of the lack of family creation? You think that's going to lead to degeneracy?
So I think the two branching paths that I set up,
So
like, what are you guys advocating for? Like, do you think if a guy could do it, if a guy could be 25 at the head of his career, starting right there, about to go down his life, but also pair with a really good woman who he could have kids with, and then by the time he's in his 30s, he's already got like 7, 8, 9-year-old, a couple children with a good wife. Is that something you guys would push for, or do you think that men should stay as far the fuck away from that as possible and wait till they hit those prime years of being like 35?
So the answer would be somewhere in the middle. I think it's how over time, because I think social media has ruined things so much. If you know the whole thing where we talk about 33% of men having 0 sexual partners, that hockey stick starts at the advent of the Facebook app on the iPhone in 2008. You can see it just shoot right up to where it was 12% of men or 16% of men with 0 sexual partners, and it got up to 33. So the thing is, what's happened now is, I would say it's statistically less viable, not unviable, but less viable for the 24-year-old to marry the 21-year-old and feel good about it, because by the time she's 31 and he's 30, or she's 31 and he's 34, 35, the dynamics of his relationship are going to change. He's going to make more money. He's going to see the world differently. Now, I'm not advocating he leave his wife, but now those pressures existed where they didn't exist before 2008.
Sure. So so I would push back against this strongly. So here's something that I've noticed, okay? People ask me, so I talk to a lot of women, I do my thing or whatever. When people ask me, like, what do you think is the best advice for, like, learning game, okay? Honest to God, the best advice is when you're, like, 12 to 18, having friends that are girls. Talking to women, not being nervous around them, dating in high school.
You're not going to get any argument from this guy.
Okay, yeah, I don't know if you believe that or not. But honestly, that's the best time to do it. The second best time is now, right? But if you're not starting early and you're 25, and you've never even been shot down by a girl before, that's literally the scary. You could get a guy to climb the Empire State Building before asking a girl out.
So immersion from women, being around women.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. In those warm spaces where dating and everything is possible, right? But the issue is when we push on this grind set shit so hard, and now you're getting a guy that's like 32, and he goes out on a date with a girl, and he wants to talk about like white papers for crypto coins. How the fuck is this guy going to be in a spot in his life where he's ready to like find a woman, settle down with a family? Like, how does he turn that on instantly?
The grind set guy doesn't mean you don't talk to women ever. It just means you're not looking to get married.
Well, one of those pieces of advice, like eliminate all sedations or whatever.
So what that means is like eliminate pornography, eliminate alcohol, eliminate prescription, opioids, whatever.
How do feminist women not fall under the category of sedations?
Feminist women.
Yeah. How do hoes, for example, if you're talking about porn as a sedation, drugs and everything like that, can't you group hoes directly into the category of sedation?
You mean loose women or feminist women? Is that what you're saying?
Exactly, because you're not looking for anything further than that. It's just a way to get some dopamine release and just have a little bit of fun. It's pretty much equivalent to playing a video game or watching porn. It's not anything, like maybe you learn a little bit about hoes, but you're not going to get anything out of it.
I would say the difference is that it is far more difficult for guys to use that as a sedation than it is to, say, play World of Warcraft all day long, or it's to
That's true.
I don't know, man. I'd push back on that too. I think we all know guys. I think we all know guys.
You're in the gamer set. I got it.
Well, no. I'm saying I think for the girl set, I think we all know guys that have thrown their life away doing dumb girl shit. Whether you end up knocking somebody up, whether you get a crazy
half the reason shows like this exist is because guys aren't fucking getting laid. That's why. So
yeah, but I think Sneeko brings up a really good point that when you say eliminate,
I think it's less of a I don't know, less significant than, say, some other forms of sedation. So when I'm talking about sedation in the tweet itself, people I've said this a million times, is like, if you want to actually get up and actually become something and be something better, this is like where I finally get into like something like a positivity hustle, right? It doesn't matter if you learn all this stuff, you read all my books, you do all this shit. None of it matters if you can't get your ass out of bed. If your shitty real life is worse than your online escape life, that's what I'm talking about. That's the sedation right there. So could it be that you're a sex
Rollo, but that's you. It seems like your real life is worse than your fucking online life.
Addict? Yeah, it can, but I would say those guys are probably far less common than the guys who are smoking weed, prescription drugs, pornography.
I would argue that it's actually a worse sedation just based on the fact that you're saying get a vasectomy, because the consequences are much worse than any of the other sedations.
You're talking about sleeping around with a lot of women.
I mean, the consequences are much worse, obviously, because you're advocating for getting a vasectomy, because you could have a kid with this girl. Right. It's way more expensive. It's a bigger
Well, again, that's not necessarily true. If you just wear a condom, then there are no consequences, okay? Like, I don't know why they say this as if like condoms are like something that's super rare and uncommon. Like, there's no consequences as long as you're wearing condoms.
You're going to be drinking. You're going to be in environments that aren't going to be uplifting you whatsoever. You're in clubs all the time. You're around women that you don't really like. You get angry because you have to deal with, like, Myron always jokes about how he's going bald doing the show all the time because these women will suck away your soul. And really, what's the outcome of it? A nut? Is that really, like, how many times did you go and fuck a girl and you're like, that was really worth the last 2 weeks of my time of texting back and forth, taking her out on dates, spending all this money, getting dressed, listening to her stupid conversation about astrology? Like, is that really something worth advocating for?
But you don't need to do any of that to get laid. You can just go on Tinder and invite a girl straight to your place with ZTF, or you can do cold approach and, you know, skip girls until you find one who's looking for the same thing as you and who's cool. So it's like a little bit of a straw man of what pickup is. I mean, there's elements of truth to it. Sometimes you do have to go through some BS, of course, but it's not all that.
How is that a better sedation than weed, than porn, than video games?
I'm the wrong person to ask. I love women. I love fucking hanging out with them. I don't have the same opinion or whatever.
I mean, I love alcohol, but I quit. Like, there's a lot of things.
I've never drank before. That's the other thing. I've never tried Coke, by the way. That's the other thing. So I'm with you.
You're missing out, okay?
Yeah.
But that's the thing. Like, sedations are great. I've done all the sedations.
Yeah.
I used to watch porn.
But here's the thing. Some people could say the gym is a sedation. The thing is, if you were going to rank the sedations, I would rather say a guy going out there and getting himself in shape, learning how to dress, learning how to talk to women, putting some bass in his voice, and actually going out socializing with other people, getting over his fear of approaching women is a healthier sedation to me than pornography.
I would 100% agree with that. In fact, I wouldn't even consider pickup a sedation. I think that it creates a lot of positive things for you. It develops your social skills, your social intuition, your confidence, your charisma. These are all transferable to other areas of your life. You know, sometimes you meet someone, you have networking opportunities. So, yeah, I would do not consider approaching girls a sedation. So I'm way more with Michael Sartain on this one.
That's just if we're going to rank sedations.
Well, and then I was going to say, like, other people are more addicted to a certain sedation than others are. If that is significant in your life and you're like, hey, you know what? I'm a sex addict. All I'm doing is going out and picking up random hoes all the time. And I've finally got it down to a science and it becomes a problem. It's like affecting other aspects of your life. Then yeah, I would say that that's a sedation that you need to like find because it's an escape. I think sedations tend to be escapisms is what I'm saying.
I think the contradiction that Nick was pointing out is that like you're by definition, you're removing from the table all the women you would want to court for marriage because you're avoiding family creation.
Nobody courts them anymore.
Well, when I say court, I mean like you're dating to get like married, right? So you're removing all those girls. So the only ones left are the 304s necessarily if you're trying to focus on the grind set, but then also have fun with girls on the side. So then at that point, it seems like you're engaging in women the same way somebody would engage with like weed or whatever. You're not doing it for like
you can date a woman you want to have kids with and not have kids with her. Like eventually have kids.
I mean,
at some point you will have
so
kids.
then the vasectomy thing doesn't make any sense.
And also, it would depend on the age.
I don't really know why they're going down this path. Maybe because they agreed they were going to talk about vasectomy first. I would reframe. I'd be like, Rollo, how is your advice helping guys meet women? You said that there's a lot of guys who are not getting laid. That's true. How are your prescriptions helping anyone? That's kind of the avenue I would take.
Because I think it was hyperbole. What he's saying.
I think if like you're both in your early 20s and you're like, I don't think I want to have kids till I'm 35. That's a tough sell for a lot of women.
Unless you date someone who's younger.
Sneeko, if there was a male form of birth control like Vasogel or something like that, and instead of saying vasectomy, and I said do this and take this, and it's not a permanent thing, you can always go back off.
No, because I think that's what we should be fighting when it comes to red pill and tradcon. It's like it's a similar common enemy that's trying to sedate us in a way. Birth control for women, it messes up their hormones, it makes them extremely argumentative. They get weird, they get on different cycles. I don't advocate you to take these pills. I tell people all the time not to get the injection. Like, why would you go and listen to these pharmaceutical companies? Why would you let them win and go play into these games and pretty much just chase dopamine? Then you're becoming a rat for these big companies.
Just a random side tangent. That's not like even necessarily true. For some girls, yes, birth control does fuck them up. But for example, my girlfriend Natty, she did the injection birth control, and for her, she said that number one, her periods are way less painful if she ever gets them. Number two, it completely cleared up all her acne, right? She used to have a little bit of an issue with acne, and her skin is a lot better now. So for a lot of girls, it actually helps them, right? Like, so yeah, I mean, just depends. Like, there's some forms of birth control which are a lot better than worse than others. Like the pills are probably the worst, and then the injections are a little bit better. And then I think the one where they put in your vagina is even better or whatever. So yeah, so it's not like all of them are hurting girls. Like a lot of girls report getting benefits from some of these birth control, especially when it's not the pill. So again, just a little random side note, but Sneeko is not correct about this.
For big pharma, when you could just like actually have that's the point. That's the reason that sex exists, is to have children. Then you're completely removing the purpose of it, and then you're just chasing dopamine.
Can I chime in and just add something here real quick?
Moderator. Yes, moderator.
Plan B.
What's up, moderator?
Just 2 words. Plan B.
Here's the thing. I will, while I agree with you now today at 45, I will tell you, like, I wasn't a whore because nobody fucking liked me. But at 25, I wanted to have sex with pretty girls. That's what I did. And I don't feel like it ruined me. That's the only thing.
Well, why? Yeah. Like every day, but there's better things to do with your time and with that sexual energy. You can focus that into becoming better.
Do you not think at all, though?
Yeah, I'm just agreeing way more with Michael Sartain right now because, like, who are you to make that judgment call? Like, why is making money better than meeting girls? What makes them? It really comes down to what is going to give you short-term and long-term fulfillment. if you're not just gonna get long-term fulfillment from just going to the gym and making money. Or I mean, you could to some extent, but it's not gonna completely fulfill you. I think socializing and having women in your life is essentially important, whether you want that to be a bunch of chicks you fuck or a serious relationship. So he's making a judgment call based on his values, but that doesn't apply to other people. Like for me, I think if I have to pick between money and girls, I think I would pick girls. I would rather, if my choice is being some like rich fucking incel or some like, I don't know, average income guy who gets with a lot of girls or has a good relationship, I'd rather do the latter.
That period of time helped you understand women better?
I'm 24. I'm still
learning
now. Yeah.
Yeah. So I will tell you at 45, and I used to work in nightlife, and I used to be a military officer, a bunch of different jobs. And I will tell you that like the value that I gained from having so many women in my life, not necessarily just for sex, but my ability to communicate with them now is 100. Like I do the red carpets for all these different parties, and I bring 100 girls to Bulgarian's house. Like that's what I do now because I'm good at doing that now. I look back at that and I say that was a good experience for me. I didn't necessarily have to have sex with all of them, but I do understand what you're saying. The problem is where I differ from you and maybe from Iron is like I don't hate being around them. I actually fucking really like being around some of them. They're fun, they're crazy, and they're just fun to be around. I just don't want to marry them. You understand what I'm saying? That's the difference for me. It's like Juicy J says, I still love these hoes. They're for everybody, but I love them anyway. That's the way I look at it. I mean, maybe it's just a little different.
Yeah, you see them purely as entertainment, but I think it's better to see.
But I don't hate them either. You understand what I'm saying?
But you're not really. It's better to see them as people.
That's how I see them exactly.
You're seeing them as entertainment.
Well, no, I think the difference he's trying to point out is that you made it sound like because you said like 2 weeks of texting this bitch to get to the payoff of sex. He sounds like he enjoys the text.
Yeah, Michael Sartain is rooting the humiliation for Rollo by being way too reasonable and normal. This is the issue. I knew Michael Sartain was just going to counterbalance all of Rollo's cringe with his like fucking normal takes. It's a problem.
I fucking loved all
of it. Which I do too, right? It's fun to like
I was in a stage of abundance, and also my lifestyle is a little different. It's big parties that we go to, huge events,
which is just a bigger, grander sedation. That's no different than really watching
video games. Like I've met some incredible.
I should call Michael right now, like from a fake number, and be like, Michael, terrorists are holding your family hostage. You have to go, man. Just get them off the show.
He's sitting here right now. Had I not done that, it was Andrew Tate who reached out to me, introduced me to Justin Waller, who introduced me to him, and that's how I introduced Myron. So I don't see it that way. I see it as a goal. It ends to a means. And also the other thing is, and dude, Walt will tell you this too. Having beautiful women around you is one of the most incredible networking techniques that exists. There's an incredible book by Professor Ashley Mears at Boston University, where she talks about the guys who go to the Hamptons, and the ticket to get into every party at every Hamptons house with all the billionaires was to have girls.
Right.
So that's why
that's going to lead you to a fun life.
Yeah.
But I was talking to Adam 22 recently, and he has his own porn thing too. I don't know if he's
Plug Talk.
Yeah, he has Plug Talk and everything like that. I was recently talking to him because he's been posting a lot of pictures of his daughter and stuff like that, and I always like react to them like that's dope. Like he clearly cares about being a good father. And I had this conversation with him, and he said that after being with 400 women doing all the show, like I asked him like, was it really worth it all? But he's like, there's nothing better than having kids. Yeah. And even that's coming from a guy who's clearly been a sex addict, who did all this stuff. He went on my stream and he was talking about all these crazy threesomes, and he's like very public about all this stuff. And he's saying there's nothing better than having a family and having a kid. Even this guy that's like stuck with all the girls, like
but he still has threesomes. Like that's the thing; they're not mutually exclusive. Adam still, has threesomes with his wife and random chicks and porn girls, right? So he clearly didn't pick the daughter above everything else. He just does both things.
But in the chat, you watch like the top porn stars. Yeah. He's been with them. And that does not compare to having a family. So yes, okay, Dan was
Does he regret it? Does he regret it?
Yeah, because one thing could be better than something else, but it's still really fun, right?
It's not about, it's about advocating what's best for the young male audience and for the future generation. So is it better to advocate towards vasectomy so you can go to Dan Bilzerian parties, or better to advocate like become competent men, raise a good family, have strong children, and then your life is going to be, that's the best life.
I think it's a great life. I don't know if it's the only good life. I think there's a lot of people who just don't want to have children. I think we've seen it all the time, and they're happy. The thing is, if I were to look at it from the book of Leviticus or the book of Genesis, or if I were to look at it from the Quran, you're right. That's not a great life. But I think for other people, they can enjoy life without.
The only people that don't want to have kids have been psyops by the bigger agenda to believe that climate change.
Damn, this is turning into a Sneeko versus Michael Sartain debate on values. And what I really wanted to see was Destiny fucking annihilate Rollo on his hypocrisy. If that doesn't happen, I'd be highly displeased.
And all these other external factors, that's the reason they don't want to have kids. It's all a lie. That's the reason we're here, is to procreate. That's all animals. You're like an evolutionary.
Let me ask you this. Let's take it to the next level. Let's say you're married, okay? You found the one. You're with your girl, right? Is having sex with her without procreation, is that also an escape? Is that now a sedation? If you're not doing it to specifically have children, is it then a drug addiction?
Right, but then it becomes a unity between a mother and a father.
So how is that not an escape, though?
Because it's still always
you're enjoying it, though, and it's not procreation.
Right, but there's always the risk of procreation. Like that's the point that you do it. There's always the possibility.
Would you use birth control with your wife if you didn't want to have kids?
No, I would never get my wife on birth control. Absolutely not.
No,
I think
condom. He's including condoms.
Yourself,
any kind of birth,
any kind, Vasogel, condom, whatever, any kind of.
Sure, it is a form of escapism to some extent, but it's better than spending your time with a bunch of women that you don't respect or like, or even consider as really people.
Okay,
just
so,
as like
I'm not trying to put you on the spot because I hear this quite a bit these days. Is like the most extreme end? I'm not saying like Islam, but like a lot.
I sort of forgot how cringe the track con shit is. I thought like for a second that Sneeko was like came out on top and became like actually pretty reasonable base, but yeah, the track con shit is like super cringe.
A lot of these really super orthodox Christian guys will say that any sex that is not for procreation is a drug addict. It's drug addiction, or it's haram. Right? Anytime you're doing something to feel good, it's a dopamine release. Any kind of is any dopamine good?
I think between a husband and wife, then it's not just dopamine. It's something that you're connecting and you're establishing a relationship that's bigger. If you just do it with these hoes, like you know that it's a one-time thing, you're thinking this dumb hoe, and then you're just gonna kick her out. Like you're already thinking about
it. We're talking about sedation at this point, so
yeah, but that's a sedation. That's a different level. Like that's not a waste of time sedation. You're bonding with the partner. There's something that you're gonna create a future with this person. You're gonna see her the next day.
Maybe another way to say it is you're of one flesh now, like what it says in the Bible. And
I agree with the comment someone wrote. This should have been just Rollo, Destiny, and Myron. Sneeko, Michael Sartain, well, Fresh hasn't said a word in like half an hour, are just kind of detracting from the main argument. And again, nothing against Sartain. I think he's one of the more reasonable people on this table, in addition to Destiny. It's just that I feel like he's able to counterbalance a lot of Rollo's cringe.
Sneako's point here, and I understand what he's saying. I think one of the problems that we've run into in society, and I think even Red Pill hits on this a little bit, is we become a society that has like taken every pleasure and reduced it down to its instantaneous like click button to get it, basically, right? So instead of reading a book, we browse TikTok. Instead of going to the theater and actually watching a movie, we're at home with a movie playing, Subway servers in the background, and like a game going at the same time, right? We have no ability to have attention or focus on anything. We've taken all of our pleasure centers and we've short-circuited them into the most immediate gratifying way possible. Now, that doesn't mean that all of those pleasure centers are necessarily bad. And I think from a religious perspective, when you look at how society is structured, ultimately society is kind of stemming from the structure of mother, father, children. And anything that's done in service of the maintenance of that structure is necessarily a good thing. So when you like ask Sneeko, like, well, is it sedation to fuck your wife? Well, no, because sex there, even though that's the same kind of, it's the same act as having sex with a stranger, that's being done in service of unifying and strengthening the bond between father and mother that's ultimately serving as the foundation for all of society. Much the same way that nobody's going to give me props if I go to the park and play with random kids. But if I go to the park and play with my son, people are like, oh, well, that's a really good thing to do.
Random kids, you might go to jail.
Yeah, exactly, right? Yeah, but you're still like, you're either playing with kids or you're playing with your son, right? But it's important to do with your family because you're doing it in service of that bond of like father-son and building the family. Same thing with sex between a mother and father. Sex between a mother and father is not the same thing as random sex because that's being done in service of fortifying this institution that ultimately all of society is built upon.
Yeah,
so I think that's the difference.
The Red Pill advice is 50 women. So the whole purpose is just to get
I think it's Myron's specific advice.
Okay, but like one of the forefronts of the Red Pill, just get this done. It's like getting a notch on your belt. You're going through the motion specifically. It's like doing reps, and you're treating a person like you're just getting reps done.
Yeah,
that's not that is dopamine release in its purest form. You're not trying to establish anything. The whole point is to never see her.
Myron, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I think Myron's not saying that for dopamine release. He's saying that for experience, so that you don't get used by women. I think one of the things, the whole point.
Well, that's how I'm equating that sex to being a waste of time.
I think if you gain some experience, and you had made the point before, it's like, oh, is this you're going to fuck this girl and be able to tell if she's a good mom? No, but what you're going to be able to do is see the red flags before they come. You go on a date with a girl you find really attractive and she will not shut up about her ex. That's probably a good red flag. But after you've done this a few times, it doesn't have to be 50 times, but after you've done this a few times, you start to see these red flags before they occur, and you're smarter, and you can help your friends out with those things.
Sartain is making really good points. I can't disagree with anything he said. So far, I probably agreed with him more than anyone else. Destiny would be like a close second right up there. But like, he's making good points. I mean, this is all true.
The only reason why I would say that.
A little bit, although I would fight on some of that advice because like you can, and like you said something earlier about how the casual dating and shit that you did in your early years probably helped you with dating later on. Yeah. It sounds like, based on what I hear you say, that's probably true for you. But I think we could both agree there are ways that you can do it that wouldn't help you at all, right? If you go onto Tinder, you find a girl, you dinner, fuck her, never talk to her again, you could do that 50 times and arguably have less experience than a guy that's dated one woman for 7 years, right? Just because you've never even learned.
There's different kinds of experience, but in terms of like boosting your confidence, your charisma, your ability to pick up on social cues, social intuition, social skills in general, like it is going to help you, like any kind of experience with women. Some types of experience are much more meaningful than others, like doing a cold approach where you have to do that is going to give you a lot more like value from a learning perspective than just getting some chick from Tinder to come straight over and you fuck her within 5 minutes. But you're still going to learn things from that, right? You're still going to learn about texting. You're still going to learn about how to fuck a girl well. You're still going to know what to do after sex, right? So there's lessons in all of that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So like fucking 50 women could give you a lot of insight potentially into the female psyche, I guess, if you actually spend any time with them and date them. But if it's literally just one night stand, like I don't know if you really learned anything, right?
Well, see, here's the thing though. The average North American male has had seven sexual partners, 6 sexual partners.
7 to 9. Yeah.
So, I disagree with Destiny on this. I think you're going to still learn something even from just having one night stands. I mean, again, you don't have to do 100 of them, right? But a few of them, you're still going to learn some things. At the very least, you're going to learn how to be better in bed, which is important.
For him to say 50, I think that sort of is going to include that necessary experience, right? And we can debate on how worthy that experience is. I will tell you, at 45, I've learned a lot about women from being around women, not necessarily just having sex with them.
I want to address like your point as well, because I hear what you're saying, because a lot of people will take the quote unquote red pill to its most logical extreme, right? So just fuck a bunch of girls. That's all it's about, right? When my very first book, there's 6 chapters in there. It's called Plate Theory. Okay, each one of those, like when we're spinning plates, it's like you're dating non-exclusively. And if you read those rather than just listen to what's going on online, you'll notice that the last chapter in there is transitioning out of the plate spinning, the dating non-exclusively, into something that is more monogamous at that point. But that gets thrown to the wayside because nobody reads it anymore, obviously. But the fact of the matter is I think that with this, another thing that comes back on me is people say, well, Rollo just says fuck anything on 2 legs. That's not what I'm saying at all. In fact, in the book itself, I say, you know what? Just because you're spinning plates doesn't mean you're fucking every single one of those plates. There are possibilities. They're probably, for some of them, maybe you are. For some of them, maybe you're not. But you're dating non-exclusively. And so the idea behind that is not to get your notch count up or not to validate your ego for whatever reason. It's so that you understand so you know what you want in a woman, and so you know what you don't want in a woman. Whether you fuck that woman in the first place is irrelevant. Some guys are going to do that, obviously. But I think the idea, and I've been struggling with this since the very early days when I was a moderator on the SoSwap boards, is that I think a lot of people think that it's conditioning guys or it's teaching guys to be like jerks, to be like womanizing sons of bitches. And I would say that most guys who come into the red pill are not looking to be like players. They're not looking to be guys who want to go and just like bang as many women
just
as
the
they
majority of the
possibly
commenters.
Maybe that's true. But the fact is that most of the guys, at least in my experience from working with these guys in the last 20 years, they want one chick. They want to actually kiss a girl. They're like 24, 25, in some cases 30 years old, and they've never gotten anywhere.
My breakdown will be this: from all the coaching clients I have and whatnot, about like 25% of people that come to me just want to have a lot of casual sex. About 25% want to get into like a serious monogamous relationship. But the majority, like 50%, they want something in between. They want to have like a few fuck buddies or maybe one fuck buddy. So they want something that's more than a one-night stand, more than casual, but not like a full serious monogamous relationship. Or maybe a one-way open relationship or something like that. I'm not saying that that's less serious, but they want something in between monogamy and casual.
They've never had any intimacy, never had any kind of affection. And I'm not like, sex is even out of the question. Just to have a girlfriend is why they're like, what they have been doing up to this point hasn't been working for them. So that's why they come in and they find this. Are there guys who can use the red pill so that they can go and spin plates and they can get a rotation? Absolutely. Are there guys who can use the red pill to find a wife? Absolutely. That's the beauty of the red pill. It's like I said before, it's like fire. You can use it to cook your food, and you can use it to heat your home, or you can use it to set your house on fire and set your neighbor's house on fire. It just depends on the application.
But you're acting like it's
Rollo, there's nothing you say that's going to help you fuck a bunch of chicks, because you don't really teach game. You give like red pill theories, and you give like, like very vague theoretic stuff like, like, oh, do this to be a high value man or whatever, right? But he doesn't teach like practical like game that you can adopt, at least not from what I've seen. So there's nothing about what Rollo, it may help you avoid the wrong kind of girl. I will acknowledge that, but it's not going to help you become a better player or fuck a bunch of chicks.
This really deep philosophy or praxis out. Like,
again, what I wish Destiny or Sneaker would do here would be like, okay, Rollo, what specifically do you teach that helps guys fuck a lot of girls? Tell me one specific thing. Right? I feel like I really wish they press them on this point.
That complicated? Like, what if you could just describe
yes,
it?
Absolutely, is that complicated?
How is it that complicated?
Or even on the back of that, how does it work then that you guys? I'm grouping all of you together. Maybe it's just Myron.
I'm moderating.
Yeah, because it seems like then, because I would personally, I feel like I would consider the ultimate success red pill story then would be somebody like Ben Shapiro. But it feels like you guys really disagree. So how do you reconcile those two things? Because he's somebody who found a wife early on, got married, has a business, has a family, seems like he's doing everything right, unless we really are saying, but he didn't fuck enough women. So how do you reconcile
No. So if it works out for him, so it's like this, what was it, Rich Cooper, who says, hey, don't ever date a single mother, right? If someone comes up to Rich Cooper and is like, hey, listen, I know what your advice was, but I just want to let you know, I'm dating a single mom, and it's worked out.
Which is ironic, because Rich Cooper has a history of dating single mothers.
I mean, we've been together for 10 years. Rich Cooper's not going to go, fuck you, stupid motherfucker. Why didn't you listen to me? He's going to go, hey, congrats, man. It worked out for you. That's how I would look at Ben Shapiro. Marrying the first woman you had sex with is not unviable, but it's out there 2 standard deviations away from the norm today. Not in 1850. That was the norm. Today, I think it's difficult. Now, here's the thing. If we look at Steven Crowder's situation, what I'll say about this, I think Steven Crowder I disagree with him. I think he is a high status man. The difference, the difference with Steven Crowder is, I would say that most of us in here and most of this audience, realizing you got married in the state of Texas, made that much money and didn't sign a prenup, that was not a smart move on his part. In fact,
well, that's not the only issue with Steven Crowder. It seems like he definitely has some emotional let's just say there's some he's not able to manage his emotions. I mean, you kind of you've heard this from his co-host. Maybe potential even like borderline homosexuality, cross-dressing. I mean, he cross-dresses a lot. There's an article came out that he shows his dick to a lot of dudes. So yeah, I don't know. I think there's more to it than just like not signing a prenup.
I would even go so far, and you might disagree with me on this. If he had signed a prenup, she wouldn't be filing for divorce.
That never would have been occurred to them though, because they're both like from evangelical cultures, and they're both.
That's not necessarily true. Like, what's the evidence that she's just with him for the money? Like, this girl has declined like every podcast appearance. She could charge for that. I don't see how you can make the claim. It's potentially true that this girl is just doing this for the money, right? I don't buy that.
Like virgins, and they're like in their early 20s.
Sure, but then again, look at the divergence here from the traditional versus the red pill, right? Where the red pill is like, you need to be going into this marriage waiting for it to fail, get that prenup, do all this like
protecting yourself.
Sure, but I mean, like, I would argue, Sneeko is our Muslim expert. I won't touch your book, sorry. But like, wouldn't you argue that going into marriage is literally, again, like the union of flesh, till death do us part, et cetera? That if you're going in with the prenup, you're basically like doing with your fingers crossed behind your back.
So you wouldn't go in with a prenup?
Well, I personally wouldn't. I don't know if I would suggest that for other people, but I'm pointing out the difference between like the trap.
I agree with Michael Sartain here. No, I would definitely go into a prenup, especially for a guy who's making a good amount of money. It just like you're going into it like hoping that it's going to work out for sure, but like it never hurts to be safe, right? Like when you drive a car, you're not planning on getting into a car crash, but you're still wearing a seatbelt just in case the worst thing happens. So yeah, I see this like no different than really wearing a seatbelt. You're just taking extra precautions. So I disagree with Destiny's argument here.
Versus the red pill, where there's this huge schism right now in terms of advice.
So you remember the science thing. So if 70 to 80% of divorces are initiated by women, then it would de-incentivize women to get a divorce if there was a prenup. That's just scientifically the way I'm looking at it. Nobody gets into, again, 38% of businesses stay in business after 5 years, something like that. Nobody starts a business, but hey man, 38% chance we're going to fucking make it. But if you get married, hey, you know what? There's a 53% chance that we're going to get divorced. Nobody says that. Everyone has. So, but why not protect ourselves? I have home insurance, but I don't intend on burning down my house, and I have car insurance, but I don't intend on totaling my car. I think you can still be prepared. Maybe the military officer in me.
Yeah, I agree with Michael Sartain here. Also, I'm not sure why Destiny is going down this specific line of questioning. I think he should have focused on the hypocrisy. I mean, maybe he's planning on doing that later. The hypocrisy angle with Rollo is that's like probably the easiest way to get him to own him in a debate.
We do is practice emergency procedures, but we don't intend on crashing. And so that's why I would do that.
I mean, I agree with you insofar as business and insurance goes. It feels a little bit different. Feels a little bit different when you're talking about marriage, because it's not necessarily just a financial union. It is realistically part of it is a financial union.
That's the origin of marriage was a financial union.
Well, probably, but it also had to do with like family creation, I think too, right? Heavily played into it. Probably more important even than the financial union was the family creation part. It just, again, it feels like I'm feeling the rift between like date to find a wife to create a family versus date. There's 3 or 4 might divorce you, get a prenup, get ready to, she's 15 years younger than you. It seems like there's that big divergence of qualities around the marriage part. I'm curious for both of you, you guys can answer. Like Sneeko, what is like your ideal path in life? If you could be like striving towards an ideal, when does the man get married and have a family? And then you two, like when do you think a man should get married and have a family? Like, in general, knowing that there's going to be exceptions, but in the Western world.
I would say late 20s to early 30s. And a part of the reason why I reverted to Islam is I see it as the only logical way to get around the boredom aspect that the Red Bull talks about, because men always get bored. Men always want variety, and there's an ethical way to do it. So if you have multiple wives, then you're not just spending time with these girls knowing that you're going to go never see them again and you're just using them for a body count. If you have multiple wives and you love them equally and you're providing for them and they're getting something out of it, and then you get past that variety problem that a lot of guys have, and you also the women are going to act more.
I knew it. I always say this. The reason these red pillars get into Islam is because they like the idea of having multiple wives, right? But like, why do you need to be Islam to have multiple girls? You could just have multiple. First of all, why would you want to marry multiple women? Just date multiple women and have one girl if you really love her that marry or not, right? Second of all, I don't think they realize that in Islam, it's not that common for people to have multiple wives. It absolutely happens. But I think that's something that nowadays, or I could actually, I'm not going to speak on this because I could be wrong on it. I don't know that much about Islam. I just heard that's not something that's as common as red pillars make it out to be.
In your favor, if they're in a sense competing with one another to make sure that they're providing for the husband.
How do you handle this legally? I mean, bigamy is.
I would not get married legally. I don't recommend anybody in the West get married. I think we've seen it fail over and over again. I just don't think. But I would get
family
married.
Creation without legal marriage.
But you can get married religiously. You can have the ceremony. I think a lot of girls would like to have the ceremony. They want to get the dress with the pictures in the ring, but they don't need to have the actual contract. And I think for a lot of guys that if they would just logically explain that to their woman, they would have to agree. Just look at all the failed marriages. You look at the divorce.
Well, let me caveat that. Do you guys agree with that? When guys should get married? To summarize,
I've already actually put that in my book. So actually, it's like don't even consider monogamy until you're 30 years old.
At least 30, man. I would say at least 30.
So y'all are in agreement about when they should get married. Yeah, they might say spend some place in the process to do so. You're saying minimize that.
I mean, I would argue from a trad spot. I think you would argue for earlier than 30, right? Because you want to have children to have fun with when you're in your vibrant stages in life. Like having a teenager.
We're pretty
vibrant. Mid to late 20s, early 30s. It depends for a lot of people.
Sure.
Yeah.
When we say 30s, like if you have a kid when you're like,
we're pretty vibrant.
No, I understand, but like when you have a kid when you're like 35, 36, and now they're in their teenagers years, and you're like in your 50s, right? It's not necessarily the same type of vibe as you have a kid.
Clarify, so Sneeko, you're against guys spinning plates and/or having premarital sex with girls prior to obviously the relationship.
I just see it as,
oh god, this debate is so boring.
As a waste of time to just be spending your time with hoes and saying that that's not a sedation. Okay, that's the one
I really hope it gets juicy.
component the red pill's missing is that they see it as experiences.
I gave Destiny some really, really good shit, so hopefully he uses that later on.
You're getting better. It's part of being a high value man is having a huge body count. I see that as actually a worse sedation than porn, the video games, and all this other thing, because not only is it just going to waste your time, but the risk factor is extremely high. And the solution that that is offered to become this high value man that the Ripple talks about is getting a vasectomy, which is not even the quickest solution because
again, hyperbole, but
yes, hyperbole. Right. He was so the thing is, you guys remember the story of the Buddha, right? He goes off.
Wait, how is getting a vasectomy hyperbole? Hyperbole is something like, yeah, you should just fucking cut off your balls or something like that. That would be like hyperbole. Like if you want to avoid getting a chick pregnant, just fucking cut off your balls and put them in the freezer for a few years, right? Get a vasectomy. That doesn't sound like a hyperbole. That just seems like a straight up prescription. So I don't know how. I don't think anyone's gonna challenge him on that, but I would. I'd be like, wait, how's that hyperbole?
Often he's a prince. He's an Indian prince, and he's never seen a dead person. He's never seen a sick person. He goes out for the first time and he sees the sick, the poor, the dead. He comes back and he freaks out and he finds enlightenment under the lotus tree and he tells everyone to get rid of all of your personal possessions and all this kind of stuff. But it's really easy to say that when he had a fucking harem before he said it. When you interview Bilzerian, he's like, oh, having sex with all these girls isn't that big of a deal. It's really easy to say that after you had sex with all those girls. If we say this, Sneeko, to other dudes, they're going to sit there and listen to us and be like, hey, let me fuck these girls real quick first, and then let me learn this lesson on my own. That's the problem.
Yeah, men learn from experience.
For sure. I will tell you, you are 100% right. It was a sedation for me, and I fucking enjoyed it. I'll tell you that also. So that's the problem. The thing is, while we say that, and I agree with what you're saying, and I think you're setting a good example, the problem is men are still men. Men are always going to be more interested in casual sex than women are. The 37 culture study done by Dr. David Bussin, all 37 cultures, men were more interested in casual sex than women are.
That's true. But then you have to think about, like, because we all have a platform, like, what's the best advice to give out to the masses? Because if you're saying
for me, statistics is the best advice. The truth is the only thing that I care about. I don't amoral, like you said before, because the problem is that the Overton window consistently shifts to the left. And no matter how much I, as a Christian, want it to go back to the right, I know that unless, other than I can think of maybe Afghanistan recently in 1979 in Iran, I can't think of a single society that shifted back to the right in the last 50 years.
But then you're creating a bunch of men that are victims of that system and that are just playing parts of this leftist system instead of trying to create people
that leftist. But yeah, I understand what you're saying.
I think you also have to be careful. Our advice can't be statistics, because I feel like one of the things you argue against as red pillars is just being a statistic, right? Like you could argue if you're listening to your man should kill yourself, because statistically speaking, men kill themselves more than women, but that's not a good argument, right? Like in some senses,
prescription is what you're saying.
Exactly. Like you don't want to just be a statistic, right? Because statistically speaking, what percentage of marriages end in divorce? What percentage of women initiated? Right? You want to try to find a way to rise above, right?
I guess maybe a better way would be like, here's my prescription, but they come with the statistics, and this is the reason why. And none of them are based on my feelings; they're always going to be based on other statistics. So I would say, for instance, if I would say 78% of divorces are initiated by women, that would be my prescription would then be to get a prenup. But it's based on that statistic.
Yeah, for sure. But it could also be like, well, here are the most common reasons for divorce. Try to remedy these before they become an issue.
That's another great statistic, though. You're being statistic for a prescription.
But the feeling is, what do we express at the end of the day, right? It's the difference between history and historiography, right? If we want to tell the story of World War II, we're not going to talk about every single soldier in the war. We're going to focus on, the leaders. We're going to focus on the battles. Same thing with statistics, right? It's what is it? Statistics don't lie, but liars use statistics. You can arguably use statistics to tell almost any kind of story you want, depending on how you massage your numbers and depending on what side you present. But it's our choice to choose what we want to present to the people, which is what we tell them to do. Also, one thing I would say on the marriage stuff, because I hear this a lot. I don't know how many of you guys talk about this or get into this a lot. You have to be really careful with the live with a woman but never get married. One, because some states have something called common law marriage, which I hope most of you guys are familiar with, right?
Yeah,
so you might not think you're married.
I don't believe has it, but yes.
Yeah. I think Texas.
No, Texas does. I'm sorry. Nevada does. You're right.
Be very careful with that, because you might find you're getting a divorce notice from a woman you never agreed to marry. So one, be careful with the common law thing, and then two, I do believe that one of the reasons, we don't have to get too deep into divorce stuff because I might come later, but one of the reasons women probably want some sort of like formal contract is because, while there might be some love and children, all of that, there is also money and career being left on the table too, depending on the arrangement. If you're telling a woman like, hey, we're going to fuck, we're going to have kids, and I love you and I love that and I love our family, you're going to stay here and take care of the kids while I go and I continue my career. When we split, if we get divorced in 10 years, I didn't lose shit financially because my career's been fine. I've been working the entire time. And now you're stuck being a full-time caregiver. You might have given up your career to do it. So I think it's reasonable for the woman to say, much the same that a man might say, I want a prenup, just because we get divorced and you're taking half my shit. The woman could also be like, okay, I understand that. But if we end up getting divorced and I'm throwing away a decade of my life to take care of your fucking children, our children, I want some kind of financial assurance. So I think that's fair.
And you're aware that certain prenups are thrown out exactly for the reasons
depending on how egregious they are or the state of the people writing them or both sides have representation. There's a lot of.
I really don't know why he's embarking on this line of questioning. I mean, I guess it's an interesting topic, but that's not like you're not gonna like really nail Rollo on this. It's mainly a debate about like the merits of marriage with Michael Sartain right now.
Yeah. Some prenups do get thrown out, but not all of them right now.
Okay, real quick. This has been great. I'm going to read some of these chats real quick, and we're going to kill the Facebook and the Twitter stream. So, guys, come on over to YouTube right now. Like the video on YouTube, subscribe to the channel. And also, all the guys' links are below. Follow Destiny on YouTube. check out Sneeko on Rumble. Check out Mike Sartain and the Access Vegas podcast on his channel, as well as Rollo Tomassi on the Rational Mail. I'm reading only $100 super chats and up, guys, so that I can make sure that we keep this thing nice and succinct. We got Platinum Elite going. The Red Pill has flaws.
So thanks, guys. I appreciate you.
Oh, you gotta go.
Oh, you gotta go.
Yeah.
Hey, come to Vegas.
He's
Come to
going
Vegas.
Yeah, seriously, come to Vegas.
man.
Come to Vegas.
Oh shit, Sneeko quits. Someone predicted it. Who's gonna quit first? And I said Fresh because mine kicks him out. I was making a joke, but I guess Sneeko has to go. It's kind of lame.
Oh, wait, we won't take it in any club. I'll take you some.
Let me tell you something.
I'm the married guy.
Do we have
Remember?
any mosques in Las Vegas?
Yeah, of course.
Oh, man.
Yeah. You're in. You're
I'm actually kind of happy because now, well, I don't know. This could be good or bad because Sneeko was doing pretty good in the beginning, but then he kind of started going off his like Islamic side tangent. So I feel like Sneeko should be like, Michael, do you want to walk me to the car?
This guy's
Okay, have fun with your new friend, your closer friend.
Got some distractions.
No more plan Bs, bro.
Yeah. The Red Pill has flaws, but it is so much better than being a beta simp. Marriage is at an all-time low. You don't have to have money to get women, just confidence. Most men will never earn $120,000 a year. Just learn game. Okay. We got here DL saying outstanding show, Myron.
True, that is correct.
Fresh, well done, brother. Salute to Destiny, Sneeko, Rollo, brother Myron, brother Michael. Why did you join the army? You would have made one hell of a paratrooper airborne. Keep leading from the front. I appreciate that.
Air Force. Sorry, it's even worse.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then we got here question for Destiny. Do you consider yourself to be a high-value man based on the definition you all have agreed on? I would argue that you are not. That we told all men to make a living the way you do, society would fail within 24 hours.
Yeah, but they don't all have to make a. We all do it, and I would say yes.
If every single man was a plumber, society would fail. If every single man was anything, society would fail. Everybody at
this
this
guy
table
doesn't like you, bro.
No, yeah, I understand. But everybody at this table, whether we like each other or don't like each other, everybody at this table commands a lot of resources, right?
Yes.
That's just like a fact.
Yeah.
And last one.
Okay. 33K watching and only 8K likes. Let's get 20K likes to support the panel.
So
Yeah,
the plugs in the back,
God
man.
damn.
like the video, guys. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Okay, we're caught up. All right, cool. So we were talking about the topic of divorce. Go ahead.
Oh my god.
Do you want to start with something?
No, I
As far as like not living with a woman, I think is the main contention.
well, that's that's Iron Rule Tomassi number 4.
yeah,
it's
you
like
say
a
don't live with a
shacking up.
woman, and you disagree.
I'm
with
saying
that,
don't live with the woman unless you plan to marry her within the next 6 months. Because what happens, and the reason why I put that in the book in the first place is because there's a rash of guys who just get together and they want to live with their wives or their girlfriends, right? In that situation, they think, oh, it's great. We'll get rent paid, and then I'll have.
I wonder if Destiny's going to push him on that because if I was there, I would say it's actually the opposite. Don't marry a woman that you haven't lived with for 6 months. You want to definitely try living with a woman before you get married. Now, the counter argument would be common law marriage. Well, first of all, common law marriage is only in like 8 or 9 states. And second of all, you have to be like living together for like 5 years. So I'm saying like, hey, listen, I think it's a good idea to live with a woman for 6 months before considering marrying her. So he has it completely flipped. So let's see if Destiny brings that up.
Sex with the utilities. I have hot and cold running water, and I'll get laid when I want to. And what happens is these guys will go and put their name on a lease with that woman, and then things didn't work out for them. But the woman, her impression is, well, he wouldn't be signing this lease for a full year unless like he was really, really serious about me. Mm-hmm. And so essentially, you lose all leverage, you lose all the urgency, you lose the nature of the sex goes down, the frequency of sex goes down. That's actually that's why I made that a rule.
So the follow-up here would be like, okay, Rollo, so did the quality of your sex go down after you moved in with your wife?
Do you disagree with that, living with a woman?
Yeah, completely. I don't know how much you want to go on this topic.
Please take it away.
I don't know how that relates to divorce, though.
Sure, yeah. I mean, I feel like living, if for no other reason, I think living with somebody is nice because splitting bills is really nice. You brought up something interesting. I'm not familiar with this research directly, but I'm going to extrapolate this one I do know. You mentioned that around 2008, when apps and iPhones
Chris, can
and
you
all
pull
this
that
stuff.
up? It's really easy to find. It's the GSS survey. It's in the University of Chicago, I think. Did it? Do you remember who did that? The one that shows that 33% of men with zero sexual.
Oh yeah, and then by the way, that's like we keep like using that over and over again. I see Adam Sosnick quote this all the time, but it's like there's so many other like data points in that survey.
This is something that I'm
Damn, this debate would have been so much better if I was there.
going to bring up, because you guys are all old enough to remember, something else really big happened in 2007, 2008.
The subprime mortgage crisis.
Holy fuck. And one of the biggest indicators for men being able to get out and get married and have sex and everything is having your own place.
Yeah.
And our ability to work, holy fuck. If you were working at the time, you saw benefits and pay get cut like none other. It was hard to find jobs. Housing became completely fucking unaffordable. In 2007, buying a house from that point on became very, very, very difficult for the next few years. So it wouldn't surprise me if virginity rates it's not virginity actually, but not having a sexual partner rates probably grossly increased for that year because everybody was stuck at home.
So while I agree that may be a part in the beginning, if you look at the scale, it starts in 08 and it ends in 18.
Sure.
And 18, it gets up to almost 30%. So or from 2015 to 2018, I don't think that has anything to do with the subprime mortgage crisis. I think it has way more to do with the phone and specifically Dunbar's number. What's happened is these people now have unlimited options, whereas their brain was developed through evolution for 150 people. Now they have options to everyone and everything they can see. They message Drake. Drake messages them back. They fuck Drake. And now the girl thinks that Drake is the baseline for what she can date. And now the next guy who's alpha widowed after that has to deal with that.
It's only small percentage percentage of girls are fucking Drake.
And I know it may seem like it's anecdotal. I just see this hundreds of times where girls will say, yeah, I was dating so-so and an NBA player. And you've probably seen this too. And you're like, no, you fucked him once. You're not dating him. I know his wife. You got to fuck a couple of times. Yeah. And it skews the data set so much to where you have women and they come on these shows and like, hey, I'm a 10 and this is what I deserve. And you're like, wow, this is crazy. I get it that you fucked an NBA player, but like now you've confused yourself into thinking like this is what the world is going to be like for you. Social media led to that. And I think it's specifically done.
Can I clarify? Because I know where you're going to go with this. Before you get there, because I'm going to hit on you for 1 second here, because this was you.
Damn. So 30% for the July number.
30%. So like, because I want to clarify this, because I think this will just save us some time here. So like, you were on the show here, and you guys were having this back and forth about like what the percentage of college co-eds are getting flown out to yacht parties with Drake or NBA players and stuff like that. And you guys said 30%. I'm like, oh god, yeah. No, it's not 30%, but it's not who's actually being flown out there. It's the perception that those girls saw that other bitch got flown out there. And so the possibility exists, at least in that woman's sort of hindbrain, that could happen to her. And so therefore the perception of it affects that local sexual marketplace, because if the girl thinks that might happen, she's going to like put off these other guys, like real guys, on the off chance that maybe somebody is going to fluff.
That's not how it works. It's only a small percentage of girls that will do that. Most girls aren't putting off like guys in their city because maybe Drake will enter their life. Only a small percentage of girls. It's like those hot Instagram sugar baby type of chicks, and they're a small percentage of like the 98% of like chicks are not doing that. I wonder if Destiny's going to challenge him on this.
Fly her out somewhere else. So, and by the way, that's just one isolated incident. So when we're talking about perception online, like the one thing you want to talk about, like 2008 up to where we're at
Chris,
right now, it's the perception of opportunity. It's the perception of abundance. It's the perception of a overinflated sexual market value as a result of seeing all these women who like women think are comparable to them, and they're getting that treatment. So the possibility exists that they could get it too. Hopefully that shortens things.
Yeah. So I understand this theory, but I disagree with it completely. But I don't know if we want to go, because I think we're going to get back into this later. Do we have a particular topic we're going to talk about? Or do you want to talk about dual dating
we can
preferences?
hit. Yeah, because
I think it's a good segue.
Yeah, because
that ends the vasectomy discussion right there. Going there. But okay, we could go into the dual mating strategy, and in this case, it's going to be the classic alpha fucks, beta bucks, the dual mating strategy of women that basically, they have sex according to.
Damn, I wish Destiny challenged him a lot more on that claim.
With that really tall, nice looking guy, right? The Chad.
Destiny made a good point the first time. He's like, this is ridiculous. Like the majority of these girls aren't like getting flown out. I don't know why he didn't like challenge Rollo on his saying that, well, that's what the girls are thinking that's happening, right? Most girls aren't thinking that. That's not based on reality. Like this is just based on Rollo's fantasy.
And then they go ahead and get with the other guy for his resources, the beta bucks.
Can I reset this from a scientific standpoint? So this is in The Evolution of Desire by Dr. David Buss. In that original copy, it's called the dual mating strategy. Later on, when he writes the book When Men Behave Badly, he changes his opinion to what's called a mate switching strategy. So, and the reason why he does that is because they do a survey and find out that 83% of women who cheat on their husbands fall in love with their affair partners. It is below 30% for men. So something that's statistically different would show that when women cheat, it is to find a new head coach. When men cheat, it's to rearrange the roster. So that's essentially what he's saying with that whole thing. Now, Roland actually disagrees.
That's not necessarily true. He's saying the difference between 43% and 30%. That's not that big of a difference. I think on average, maybe men are more likely to be cheating to find a new roster, right? But that's not like an absolute, like men cheat, they do this, because the difference is only 13%. It sounds
agree on this a little bit. I believe more in the mate switching strategy. He has mentioned before about the dual mating strategy. The thing is, I don't think it's 100% one way or the other.
They can coexist.
There's too many women that I know that are absolutely have a sugar daddy while fucking Brock the bartender at the same time. And so, again, it's just anecdotal, it's not statistic. But I think both of them exist. Whether or not it's 85-15 or 50-50, I'm not really sure.
Okay, this is going to be a really important center point for this discussion, because in my opinion, almost all of Rollo's praxology is going to be built off of this alpha fucks, beta bucks idea. That a ton of stuff, hypergamy is built off of it, the way the relationships work are built off of it, what men and women are after, the dual sexual strategy. So you guys are not in congruence with how you feel on that. You disagree.
The difference is, so we'll just say Alex the alpha and Bobby the beta. She's
Alex
Bobby
the alpha.
Beta. Now the question is, in both strategies, she fucks Alex the alpha, but in one of them, she fucks him to leave because she's dissatisfied with Bobby the beta, and then the other one, she fucks Alex the alpha to get his genetics and stays.
Get into the relationship.
Sure. So the underlying question then is, do you believe that women biologically are employing the dual sexual strategy?
Subconsciously, yes, because men do this. Again, the converse for men would be the 40-year-old guy, 50-year-old guy who goes through a midlife crisis. I don't know if you've seen these studies. When women go through menopause, that's when men go buy the Ferrari. They've shown this, like men can actually sense when women go through menopause, and so that would be the same. That would be the equivalent for men. So yes, do I think women do it? I think they do it subconsciously, and I think it's strictly because of their evolution.
Okay.
And, Michael?
Go ahead.
Oh, here's the
there it is.
stats.
Yeah, you see from 2008 to 2018, it shoots up to 28% of men. Chris Williamson had a comment before. He thought it was in the 40s now. He thinks that number has gotten up even higher. So that ended at 2018, but that's a pretty statistically viable number right there to go from 16% to 28% in the course of 20 years.
And I should also
So this is true. The real question is why, and they're going to have a disagreement on the why, or at least I would with Rollo.
point out that that's one demographic cohort, the 18 to 30. If you go beyond that, it still tracks. It's just not as significant.
Yeah, I'm curious how much that correlates to housing prices, because I know that like housing has become like increasingly unaffordable, and a lot of the issues come people
not having a place helps you not get laid. 100%. Yes.
I think the housing prices is such a tiny fraction of the issue. This is primarily due to number one, dating marketplace becoming more competitive. Number two, men having worse social skills. Number three, technology and people spending all days indoors. Number four, people just being less social in general. I mean, there's so many reasons for this.
And married is a very big success indicator for a successful marriage as well. So, okay, into the dual mating hypothesis. So, firstly, I want to ask, what is an alpha male to you guys?
Great. So, would you admit, like when we talk about, and we're going to start from the taxonomy here: elephant, bull seals, tigers, lions,
silverback
gorillas. In those cases, would you admit that there is an alpha male, at least in those in biology in those cases?
Yes.
Again, it's okay. So at least we understand that there is something. So here's where the confusion comes. If I'm having my birthday party, I've noticed whenever I have my birthday party, I get more attention from my friends and from women in general because they see other women paying attention to me. In that moment, contextually, I am alpha. When we leave that and we go into a club to watch Calvin Harris, all the girls now stop paying attention to me. They see Calvin Harris go on stage. He is now contextually alpha. That's how I define alpha male. I don't know if you
wait, let me catch that. What was the definition there? Like, what is, and I'm not trying to get you like, what is give me 16 words. Like, in general, like, what is an alpha male? Actually, I'll give you my perspective. This is what I'm confused on, and then you can talk around this, okay? My confusion is so earlier we agreed that I think high value men are people in general that can partition resources.
Yeah.
And in the broadest of senses, are people that can partition resources. But it feels like when you guys talk about alpha males, there's this weird kind of like double speak happening where alpha males are, Rollo mentions the...
Let me actually quickly explain what I think an alpha male is. I think an alpha male is someone who is a natural leader, who's internally a leader, right? So that means that they're confident, they're charismatic, they're assertive, right? I think assertion is a big part of it. They're dominant, right? So I think it's more of like your internal qualities. In some situations, you can be, less alpha than other situations because you're not as confident in that situation. But I don't think it's like it changes like, oh, you go to a Calvin Harris contest and you're no longer alpha, right? You don't have to have all the intention to be alpha, right? That's something different, right? Calvin Harris may be the most popular person there, right? Or like you go to like a Bill Gates, whatever speech, he may be the most popular person there because he has the most expertise in computer science, but that doesn't make him an alpha. So they just want to quickly clarify on that.
Pool boy a lot. And we look at the pool boy. So the woman wants to fuck the pool boy while she's dating the poor beta bucks guy. But I feel like the beta bucks guy, more often than not, fits the definition of like a high value man or an alpha male. He's somebody that usually commands a lot of resources, partitions them, is relatively successful, displays a level of competency. Whereas the pool boy would be the beta. He's
poor.
Yeah. I don't want to say a loser, but if he's like 18, you can be a pool boy. But if he's like a 35-year-old pool boy guy and he's got nothing else going on in life, he's like a loser. But somehow in that situation, it feels like we're calling him like the alpha fucker versus the beta bucker. Like, so what is the alpha?
Generally because, okay, so the whole pool boy like scenario there, usually it's the rich husband who, wife's at home just lounging around the pool and she's fucking the pool boy. Okay, I mean, every porn movie starts that way, right? But
the thing is that the rich husband could be the alpha or he could be the beta. The pool boy could be the alpha, could be beta. It just has to do with their internal qualities, right? Like now, of course, physical presence is probably a part of it, right? If you're tall and you're muscular, that definitely makes people respect you more and thus reinforces your internals. So it's not purely internal. There's an external factor to it, right? But it's largely has to do with those qualities that you have.
It's primarily because the pool boy represents the peak as far as like alpha fucks is concerned, whereas the husband or the rich guy who has provisioning, protection, and parental investment, he represents long-term security to that woman. Whereas for lack of a better word, the pool boy, right, the guy who's the hot guy that she is aroused by, she still wants to fuck that guy. Although we want to say that, well, the guy who's got all this money, we're going to say, well, relatively speaking, if that guy is rich and he can provide for long-term security, logically, he would be the one to choose. But yet we still see her cheating with the pool boy, right? So what happens is you've got alpha fucks and beta bucks. And so usually what happens is, like, would women love to have both of those together? Yes, of course they would. They would like to have the complete package. You'll hear women say that all the time. But this is just me spitballing here, but like right now, I think in particularly because women have entered into the workforce, because they have educations, because they have basically become the men that they wanted to marry, they don't need men anymore. They want men. Who do they want? They want Brock the bartender. They want the pool boy because he represents the hot, fun, sex, the short-term, sexual genetic benefits guy. They don't need it because they can take care of that shit for themselves.
I guess what I'm not understanding, and this is what I don't know.
No, the reason they're going with the bartender is because that guy's the most confident, the most charismatic, right? He's the funnest guy to be around, right? That's why. If that rich guy is really, really fun to be around, like let's say Dan Bilzerian, or I don't know, not much about him, but like or Leonardo DiCaprio, right? You can be the rich guy and still be really fun to be around. It just typically happens that like people who are really fun, are typically not like, like really rich, right? Because they focus more on having fun. But there's of course many, many exceptions to that, right? So yeah, so that's what he's getting confused.
Let me just define really quickly, because everybody's gonna like lose their shit on this. But like whenever we talk about like alpha, beta, whatever, and if you want to get into sociosexual hierarchies, you can say delta, gamma, whatever. But I only ever use alpha and beta because it just distills these things down to placeholder terms.
Sure.
So I don't think that human males are like.
So the question I would ask Rollo, okay, which one are you? Are you the alpha? Are you the alpha fucks or the beta bucks? That's the key question they need to ask him. And there's no way he can really answer that question because he has to either admit to being beta or he has to admit to basically being, what's it called? Or he have you guys see what I'm trying to say?
Wolves on the Arctic tundra or something like that. Okay.
Do you understand? The day she got married, the alpha was the guy she married. And
I understand what you're saying, but because you're making this appeal to evolutionary biology. But when we look at alphas in other species, those alphas are never, or very rarely, are they the way that we describe alphas in society.
Right. That's what
There's not like the silverback. There is no silverback gorilla who's the alpha who like runs into the forest, comes back, fucks a woman, and then leaves, right? These guys are very pro-social. They're leaders for primates, especially. Not just dominance, though. There's a lot of prestige as well. There's a lot of like mutual grooming that goes on with girls, right?
Primates, yes.
Primates, yes. So for instance, like being pro-social, grooming other primates are all very important. Because regardless of how strong or alpha you might think a chimpanzee is, 2 or 3 others are going to kill him if he's an asshole. Nobody's going to want to follow that guy. There is no such thing.
Because beta males form coalitions to take them.
So with the chimp, absolutely. With silverback.
I am so displeased with this debate. I mean, no offense to Destiny. I'm sure he's just doing what he thinks is best, but like, fuck, I wish this could be so much juicier. There's so much dumb shit that Rollo has said that you can go in on him on. Like, with the whole Instagram thing and fucking Drake, that would be one that I would challenge him on. Another one, the alpha fucks, beta bucks, right? I would say, okay, well, what percentage of guys do you think are alpha fucks? What percentage do you think are beta bucks, right? Which one do you think you're closer to, right? And then you kind of explore what he says and then kind of challenge him on that, right? Do you think that you can be both, right? There's so many things you can challenge him on. When it comes to that, but I don't feel like the right questions are being asked.
It's a little different. He's not as pro-social. He doesn't want any other males around at all. But yeah, I do understand what you're saying. I think that the difference, like I said before, is we're just using it as a placeholder. Alpha just means more than beta. It doesn't mean anything else.
Okay, sure. And I can accept that, but I would fight you if I was in a fighting mood. That would be a lot different because we're very clearly drawing from the animal kingdom.
Yes.
So when we use those words,
because we're animals.
I understand, but the way that
frame of reference.
Yeah, I understand. But alpha male in the animal kingdom would be like the beta lawyer guy. That would be the alpha male. The guy that is just the pool boy would be the lowest of the low in the animal kingdom. He would probably be excised from the group and he would just die.
In his law firm, he contextually is the alpha male. When the girls have girls' night and go to Thunder from Down Under, he's no longer the alpha male. Contextually, that's going to change.
That's fine, but that context you're talking about, that doesn't exist in the animal kingdom. The alpha is always the alpha. Right, he doesn't change to the alpha depending on the scenario.
Because the silverback gorilla is always the strongest male until he isn't. And that's the reason why it doesn't change. And there's so many other factors that go, and I agree with you, there's so many other factors that go because Homo sapiens are so much more complicated than silverback gorillas. But the thing is, the only reason when we say alpha, it is a placeholder from this point now, and then it changes whenever. It's almost holding alpha is like holding a puff of smoke in your hands. It's there for a few minutes and then it goes away. And so it's almost like getting on a hot streak when you're playing basketball.
That I fundamentally disagree with Michael Sartain on. I've heard other people try to make this argument. So he's saying that like there's no such thing as like semi-permanent alpha qualities. It's just purely situational. So what he's confusing is, I think, being alpha with competence or situational leadership or something like that, right? Again, like you go to a Bill Gates seminar, the attention is on him. That doesn't make him the alpha because he doesn't have those alpha traits like confidence, charisma, dominance, assertiveness, right? So yeah, so I think I fundamentally disagree with Michael Sartain is saying here. This is actually the first time I've substantially disagreed with him during this whole debate.
Destiny, I'm going to make a book suggestion for you real quick because it's a lot. I think we're both drawn from the same place. There's a really great book. It's called Alpha God by Dr. Hector Garcia. I would highly suggest. You would really like that book.
Sure. Okay. Yeah, that might be. Okay. So then I just want to fixate then on this, that when we say alpha beta, when we're talking about like humans, it really has nothing to do with like alpha, beta in terms of animal kingdom stuff.
Yeah, it has to do with more or less.
Sure. Okay. That's fine. So it's the same words, but no drawing. Because like an alpha for humans, a lot of the times, for instance, we're focused on like dark triad or like antisocial personality traits, right? Like the alpha, like drug dealer.
Because that's the result in the end for coming back, but that's not always the case. The quarterback of the football team can have nothing but integrity and care about his teammates, but he's still an alpha.
There are scoundrel alphas, and there are like, the leaders of industry. The guy who does
and I would agree with that, but the star football player is the alpha in the traditional animal sense, and that he's also probably a good leader. He's very pro-social. He takes care of his teammates. He's not just out there being a dominant, like, fuck you, I'm gonna kill you. If you
so he doesn't have to be dark triad, but he could. Because if you're in if we're in a situation where we're all of a sudden fighting the zombies, we're going to want the dark triad guy. He's going to be the one to be willing to do the most violence to some extent.
I don't know if I agree with that. I think you're not gonna want the guy that's gonna feed random people to the zombies because he's bored. Didn't they do that in The Walking Dead where the guy like beat people to death with that? I don't know if you want that guy as your fucking leader, you know?
Maybe not Negan, but
I'm just really hoping that Destiny is just like slowly warming up, and he's just like fucking, and he's gonna go Super Saiyan soon. Because when we were talking, he was. I don't know if I should say this. Maybe this was meant privately, but I don't think he would care. I think he mentioned his goal is to like end Rollo's career, right? And like he's having good discussion, but I don't see that happening. Like I feel like he's got to challenge Rollo a lot more. Like I don't want to be like Monday Night quarterbacking the debate that I'm not at, because I guess it's a lot harder when you're there. But I do wish, I guess, that he went in a different direction with some of the questions that he's asking and the points he's making.
Whatever they do with the pistol, I forgot what his name was. Yeah, no, I understand what you're saying. But you are going to want the guy who is going to be willing to do the most violence and feel the least guilt about it.
I try to like make comparisons here with like the alpha archetype. So like if you would look at like say Captain America, alpha. If you look at Iron Man, also alpha, but they're different kinds of alphas. If you got Superman, you've got Batman. Batman's the Dark Knight. He's the vigilante, and he's a dark. But then you've got the truth, justice, and the American way.
However, I will say all those guys that you described, I would agree because they partition resources. But the really confusing thing for me is when we talk about alpha fucks, beta bucks, where the alpha here is somebody that cannot partition resources, which doesn't make sense from
the pool boy. The pool boy.
Because the pool boy is not an alpha in literally any sense of the word.
He serves a different purpose than the other.
So his resources is different. It is his V-shaped torso and his height and his sexual appeal to her. It's just a different resource. Because when you think about it, there is no analog for money in the Pleistocene epic, right?
So a really, really good-looking Jack Pool Boy could still be beta, right? If he's timid, if he lacks confidence, if he's very agreeable, right? If he's just very feminine, right? So you can be a really good-looking Pool Boy and be beta. So this is I don't know. I'm surprised no one is actually mentioning this. Like, I feel like everyone here has the wrong idea what alpha and beta means.
Money, what we use today is just competency.
Pleistocene.
I know you want to say that so fast. Sorry. So the thing is, there's the analogy for competency today is money. That's why women are attracted to it. It doesn't make sense because money didn't exist during the Pleistocene epoch. So why is it that women are attracted to money now? And the reason why is because it's an allegory for competency. So back then, the competency for somebody who grew up, let's go all the way back to the 13th century, Genghis Khan, the man with the broadest shoulders who could swing the sword the hardest. Women are going to be more attracted to him. What is his resource? His resource is the ability to conduct violence on her behalf to protect her offspring. And so that's why when we see the pool boy, well, not we, but the wife sees the pool boy, she sees him as more of a physical protector, subconsciously, not consciously.
I understand what you're saying, and it's a nice story, but I don't think it lines up at all. I don't think that because there's no genetic attractiveness to somebody that can't partition resources. Historically speaking, in terms of but that can only sometimes be a proxy for it, right?
A lot of women. Okay, so here's the reason why. Let's go back to the science. 20% of men on it's the top 10% of men on Tinder are getting 63% of the right swipes, and it's because of their physical attractiveness.
Yeah, but that's a super unique environment because that's like one man to every
Also, it's because 95% of men have dog shit profiles. Let's not forget that. The vast majority of men have horrible profiles. Horrible.
One woman to every 5 men.
We're talking to millions and millions of people.
Yeah, but it's still the women there are going to be selective in ways that they never would be in normal society. When you're on a 5-to-1 discrepancy,
if we were to look at Tinder, Bumble, and Hinge and the total usage compared to the population, it's a pretty significant number of women that are attracted to men just because of their physical attractiveness.
Absolutely not.
Yeah, the way Destiny could just completely dismiss it is say, well, what about the other factors, like the fact that the vast majority of these guys have really bad profiles, they have no text game and stuff like that. That's how you would counter this argument.
And you know this if you're hung around women, because if you go into, for instance, if you go into any workplace, everybody's fucking always, right? But like,
not
it's
always,
not.
But yeah.
Well, I'm sorry. In the low level place I work, McDonald's, restaurants.
Fresh. This is a workplace.
Not in the
No comment.
No comment. You can go into any workplace that's not fresh and fit, right? If you go to like restaurants, you go into kind of like working class shit, everybody's fucking. If you go into schools, a lot of classmates
the hottest girl is generally going to go after the dude who has the highest status, the Denny's waitress who ends up with the Denny's manager, like that kind of situation.
Sure, but the waitress is also fucking like the coworkers too, and the coworker, like everybody's fucking.
Let me see if I can throw a monkey wrench in all this. Okay.
Sure.
Which calendar sells the most? The Dad Bod calendar or the Thunder from Down Under Chippendales calendar to women? Which one sells the most?
The idea that Chris Hemsworth's physical appearance does not make him more attractive to women, obviously it does.
But just being really physically attractive doesn't necessarily make you alpha. It increases the chance that you'll be alpha because you get better reactions from society, and therefore you're more likely to be assertive, dominant, confident, whatever. Right? But I think that's like the key component they keep missing.
That Drake's physical appearance or
Drake.
whoever, their physical appearance for women, it's not everything. For
Sure.
as men, way more important for us.
I understand. Yeah, and I understand we have a desire to point to these surveys a lot where we look at like, okay, well, what do women find more attractive? And women definitely do find certain features more attractive. But I think the issue that we have is just because they find something more attractive doesn't necessarily mean they're going to go for that as a partner or even necessarily a sexual partner. So this is something I try to do.
Okay, so stop right there just real quick, because what you're doing is you're like pushing the two together. Okay, we're not talking about like the pool boy is not forming a relationship with a rich woman who's married to that guy.
Right.
She just wants to fuck him right then and there
Sure.
because they're separating the two between there. We're not talking about like forming a relationship.
Sure,
We're
but even
saying
as like
how the
a-
fucks
even as like
might
a-
just be. I just want to. He was hot and he was a hot guy in the phone party.
Yeah, and I understand what you're saying there, but so for the largest survey that I could find, so in 2015 in evolutionary psychology, Frederick and Jenkins did a survey of over 60,000 people. Over half of them were men, and it had to do with the average number of sexual partners between all the men. And because I'm curious, I'm trying to find like, well, are there certain guys that like fuck all the women? Like, who are the alphas or whatever? And two of the metrics that they tracked were height and BMI. So they had very short, average, tall, very tall, and extremely tall guys. The biggest discrepancy, the extremely tall guys had 12.3 partners on average. And extremely tall was 6'5" and above. And the very short guys, 5'2" to 5'4", my short kings, their average partners was 9.4. That was the biggest discrepancy. At short, which is 5'5" to 5'7", you have 11 average partners. From 5'8" to 5'10", you've got 11.7.
Well, this is confusing because I thought the average body count for a man was like 7. So I'm kind of confused how the short guys have a higher body count than the average male. I mean, maybe we're looking at different studies, but that's kind of confusing for me.
From 5'10" to 6'1", you've got 12. And then from 6'2" to 6'3", you've got 12.1. From 6'5" on, you've got 12.3. There's not like this huge discrepancy in terms of like who's getting all these parts. And same thing with BMI. For underweight people, it was 8.2 average. Normal weight, 10.9. Or normal weight. Overweight was 12. Obese was 11.7. And then obese category 3 was 9.3.
I just don't know that necessarily describes.
Just intuitively, I just don't agree with that study. I mean, it's self-reported, I'm assuming, so people lie on that. But you're telling me the average body count for an obese guy was 9.3, really obese guy? I just don't buy that at all. I do not buy that for a second, okay? I don't think that these super obese guys are getting a lot of pussy unless they're like Gabriel Iglesias or something like that, where they're like fucking, like famous or really funny.
Leonardo DiCaprio. Like
It's not, but I think there's a really good description for Leonardo DiCaprio. And this is what I kept trying to find. Who is getting all the women? And it's not a particular trait. It's not a particular thing. It's just guys that want to fuck a lot of women. Those are the guys that got a lot of women. It's not because they're necessarily tall or necessarily wealthy. And you guys must know.
No, I'm just disagreeing with Destiny a lot. It's not pretty much every guy wants to fuck a lot of women, or at least every guy in his like 20s or late teens. It's the guys who are getting a lot of women, or the guys who have massive confidence, massive riz, massive charisma. The guys who are very resourceful, who understand how women work, right? Who have very good social skills and social intuition. Of course, looks plays a big part in that. Looks is very helpful, right? But that's what it is. It's not just a matter of like, oh, the guys who get laid all the time and the guys who want to fuck. When I was 18, 19, I wanted to fuck just as much as I do now. In fact, more, but I wasn't having any sex, right? Because I didn't have the skills.
Somebody. I think we all probably know a guy who's a fucking bum who hits way above his pay grade because he's got a good smile. He's the pool boy, right?
Sure.
Arguably, he is the pool boy because what does the pool boy have?
What's the guy who's nailing Kim Kardashian now? Or
Pete Davidson?
Yeah, it's great. But that has to do with pre-selection. The thing is that you also know the guy who's like really tall and good looking who can't get his fucking life together but just keeps banging hot chicks after hot chicks. It's just the thing is for women, there's so many different reasons why they're attracted to men. But for some women, one of those reasons is physical appearance. And for other women, it is just fucking money, and they all live here in South Beach. Like that's, you know what I'm saying?
That might be the case, but poor people have more partners on average. So it seems like I'm trying to find like we have.
So the thing with that, I disagree with the second part of what Michael Sartain said, is because some women do fuck dudes who are rich, but typically it's a sugar baby type of relationship. I don't think money actually turns a girl on, unless she's like super duper fucked in the head. But for all of those sugar babies, so like 99% of them, they're not being attracted because of the money, right? They're just fucking the guy because they're getting something in exchange. She's basically a quasi-prostitute, but money in of itself doesn't create attraction. This is one thing I agree with the black pillars on. Fame, status creates attraction. Looks creates attraction. Confidence, charisma, humor creates attraction, not money.
These theories and these concepts,
That's
and I'm
because
trying to like
there are
drill
more
it
poor
down.
people than there are rich people. You look at the number,
but it's also because poor people just fuck more because they have nothing else to do, right? If you're a kid and you go to school and then you go home and mom's at home, right? Yeah, well, no, it's not exactly because more, but it's because you have less shit to do when you're poor, right?
We're not in caves.
Well, I mean, depending on where you're born. No, but like wealthy people, right? You wake up at 6:30 a.m. to go to your high school pre-band practice, and then you're from school from 7 to 4, and then you've got football practice from 4 to 6, and then you go home to mom, who's a full-time mom at home, right? Your day is going to look a lot different than somebody that like goes to school at 8, leaves school at 2:30, and you got nothing else to do for the rest of the day but fuck, right? And statistically speaking, poor people they've got more kids and they have more sex than wealthy people. Like, it doesn't seem like there's a discrepancy between tall and short people. I can't find a discrepancy between like fat and small people. So I feel like the guys that want to fuck aren't like evolutionarily the guys who just look at, it's guys that want to fuck, that go out looking for women to fucking practice.
Like showing more intent. So you're saying logistics?
Yeah, I just fundamentally disagree with Destiny on this again. Kind of anecdotal, but going back to myself, when I was 19, 20 or 18, 19, I was going out looking to fuck way more than I am now. Way more than I was a few years ago. Like, we're talking 5-10x difference. I was going out almost every night versus now I'm going out maybe like once a week or once every 2 weeks trying to fuck, new girls aside from my girlfriend, right? But yet I'm having way more sex, again, because I'm much more competent. I have much better social skills. I'm much more charismatic. I'm much more confident. So it's not just a simple matter of just like wanting to fuck and then you get the results. I just fundamentally could not disagree with this point more in Destiny. Maybe I'll debate him about it someday.
This might have a big part in it because they're putting themselves out there more.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm saying that even though we can survey women, we can say like, do you find this guy more attractive or this guy more attractive or this guy more attractive? Women will say, oh yeah, I find that more attractive. And we're very keen to say like, well, look, they find that more attractive. These are the guys having all the sex. But that's not always true. It's just the guys that want to have all the sex, right? Like Bill Gates could probably be fucking 100 women a week if he wanted to, but he's probably not.
Maybe it's a confluence of the two things. It is the attractive man who also wants to fuck a lot, and then he's the one with, what was the survey we saw where the top 5% of men had 150 sexual partners or something like that?
Yeah, it's the hockey stick.
I think
that is true, and that number is true. However, that top 5% of men, it didn't necessarily correlate to a trait. It was the top 5% that wanted to fuck a lot of women. It wasn't just the tallest men that were the top 5. It wasn't just the wealthiest.
I just see so many guys who want to fuck a lot of women, and they're just bad with women.
Yeah, I know, but I also like
just more of them.
I know, but I know a lot of guys. Fuck, my people on my stream will know this. There are a lot of guys who are, no offense to anybody that might know who I'm talking about, there are people that are losers, and they do so well for themselves because they're funny, they're charming, they're witty, they get girls, make them laugh, and they fuck so many men. These guys don't even have houses half the time.
So maybe what that is a corollary to the ability to align resources. Meaning, if I'm funny, then I can have higher social alignments. Remember when we defined what an alpha male was? Or, I'm sorry, we defined what a high status male was. We said he had high status social alignments. Funny people have those things.
Yes.
And so maybe that's a corollary, and that's why women find them attractive. It could be several different reasons. I think what you're hung up on is specifically the pool boy having abs and being just physically attractive. There's also the bartender who listens to her when her husband doesn't. She still might fuck him too.
Or maybe he has dark triad traits, because dark triad traits end up being like guys who have dark triad traits end up having higher sexual partners.
Yeah, they do, but it's because people with dark triad traits want to have more sex, right? That's the issue, is they tend to chase them more. If you chase them more,
but that only works one way. So like, why is it that women find dark triad traits attractive in the first place?
I don't think women generally find dark triad traits. Are you familiar with the study they did where they described like the tennis player, and they ask women, there's a really famous one, they ask women if they find him more or less attractive, and basically, fuck, I should have brought this one with me, but basically there's I
have one here, but go ahead.
Sure, there's a whole list of like, they describe a tennis player, and then in one they list like very domineering, very dominant traits, and then the other they don't, they list more kind of like submissive traits, and they ask the women who's more attractive, and all the women go towards the domineering one in the study generally. But then when they rerun the study and they just list like the first 3 sentences and they don't have any of the dominant or submissive things, women just go with the first guy, which was interesting because they didn't consider it.
I do remember this one.
Wait, just so I understand this, so I can make sure was the tennis player famous? Or?
No. It was just a hypothetical where they say, here's a guy who's 6'3", he's got a good serve, he's very good at tennis, and then they go on to describe him, and they ask who the woman would be more attractive on based on the writings that they give.
Yeah, the traits.
Yeah,
dominant
and what
versus submissive, and they pick dominant
initially, but then when they left no dominant or submissive, women pick like the baseline guy with less written about him. And as they continue to add and take away
was the baseline guy a tennis player too?
Yeah, it was the first 3 sentences without any added descriptors to him, basically.
By the way, they've done the same experiment with hiring practices, and they found the same thing. People would just pick the first person.
Sure, potentially. Although they did in that study, they did a better job of shuffling around than just like the first person.
Yeah.
But what they found when they started to add and take away more is there's this concept, and it pairs really well with this concept earlier we talked about the alpha male, that women are drawn towards alpha guys that are violent and all this shit. And not really. They're drawn towards dominant men, but they're drawn towards dominant pro-social men. So not just a guy that can go out and fucking kill everybody, but a guy that can go out and get other people to come with him to go kill people. Not just a guy that is like this evil fucking asshole, but a guy can be really inspirational, and maybe he's a little bit mean sometimes, but he gets people to do things. And that pro-social part of the alpha thing is really, 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 really important.
Well, that all rocks on real well, except for the fact that you've got convicted killers in prison right now, and you've got women who are creating, teenage fan clubs to go get with those guys. Now, of course, what happens is they say, well, they're all damaged goods. But the problem is,
as a tiny percentage of women,
you see this over and over and over again. Somebody just sent me this
Richard Ramirez thing,
and it's not because they're serial killers. It's because of status and fame. All right. So if you have status and fame, you can be have the wrong type of fame, i.e., fame for being a serial killer, right? But women, small percentage of women will gravitate towards that. But if you compare that to other types of fame, like being a YouTuber or TikToker, it's like, obviously way more girls are going to be drawn to that. So I hate that analogy because I feel like it's just genuine.
Or Anders Breivik, the Boston Marathon bomber, those guys. Yeah, those guys.
Jeffrey Dahmer was homosexual and had fucking girls going out there.
It's what's known as hybristophilia. Okay, now are all women hybristophiles?
No,
but only women are hybristophiles. So there is something that maps on to the attraction to guys who have a capacity for for violence and extreme violence as well.
Sure, well, that's kind of true, but like, couldn't I also argue anecdotally that there's a lot of guys that are obsessed with like BPD girls?
Yeah, I mean, they're super fun.
Yes, but we're talking about guys who are very antisocial, like provenly antisocial.
I don't, well,
like
when we say,
in jail for violent crimes.
I don't know if that's always the case though, because when you look at like the cult leaders,
they have to actually separate female prison guards from the male population because the guards fall in love with those convicted
exactly,
killers.
but it's probably because the traits that they exhibit aren't ASPD traits. They're not actually antisocial personalities or traits. They usually, a lot of these, especially these cult leader guys, come off as like relatively charming, relatively funny.
Well, most
pretty
people with
charismatic.
antisocial personalities sort of come off as
They can, yeah, they can be very manipulative.
Yeah.
But the way that they do it isn't because there's this idea of the alpha. It's just like, oh, fuck you, bitch, I'm going to get you. But that's not usually how it goes. It's usually very charming, can get women to do a lot of crazy shit because he's like so manipulative. You know?
So let's just to try to find a common ground here. Again, the book by Cindy Meston and David Buss at UT Austin. They wrote a book called Why Women Have Sex. They came up with 237 reasons why women have sex. And so the main thing is you're not wrong about any of those things. Anecdotally, we can come up with tons of reasons where a girl is a good girl and then all of a sudden she moves to Miami and she ends up working in a club. She ends up cheating on her fucking boyfriend. We can come up with numerous examples of all these things happening. And the thing is, the main thing I would take away is there's just more variation with women than there is with men. That's the only thing I
got to say. This is Rob Henderson. I'm sure you're probably familiar with Rob. In modern society, the most violent gang members often have the highest status compared to their non-violent peers. Young male gang members between 14 and 18 years old were 5.7 times more likely to have had sex and 3.2 times more likely to have gotten a girl pregnant.
But I wonder if that's because they're more dominant and more confident, right? I think it takes a certain level of dominance and confidence to be high up in the gang, whatever world. So I wonder if that's a correlation thing.
Sure, but listen to what you just said there.
That was August of 2022.
That wasn't the pool boy, though. That was for the people at the top of their particular games.
Well, we're also talking about violent
but there were people that could petition resources, not the pool boy, right?
Violent gang members, I guess they could partition resources.
Yeah, we agreed earlier that Epstein could, and he was a piece of shit.
So if your point is there are multiple different ways to be alpha, I agree. Totally. I don't.
Well,
it doesn't just have to be physical.
The prestige alpha, where you're like a leader and you exhibit a lot of personal.
Oh, I got to read the dumbest comment I've ever seen from my man Larry B. Alex uploaded to the street video. Watch this. All the guys are way taller than the girls they're dating. Black Peel keeps winning. Interesting. Except for the fact that men tend to be like 7 to 8 inches taller than women. Like, have you not realized that men are much taller than women on average? So yeah, duh. The men are going to be taller. Also, it just so happens that I don't know. Every single guy in that video had 2 hands. I guess there's something like Black Pill W, bro. Super dumb. Let's keep going.
Social behavior, I think, is the key one that most women are attracted to. It's not just a guy that's an asshole or a guy that's an
alpha. I don't know
alpha.
about most, but they're in the middle of the deviation. I would agree with that.
Okay.
Rob Henderson again. A man's height had an enormous impact on how desirable he was to women.
On how desirable, but not the average number of partners.
The most popular men were between 6'3" and 6'4", which of course tracks because that's what they set the filters to.
True, but that study that you always bring up shows that women value relative height more than just absolute height.
See, I'm glad you brought that up because we were talking about this recently. I've kind of changed my opinion on this as far as height is concerned. It's not like I used to say, well, guys would be like, oh, Rollo, I'm 5'9", I'm doomed. I'm never gonna find a chick. I'm always like, okay, well, find a girl who's 5'8". That's not enough, because what happens is that guy who's 5'9" stands next to you, and now he looks like the hottest guy in the fucking club because he is the one that's taller than your man. So again, we go back to the perceptual thing once again. It's not necessarily finding the guy who's or finding the woman who's just 1 inch shorter than you. You also have to be be higher, taller than everybody else in the room.
So would you guys say height is a byproduct of height attraction is a byproduct of absolute?
No, you don't. What kind of insecure shit is this? Is he saying that if a taller guy comes along, that your girlfriend's not going to be able to resist? The follow up here would be like, bro. So if Myron met your wife, she would not be able to resist and go with him because he's taller than you?
I'm saying that height can be an attractive quality, but I think we jump too quickly from what do you find attractive to what are men, what are women actually selecting
they're not actually
for?
sleeping with them.
They're not selecting for it. It's just like correct.
I just know too many male strippers who've been with 300-400 girls.
Yeah, but like, what percentage of the population are male strippers?
Right, but the thing is, while that is the case,
that's it.
While that is the case, that's the reason why those women are selecting them, because of their physical attractiveness. Like at some point, the 6'3" Australian guy who has 6-pack abs, who just has a plethora of women coming after him, does show that women find physical attractiveness.
And I agree with that. Yet there's no shortage of doctors and lawyers, that are happily like in relationships. It's not like some guys like, fuck, like I became a lawyer at a law firm, I'm a doctor, like I have a 6-pack, I'm never gonna find a woman. Like those people don't exist.
I think what we're talking about though is the guy who can sleep with hundreds of women. I'm not saying they should, but I'm just saying that those guys who can, there's usually something that they do that is above and beyond. They are
true, and the thing that they do that's above and beyond is they go for women. That's the big separator, is whether or not you go after the women or not, right? Because again, when you look at the average heights and you look at the average partners, you're not finding that like all these women, it's like 15 average partners when you're 6 foot plus, and only 3 partners for guys. Like even guys that were 5'2" to 5'4", my short kings, no offense, even those guys were on average like 9.1 partners. They're like 4 average partners away from the guys.
Yeah, I just fundamentally disagree with Destiny right now. Like the idea that all it takes is going for women. Of course, looks matters. I mean, is he trying to argue that looks barely matter? Of course, being tall gives you a substantial advantage over someone who's like really short. I don't think it's nearly as much as black pillars think it is. But of course, it's an advantage. I mean, like, is Destiny denying that?
I guess I'm confused. If the average North American male has 6 partners, how is the 5-2 guy having?
This was a survey. That number sounds low to me. I haven't heard that before. I thought the average number of partners for the North American male was between 9 to 11. That's what I.
Maybe it is. I
6 sounds low. It might be like average relationships or something. But the average number of partners ever. And again, this is a 2015 study, evolutionary psychology. Surveyed 60,000 people. So I'm keen to.
So from what I understand,
in the United States, or what was
in the United States,
the demographic?
So from what I understand, Destiny, you're saying that if the guy wants it to happen, he'll get more partners.
I'm saying that if you take a guy who's 5'4", makes $36,000 a year, okay, and isn't that in shape compared to like a fucking Giga Chad 6'2" guy, if the 6'2" guy is like, I'm gonna focus on work and I'll just fuck whatever comes my way, and the 5'2" guy is like, I'm gonna fuck everything I fucking can.
I don't
I'm
think
gonna
any of us disagree with that.
That short dude is gonna pull way more than.
There's this thing called the pickup community, of course.
No, he's not. What? Oh my God. I gotta have a debate with Destiny about this. He's saying a 5'2" guy who's motivated to get laid is going to outperform a guy who's 6'2", who's like focusing on his work and occasionally getting laid. No, that's not going to happen unless that 5'2" guy has the best game ever.
Exactly. Yeah. And from that pickup community too. So I'm trying to keep everything data driven. I know you bring up your strippers, but if I want to lean into the anecdotes, something that I hear very commonly from the pickup community, and something that I've seen personally a lot, is you will find these guys in these incel communities. Like, I don't know if you've ever been to some of these suburbs, but people will post these pictures. Dude is like relatively attractive, 5'11". Yeah, and they're like, I feel like I'm hideous and I can't find like any girls. I don't think any girls gonna like me.
Do you think autism might have a place, a part in that?
It might. It's hard to say.
Autism has increased 178% since 2000.
See, I don't know. Well, I hear that before. The problem is, do you guys remember Steve Urkel? You guys remember Revenge of the Nerds? We were fucking making fun of autistic people back in the 80s and 90s because we didn't know what they were. So when we say it's 78% more autistic people, I just think
diagnosed, right?
I just think what happened is we used to just call them nerds, and now we're realizing that they actually have a spectrum disorder. Also, it used to not be a spectrum; it used to just be autism.
All right, this debate is running way longer than I was thought, but I'm committed to going through it. I just have to eat, so I'm going to turn my camera off for 5 minutes while I eat, but I'll still be here watching and giving voice commentary. All right, let's get back into it.
And now it's a spectrum, so now we can include more people. So I don't know, that could be the case. We can say, hey, you've run the exact same studies for autoimmune disorders. I think a lot of countries didn't know what autoimmune disorders were, so now we diagnose more of them because now we understand what it was.
Yeah, I understand. No. But so just to circle back on this one more time, that we can move on to this point. I don't know of any trait that guarantees you a high number of partners, despite the fact that we talk about it like that all the time. Like, I can't find research that says if you're 60 plus.
How about 2 traits?
Even 2 traits. I don't know.
The 2 traits would be
combinations.
The combination would be some form of competency or physical attractiveness, or like, and then combine that with, I'm going to go out every night till I get fucking laid.
Well, but again, the only one that really matters is the latter one. Because the latter one, in the least competent guy in the world, is going to get him laid more than the most competent guy.
I just don't know if you have 33% of men having 0 sexual partners. I think there's still
like a million guys in like the looks maxers right now.
Well, 33% was for men 19 to 30. And again, I understand we can do a lot of conjecture, but like I said, like I'm like I said, I tried to find it. Like, are there these traits? Like, what do I need to have to fuck a lot of women? What is like the trait that will let you do it? And it seemed like the answer was just, if you want to fuck a lot of women, you go for it. Because it doesn't. It doesn't map onto money because it's reversed that way, right? Poor people have more sex than wealthy people. Doesn't seem to map cleanly onto height. Doesn't seem to map cleanly onto BMI. Doesn't seem to map cleanly onto career. The more career-driven people have less children and have less sex.
But then also, like, as far as with the poor people,
I absolutely hate the argument Destiny's taking right now. Like, it's not just as simple as wanting to fuck a lot of women. You think that all the guys who are not having sex simply don't want it? Like, of course, there's a whole bunch of dudes who want to have sex who are not having sex because, again, they don't have the skills to do it. So it's not a simple matter of desire. This is I just could not disagree with this argument more strongly.
And everyone, all those demographics that you just mentioned right now, we also have to take into account age. So if you're looking at like 18 to 30 demographic versus the 30 to 40 to whatever it is. So
also, there's a difference between having wealth and the ability to spend. Like, the willingness to spend, I think, actually might.
I was going to say, I just had a study here that was saying that like men who are like not frugal, who would like overspend, they're like, it's almost like Findom, right? Were more willing to spend above and beyond, like take a line of credit out. Those guys had a higher instance of sexual partners.
That wouldn't surprise me, but that maps onto what I was saying earlier. I don't think it maps onto what you guys are saying, and that it maps onto a certain alpha trait. It maps onto what I'm saying is that it's a guy that's willing to fucking do what he needs to get laid. He wants to get laid. Yeah. So that spender could be a 5'4" fucking nerd dude that like isn't the most attractive guy, but he's willing to invest time and resources to get laid.
All of them want to get laid. I think it's who's willing to like move to Brickell or South Beach or move to West.
Who's willing to go and
who's willing to go and physically be there. I think that's the difference
too.
And I think where the delta is, the difference between the guys getting laid and the ones who aren't, are the ones, because we do so many things virtually now. I think it's the ones who are willing to go where the shit is. The guys who are willing to live on 6th Street or live on 6th Street in Austin, Texas, or McKinney Avenue in Dallas. Those guys who are willing to live there or be there there all the time. I agree with you.
The ones
really.
chasing it, yeah.
Yeah,
but I will.
I think they all want to get laid.
Sure, but again, to circle back, because it feels like in these circles we talk about these are the traits that are desired by women, and these are the things that women are going for alphas. But then when we look at who's actually having the sex, it's not actually those people. So that like theory is totally broken.
I don't know it's totally broken. I think you just add logistics to the previous theory, and then all of a sudden, then you'll see. Because I bet you if we compared all those guys, we would find that the guys who have more money, or willing to spend more money, or are taller versus the shorter guys, we're going to find that they have more partners.
That is probably true, but all of them are going to outclass the people that aren't trying to get off.
Let's just say we control for sex addicts. Just sex addicts. If we were to look at just those sex addicts, we find the ones with more symmetrical faces, more masculine features, that are taller, have a V-shaped torso, and actually willing to spend more money, better, more charismatic. Controlling for all these sex addicts, we find that they probably have a better ability. So I think
that is true. You do.
I got one more variable.
Oh, wait, here, real quick on this, because you do a lot of ego sex stuff. Are you familiar with like hereditary, inheritable traits and all of that?
Of course.
So very, very, very complicated area of research is heritable traits.
Yes.
If I control enough for any trait, the heritability of every single trait will be 100%. If you control away every single variable, then the only thing left to explain the difference is DNA, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So the heritability necessarily of every single trait genetically approaches 100%. If you control too much, I agree with you that if we control away for like sex addicts and everything, that we can say like, okay, well, there are some traits that women prefer. But if like all the sex addict populations are up here, and then all of the non-sex addicts are down here, and we're like, okay, well, let's control away for these guys. We're getting rid of our biggest explanatory factor for the difference between people that are having success and mating, right?
Only include the sex addicts in the survey, and then compare them to one another. That's what I was saying.
Yeah, and I understand. I agree with you. But it's the difference in between groups, because what we're really interested in is, we're not really interested when we're asking questions of like, do these people get laid more? Do these people get laid more? What we're saying is the thing that matters the most is the difference within these groups, but that's not true. It's the difference between the two groups. And the big factor is the sex addict factor. That's what's going to get you laid. Not if we control away for that, and we look at the stuff within, it would be like controlling away for nutrition and measuring height.
That was
right?
my next point. Is like you also have to track obesity rates and people being overweight right now. So again, how is that affecting people's arousal states?
Well, that's true. But again,
how does that also affect the rates of people getting laid and what they're doing to get laid?
That is true. But I will say, even in that study, the underweight guys had 8.2 average partners. The obese category 3 people had 9.3.
Yes, but you also have to take into consideration there's going to be way more obese people than there are going to be underweight people, and they're simply just by the law of averages.
Yeah, but even if there were, who cares? Like if there are way more obese people, they're still having sex. I don't think anybody in the audience cares. Like, well, fuck, there's more of us on it. Like,
I think because we're looking at like central limit theorem in this, the difference, it doesn't seem like a big difference between 8 and 9.
I think that study's probably total horseshit. You're telling me there's only a slight difference between a guy who's 5'3" and like 6'2", or a guy who's obese and a guy who's average weight? I don't believe that. I think that study is BS. I think it was probably self-reported, and a lot of those people just lied.
But if you were to look at it from a percentage standpoint, it is a pretty significant difference. Does that make sense? If we're because there's in that survey, I guarantee there's going to be some zeros and there's going to be some 50s. You know
absolutely true. Which is why I'm glad I have
the calendar still outsells the dad bod calendar.
True, but across most of the height continuum, however, there was little variation in mean or median number of reported sex partners. Further, men between 5'7" and 6'3" varied little in whether they had more than 5 partners, had more than 14 partners, engaged in extra pair sex, or were currently single. So even for the extreme outliers of 5+ or 14+ partners, it didn't seem to matter as much in the height. What mattered is if you wanted to go fuck.
I don't have a huge problem with this. What you're saying is that these things matter. It's just that the thing you think that matters the most is, I would say, logistics. Like if you were to say, what is the thing for me that got me around the most attractive women, is that I live on the strip in Las Vegas. I live on the strip in Las Vegas. I would go out to clubs and there'd just be hundreds of women every time I went out. And so that if you're making that argument, sure. But I think where we may differ is you may say that's 40% of the total equation, and then say looks, money, status would be the other part, whereas somebody else might say, well, then no, that's a small part of the equation. I think logistics has been totally overlooked by the pickup community.
You guys are actually both correct. Like because by being logistically put in the right place, you're around more women, which is what he's arguing. Volume.
If you're arguing that, I agree with you.
He's arguing logistics, but here's the thing: you guys marry them together, and you end up with more volume by default, being in better logistics.
No, sure, but when he talks logistics, I would say that's probably like 90 to 95% of the explanatory power. That if you are in an area, warm spaces where you're making friends with women, you're gonna fuck. It's almost inevitable.
I tell you where I differ. I think there's men below the what's it called, I don't want to throw this all in
like a floor of looks or something, or
a floor of looks, just fucking weird, just so weird that you can put them around. Because I've seen this, because I have 500 clients, the guys that just literally cannot get laid because they just come off as so needy whenever they're around women. So I think for that standpoint, I don't know if it's 90% as far as them getting laid just because of that whole thing. But as far as what you're saying is intent, I don't know if that's the whole thing. Here's where I would differ. When we're talking about the very physically attractive women, I don't think those numbers would hold up. I think you do need because those very, very physically attractive women get more stimulus from other males, and that stimulus causes them to do more of a comparative research when they choose to fuck this guy versus this guy versus this guy. Unless we're talking about Coke and Molly, then it's completely
I understand what you're saying, and again, that's a nice theory. I just don't know if there's any data to support that. Like, if you're around women, you will fuck those women.
Do we need data to know that if you're like a fat fuck and you get in the gym, you go there for 6 months, put on muscle, and you come down in body fat, that you're going to get more attention from women, or are you going to get less?
I think we do, because I think people know of the guys that go to the gym and
like, dude, I'm actually agreeing with Michael Sartain and Rollo here. Like, I do not like the position Destiny's taking. I've one study, which is self-reported, which seems like pure cap, is not enough to convince me that like looks don't matter at all. and a fat fuck can do the same as a guy who's in good shape or similar to him. I don't like the position he's taking.
Like I work in the fucking influencer industry or whatever. Like there are so many guys that have like fucking 9 out of 10 bodies that have no fucking self-esteem. They carry that fat kid energy with them their entire life, and they have a hard
getting more attention from women.
They can, but they fumble it. They fumble it so hard. And this is where the PUA community, where a lot of coaches. I know there are coaches that will talk to me about this.
Women
these guys
like to fuck them, even if whether they have the social skills to get there in the first place.
Let's use a video game analogy. I used to be like a semi-pro Madden player.
Okay.
Speed, agility, awareness, change of direction, all these things. Let's get them all at least to 80. Let's get them all at least to 80, and then add the logistics in, and then that would work. I think that's good advice, and that's a vector to go forth. Now, when you say, well, I know some women who will only date guys who have loaded tattoos, and some guys who won't. Some women who are only interested in African American men, and some women who will not be interested in them. So the divergence is so incredibly strong in those different things. I think if we get all of our sliders up to a certain, like if you're playing FIBA or MLB The Show or Madden or whatever, if we just all of us have those sliders up to a certain point, I think we're going to do well. As far as a prescription is concerned.
I mean, you guys agree on a lot of points.
Well, sure. Real quick, I think the prescription. The reason why I fight on this, the prescription, I think, is you need to find a way to get into warm spaces with other women.
Logistics.
That is like the number one successive indicator.
Yeah.
But it feels like in red pill spaces, we spend 99% of time talking about getting your money up, getting your muscle up, and then maybe like learning game.
What red pill spaces are those?
Fresh and fit.
Yeah, but the problem is.
Do you know of any other red pill spaces?
Can I say her name here?
Go ahead, bro.
I watch a lot of, unfortunately, a lot of the Just Pearly thing stuff. I've seen a lot of Fresh and Fit stuff. I've seen a lot of clips of like Tate. I've seen a lot of like advice videos from Andrew and Tristan. Although their advice for being a woman is actually generally pretty good.
But they did say the 9 is not at the mall. You're going to meet the 9 at certain parties. You remember that one clip that Andrew Tate had? The other thing is, where are we right now? We're in Brickell. We're in the middle of the shit. We're in Da Nang right now.
Sure.
This is where the women are. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like we're in the middle. So while you're saying that, we do prescribe logistics. I have some pretty significant criticisms of the pickup community. Sure. Logistics is one of my main ones. Logistics and not using social media at all. They were 10 years behind the curve on social media. Those things, that's where the pickup community screwed up. So I agree with you.
Well, that doesn't apply to me. I always talk about logistics as important, and I think that social media is good. I don't think it's absolutely necessary, but logistics are necessary. But just having good logistics is not the most important factor that will determine your success with women. It's going to be your confidence, charisma, your riz, all that stuff. The logistics are good. They're very important, but they're not the most important factor.
To you about his logistics. Of course,
okay, cool.
Yeah.
I think we all agree for the most part, right? That we need, once again, to want to have girls in our life. And as a result, location means you have game. So the foundation is going to be having these traits of...
Well, you need to acquire resources to afford a place in the tallest building in Florida.
Where the fish are.
So, well, not necessarily, because it could literally be just having a job where you're around a lot of women. It could be joining the right classes in high school.
A male nurse.
We have, like, there's a girl in fucking high school, and I fucking joined the fucking bullshit ass, what is it, like play theater or whatever after school.
Choir,
yeah,
you get so
and
much.
holy
male
shit, it's like 60-40. Yeah, to like women to men. And like when you're in those spaces, you have to be fucking. Unless you're literally hyper autistic, you're gonna be fucking, right?
The manager of the strip club, the male, the bartender, the guy who manages the Hooters, yeah, for sure. Those guys, the what are they called? The bussers at the top end.
The bussers at Wendy's or not Wendy's, at fucking Denny's or whatever.
Security. The bussers at Live, the bussers at Access, the bussers at fucking Zook. Exactly. Yeah.
Shout out to my barbacks.
Real quick, I'm gonna hit these chats real quick, and then we'll get to the next topic. So we covered the vasectomy, we covered the mating strategy, dual mating strategy. We covered divorce a bit. I don't know if you guys want to go deeper into it. Next is going to be promiscuity from females.
Sure.
This has been one of the most disappointing debates I've ever seen. Hopefully, promiscuity gets better.
All right, so we got here. Angel goes, contextual amoral alpha in society, aka Mr. Do It All, level 99 stats on everything. Biblical times alpha is King Solomon, 1,000 wives. Modern alpha would be Henry Cavill, Christian Grey, 6 foot, 6-pack, 6-figure earner, charming, handsome, and dominant and charismatic. Okay.
Can you have 1,000 wives or 800?
Henry Cavill can't be alpha because he plays Warhammer 40,000.
Sloan Fidel goes, Rollo is fake. Said that all high value men exercise their options except him. Either he's lying and cheats or doesn't have options. He's too of mine.
Let me tell you something real quick. I surround this dude with hot women all the fucking time. Go watch Access Vegas.
The opportunity is always
the opportunity. If Rollo were single, this motherfucker would have AIDS. Like, it's crazy. Thanks. Like, bro, he'd have simple AIDS.
And it goes, bro. And I'm 61. I challenged Rollo and he refused. Still on the table. I'm Italian. He's not. Okay, Sloan Fidel. I appreciate that.
Oh, fuck. I hate this. No one's pressing him. If I was Destiny, I would press him. See, that's what I mean. Michael Sartain is like able to counterbalance all of Rollo's like retardedness. Damn, that was a good moment right there.
Hey guys, like I said before, just to keep the debate going and everything, and we don't interrupt, we're only reading $100 and up super chats. However, every single chat will be shown on screen. So thank you guys so much for the support. So
can I ask real quick? So, do we still believe in pair bonding, or?
So that goes into promiscuity.
A little bit, but it's going to be in the still mating thing too.
I love this topic. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Before we do, just right quick, just to tag something on the end here, is like when I asked you, like, do you know of any other red pill communities? Of course, you can name the nameless one. But
hey, I'm interviewing her on the 24th. I just want to point that out.
I want to point out also that the red pill doesn't begin and end with Fresh and Fit or Tate or her or myself even. Okay, I think that's what's throwing everyone off right now. So everybody sees one thing and they go, oh, that's what the red pill's about. Oh, it's about vasectomies. Oh my God, that's so one tweet or one image and one perception colors the rest of what you're talking about. So up to this point, we have a pretty good civil debate. I think so, right? But so are you getting that from us, or are you getting that from whatever podcast? Are you getting that from like a Reddit forum? Are you getting that from a Discord forum? There's so much more to it than just like podcasts or just what you.
The red pill in any community is a congregation of ideas, right? So there are some core tenets of the red pill that maybe not everyone in the red pill believes, but they're common. Like hypergamy is one of them, right? That's a common tenet. For example, for the black pill, it's the fact that looks are the most important things that matter, or that game doesn't exist, or that game is manipulation, right? So there's tenets to the community. So it's not just like, oh, everyone thinks differently. No, like in the red pill community, there's common tenets that most people believe.
I feel like everything that I've expressed so far, I've heard you say almost directly, generally. Everything I've expressed in this debate, like I've looked at videos.
But again, like even the ripple, like I've been doing this for close to 20 years. Well, actually, a little over 20 years right now. And I'll even say right now, like it doesn't begin and end with me, and it won't begin and end with these guys.
Would you say the term is a placeholder, like the term alpha male? Right. Red pill is because I think people can be. I don't think this may offend some people. I don't think anyone can be red pill. I think you can be red pill aware. I think that's about it. Like the idea of all of us saying, hey, the likelihood of us getting divorced would cause us to have a prenup is red pill aware. Sure. I don't think anybody can be red pill.
Yeah, that's fine. And that doesn't have to be like an exact. I'm broadly referring to a broad set of or vaguely referring to a broad set of ideas, collection of ideas.
Like, I hate when I see like fucking super racist, misogynistic shit, and I see these in the comments. I fucking hate the fact that I'm associated with this shit. I hate misogyny. But at the same time, hilarious. But at the same time, I also understand like here's the thing. There's two. I meant to say this before. There's almost like the Song of Ice and Fire. There's two forces that are coming together here. Yeah. One of them is let's create a healthy family structure, and the other one is let's not get fucking used by these 304s. And they're just fire and ice, just blasting each other. And for Sneeko, it's way further in the let's create the family structure. And for a lot of these guys who have no sexual prospects whatsoever, it's like let's not get used by the 304s. And these two forces are pushing against each other, which is causing these divisions and this debate.
That's why it's so hard to give an elevator pitch for the red pill, because there's so much like those guys who just want to get their dick wet. Okay, then those guys who want to be on their game and maybe they want to start a family, right? Maybe they're the guys who are already in a marriage, a sexless marriage, and they want to figure out how to get their wife to have sex with them again. There's so much going on. Like that's the thing that just drives me insane is I have to be an expert on like neurology, endocrinology, sociology, anthropology, and all these little subfields because they all in some way like dovetail into what we took red pill awareness. Sure.
No, you don't. You just have to go out and have some experience with women that you can talk about. You don't have to be a fucking expert on urology or whatever the fuck he's talking about. Jesus Christ, what a cringy take. Okay, so people are saying it's a little too fast, so I'll go back to 1.25 speed.
And that's fine.
So, real quick, before we get into the next topic, which is going to be female promiscuity and how it affects them for pair bonding and or marriage or whatever it may be. Just so you guys know, June 2nd, we're going to have an event with Valuetainment and Adam Sosnick over at the Saucecast. If you guys want to go ahead and meet us live, it's going to be in Fort Lauderdale, June 2nd, 2023, 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. We're going to basically have a whole event, probably like an after hours live for y'all. So if you guys want to meet us, go ahead and get your tickets.
And there's 3 tiers here.
There's 3 tiers that you guys can general, get in, whether it's the regular general admission at $100, the premium at $250, or the $500 at VIP. You get.
Oh, that's so cringe, dude. Like fucking charging money for like get-together parties. Like I had my 100K party. I didn't charge anything. I just want to like fucking hang out with my fans. I don't know. I find that shit kind of cringe.
You get to meet us. I'll be there signing books. I'll bring a couple copies with me. So yeah, man. If y'all want to meet us, check us out. Go get the links in the top description. Go ahead.
And speaking of Valuetainment, we will be on Jedediah Bila both together.
We'll be on Jedediah Bila on Wednesday. We'll be I don't know if you are, but we're going to be on Adam Sosnick on Thursday, and then in August, Patrick Bet-David is coming to Vegas to do my show. So that's
awesome. Sweet. So yeah, guys, we got a bunch of things going on. So yeah, June 2nd, guys, go ahead and get your tickets now because they probably will sell out because we got them at some pretty good fair prices for you guys. So let's go. So was that? Oh, and it's pinned in the comments as well, top of the description. There you go. So let's go ahead and go to female promiscuity. I'll let you lead it off, Destiny, because I know you have some point of contention with this.
Yeah, I'm curious. Do you think that pair bonding is real?
Yeah. So the thing is it real? It's a spectrum. So there are 5,000 species of mammals on Earth right now. 3% of them pair bond. So pair bonding is not a normal. The difference for people who don't understand the difference between the evolutionary difference between mammals and say lizards, reptiles, is the development of the neocortex. Mammals have live births. Lizards do not. They lay eggs and they don't care for their young the same way. So one of the adaptations for mammals is the fact that they care for their young. The necessity, it's the investment by the male and the female, and different mammals have different amounts of investment for the males. And so the thing is with Homo sapiens, do I believe in pair bonding? I believe that the way Homo sapiens, this is the way Dr. Buss describes it. It is a lifetime of polygamy. Polyandry. I'm sorry. Polygyny, polyandry. No, polygyny is two more than one man. Polyamory, a lifetime of polyamory interspersed with small periods of monogamy. That's how I would answer the question. So there's not one total answer for it. Pair bonding in the Pleistocene times would be a man staying with his wife for at least 3 years until the child would be able to walk. That part I do agree with.
Do you believe in like the oxytocin love chemical and all that?
Yes.
100%. Okay, so here's a question that I have essentially around this pair bonding oxytocin thing. Why would women have two indicatory like reproductive strategies here? Why would she have oxytocin that bonds her to a party, but also be drawn to the alpha fucks beta bucks reproductive?
She has a higher reproductive cost.
Great question. So the thing, she has a higher reproduction cost, but the reason why this is a relevant question is her cheating on her man does not afford her more. Remember David Buss's article. It does not afford her her more children. She does not have, she could have the most children possible by aligning with one alpha male, just to use that term, one alpha male, and then having as many children as with every 2 or 3 years. That would be the for her to have the highest level of offspring. Where we're probably going to separate is, I believe in the mate switching strategy. So I think she's cheating to find better sperm. He may say something to the effect of she's cheating to have sperm and then have the other beta be cucked. I don't know, but that's the answer. One of those two things
strategy, put it that way.
Yeah, one of those two things would be the answer.
Well, the other thing is you have to define like what is reproductive success for female and the male. Okay, so for reproductive success for that woman is quality. I want to find the guy who's.
She could just be in a committed relationship with someone that she loves. That does happen too from time to time.
The best quality guy that I can get. He's got to be, like I said, the 6'6", right? 6 foot tall, everything else. He's got to be the best quality. Guys are scattershot. Again, it's the R and the K reproductive models, I guess. Okay, men tend to be much more R selected. Women are K selected, meaning that they're going to want to be more because they have to.
Well, for the selection, I think that refers to the species. I don't think it refers to.
It does. But what I'm saying is, if you were going to like translate it from like what's men's reproductive strategy versus what's women, men, we're ejaculate and evacuate, right? It's get in, get the job done, and go. Because for one ejaculation, we have like 1 million sperm, so it's scattershot, right? For women, it's one. It's the what is it? Sperm is cheap, and
the way. So it's a parental investment hypothesis. The way you said before is there's so much less investment necessary for a man than for a woman.
This is what happens when you learn everything you know about like dating and relationships from books and fucking Reddit articles instead of actually going out there and doing it. You're like, oh, the one egg per se, is reproductive. But it's like, Jesus Christ, bro. Shut the fuck up.
And so for a man to pass on his genetics, quantity of women would be more important than quality, and for women to be the opposite.
Well, so, in a pragmatic sense, I'm not saying it's the most ethical. I'm not saying it's moral. I'm not saying whatever. I'm just saying in the most pragmatic sense.
I understand all of that. Okay, I'm going to bring all of this crashing down, okay? I hear that we talk about this as a theory a lot. I don't think anybody is a proponent of this theory anymore. You brought up Bus, and I know that you said you have contentions with Bus's current work is because he no longer believes in this kind of like dual selection strategy. And then
do you believe in a mate switching strategy?
No.
You don't believe in a mate switching strategy?
I think that when I looked up data for what were the most reproductively advantageous ways to conduct themselves throughout all of human history, humans seem to practice something called serial monogamy. So we date, we break up, we date, we break up.
That's what I described, yeah.
And that is, not only is that what we tend to practice, that is the most successful reproductive strategy.
Yeah. But that's a mate switching strategy.
But it's not like you dump somebody immediately just to like upgrade, because that I don't think there's any evidence for that. There's no data for that.
The thing is, how do you make data for upgrade? Do you see what I'm saying? Like,
sure. So here are some things that people measure. So one thing is EPP, I think it's called extra pair partners. When people do broad research in society and they try to find like how many people are having these extra pair partners, how many people are married to the beta bucks and then fucking the alpha guys for the genetics, the highest rate you can find in the poorest of areas is 6%. But globally speaking, it's about 1 to 1.5% in almost all areas. So the idea that women are going out to fuck men and then coming back to their beta guys, there's no data to support that. Not only is there no data to support that, from an evolutionary point of view, it actually doesn't even make sense if you really think about it, because human females don't actually give any outward indication when they're fertile. So, for instance, we talk about like estes, the estes stuff, right? Yeah. So, for instance, we talk about like cats. If I wanted to be an alpha male cat and have a fuck ton of kids, that's a very easy thing to do, because you can see when cats are in heat when they're in their estes, right? You find the cat that's screeching, and then you fuck them, and you have a kid, and then you peace, and you can get a lot of cats pregnant that way. I imagine if you're a tomcat and you're trying to fuck a lot of cats. Yeah. But for human females, the only way to ensure actual reproductive success is because they don't give any cues externally about the status of their fertility, is to just stay with one and have sex over long periods of time.
There are still studies that show that women act differently when they are.
There are not. There are studies that show that women have different preferences sometimes when
and they also
on
dress differently.
Yes, but it's whether or not they act on those. And this is the importance of measuring extra partner pairings. Is that you can ask a woman, do you think that certain men are more attractive at different parts of your period, or at different parts of your ovarian cycle, or your cycle basically? And women will say yes, but they don't actually act on it.
So you're just saying that these are preferences, but they don't act on it. Because there's a study again at the end of Why Beautiful People Have More Daughters by Satoshi Kanazawa and David Allen, where they talk about women actually retain more sperm from men that they cheat with than men that they don't cheat with, and that was part of the reason why the dual mating strategy came about, was because of those studies.
And there's also some. I'm a big fan of Dr. Marty Hazelton. I've been using her work since the very earliest days. Also a student of Dr. David Buss. Okay, and so. She's got a book called Hormonal, and it's basically the ovulatory shift, because what we're talking about here is ovulatory shift. Okay, so when we talk about the dual mating strategy, ovulatory shift proposes that when a woman is in her proliferative stage, when she's in the ovulatory stage, she's looking for a guy with more masculine features. She's looking for the guy who's going to like slit throats, right? When she's has had when the egg has already dropped and she's already passed the ovulatory phase, she gets into what's called the luteal phase. In the luteal phase, that's when she's looking for comfort. She gets into what Dr. Marty Hazelton has said.
She gets into a luteal phase when she wants more comfort. I mean, Jesus Christ, what kind of fucking nerd shit is this? Call me crazy. I mean, I'm a big fan of like science and research, but I think dating, game, and all that stuff should be primarily based on like actually going out, chatting with girls, interacting with girls, and like actual real life experience, and not just like what some random dude wrote in a book. Like, who gives a fuck out of?
Is a sort of a nesting. what it translates to is when a woman does get pregnant, she goes through, I want to say it's the first trimester or like maybe the second trimester, she goes through what's called the nesting phase, where she like wants to like, put all the, get the baby crib and everything else. But like, if you think of this in a shortened version throughout a 28-day cycle, that nesting period is right around where the luteal phase is. And that's when she starts calling up her telephone friends, and she like guys with more female features. So she wants her girlfriends to come and hang out with her, and she's feeling bad because she fucked the guy in the club when she was in her luteal phase or proliferative phase. And then she goes through the, and this is theory, okay? But then she goes through the postmenstrual syndrome, where she gets really bitchy. The theory behind that is that the reason she gets bitchy is because she's pushing away all the beta males or all the more feminized, the comfort guys away, so that she can go back into that cycle once again, so that she hopefully can reproduce in the next pass in the next cycle. Okay, so is
this what Rollo meant by learning game in his tweet? Is this idea of learning game talking about fucking primordial phase? Oh, you're going through your primordial phase right now. Let's just wait until you get into your postmordial phase.
That relates to the dualistic mating strategy. The proliferative phase is what I would colloquially term as the alpha phase, and then you've got the beta phase, which is right after the egg drops, and whether she's pregnant or she's not. Now, the people are going to say, well, what about hormonal birth control? We can talk about that later on. But as far as the dual mating strategy is concerned, that's the micro biological side of alpha fucks and beta bucks. So when we're talking about these things, now here's I know the criticisms of this, but I want to point out also that in Dr. Marty Hazelton's work, the idea where they go and they ask, say, well, are you attracted to these guys? Is it the guy with the, the chiseled jawline and everything? And then, the women are saying yes and no. But the thing is that women don't seek extra pairs if they're already in what is termed as a satisfying relationship.
Yeah.
So that's where you get these incels who like just throw caution to the wind and say, oh, I'm doomed. It's hypergamy and it's like a straitjacket, and she's just going to want to fuck Chad when she's in her, proliferative phase. And the juice ain't worth the squeeze. Now,
no matter what she's going to cheat.
Yes, no matter what she's going to cheat, which is bullshit, because there's too many variables right there, whether she can or she can't. But the most important one is this, is that in those studies, when Dr. Marty Hazelton was going through this, the women who stated that they were in a satisfying relationship, they wanted to fuck more, but they wanted to fuck the guy that they were with at that time.
Again, remember
and I agree with this, but again, fuck the guy they were with. That's not alpha fucks beta bucks. That's just being with your partner.
But hold on, what if the guy who was the provider and the lover were the same guy? What if it was Brad Pitt?
Well, and I think that's the issue that researchers have started to converge on, is because initially there was this kind of like dual selection hypothesis, but the problem is every single time they try to research that, it just doesn't show up. So Gangstad was one of the original proponents of this theory, and in June of last year, he did a huge literature review on why we haven't seen any studies replicating this dual mating hypothesis. I'm not going to read too many block quotes, but I'll just, for this one here, in our recent collected data set of 181 women, we examined moderating impacts of ovarian hormone levels, that's the hormone cycling we're talking about, on the association between male partners' attractiveness and women's extra-pair sexual interests. Analyses found that when women's progesterone levels were low, characteristic of the follicular and periovulatory phase, partner attractiveness more strongly predicted extra-pair interest in a negative direction, consistent with previous effects. However, some pre-registered effects examined were near zero. So while these effects exist and are statistically significant, the effect size is very small.
You mean than actually having sex?
Actually cheating.
Well, in terms of like they express an interest, but it's a small interest. It's statistically significant. For instance, like I can measure a huge population and know with a high degree of accuracy, it's statistically significant. These people on average have 101 IQ and these people have 100 IQ.
Could that
and then real quick, let me just real quickly just finish this block, okay? All in all, the null hypothesis that there exists no effect is a very poor explanation of the overall pattern of the results, even if we currently do not fully understand the reasons for variable effects. This moderation effect, if robust, begs a question. This effect assumes that women differentially value sexually attractive features across conceptive versus non-conceptive phases. Yet, as we discussed above, large-scale replication studies have not found strong, compelling evidence for hormonal moderation of mate preferences, for example, for muscular bodies. Durant et al. Suggested one possible resolution. Perhaps mate preference shifts are moderated. For instance, women who are strongly attached to partners may express relatively little interest in extra-pair men when conceptive. It may make sense that these women...
Oh my fucking Christ. This is the most boring shit I've ever seen. Jesus fucking Christ. I mean, God damn it. I'm going to shoot myself. This is so fucking boring. This is the exact opposite of the first debate. The first debate was actually fun and funny and interesting and filled with like excitement. This one's just boring as fuck. Literally, I think even Fresh is falling asleep.
Also show little evidence of increased interest in, say, muscular men when conceptive. The same may apply for women with attractive partners, or more generally, women who show relatively little interest in extra-pair men during conceptive phases for other reasons. By contrast, when women do express interest in extra-pair men when conceptive, they may be particularly interested in muscular men. This may be one reason why preference shifts are weak overall and not consistently detected, and it also remains untested to date. So it's basically saying that, like, if I find a woman and she's in a happy relationship, she might have a 0% chance of ever stepping out of that man.
If she's in a happy relationship.
Yeah. But if I test her on different parts of her period, on different parts of her cycle, different parts of her cycle, at some point she might say, I like muscular men men more at this part of my cycle. But that's not indicative of anything.
Totally agree. And,
Sure.
and what you're
What's the name
saying
of that
is
study one more time?
So this
Were
was
researchers at all?
sure. So it was the name of this is called Women's Estrus and Extended Sexuality: Reflections on Empirical Patterns and Fundamental Theoretical Issues. And the two researchers are Stephen Gangstad and Trent Din. Gangstad was one of the original opponents of
He was a colleague of Hazel.
Correct.
I'll just put Gangstad.
It's 2022.
So
June
would
last
you
year.
like, can I fuck this all up really quickly?
Go for it, yeah.
Okay, so 73 teams, the same hypothesis with the same data. Some found negative results, some found positive results, some found nothing. No effective expertise or confirmation bias. Idiosyncratic research or variability is a threat to reliability of scientific findings. This is Steve Stewart Williams, who wrote
the ape that understood the universe.
So what we're talking about is the crisis of replicability right now,
so,
which is rampant in academia right now.
So let's say this. Let's say what your hypothesis is, and I don't disagree with this, is that they find them more attractive during different parts of their cycle, but they don't act on it.
Yeah. So my hypothesis is that alpha flux beta flux is not indicative of anything.
Hold on a second. So we saw that thing that Chris put up before, where not only were men having fewer sexual partners under the age of 30, but women also were having fewer sexual partners. So that's one reason why they might not be acting on it. Number two, when you talk about 1%, you were talking about genetic cuckoldry, 6% or as low as 1%. The thing is, when women go outside the relationship, often they don't have unprotected sex. So it's really difficult for you to then say from that standpoint that even though she may cognitively be having sex with a better looking guy, she may cognitively know to use contraceptives. She may subconsciously be like, I'm still having sex with a better looking guy because I want his genes, even though cognitively she's not doing that. Consciously she's not doing that. But do you understand what I'm saying? She's still having sex with a male stripper without the intention of actually having a baby with him. Whereas
sure, we can say that, but then that kind of betrays.
Her cave woman ancestor was not doing that. Her cave woman ancestor didn't have a condom. Does that make sense?
I can understand what you're saying, but the reproductive strategy just doesn't make sense because one, the men wouldn't practice that reproductive strategy. It doesn't make sense.
I agree with you. He's the one who believes in domain.
Sure.
I believe in switching hypothesis.
Okay,
So the thing is where I go to the difference is women are cheating. Number one, there are some women cheating. And when they cheat, they are doing so because they're in an unhappy relationship. So let's bring this all back around to Dunbar's number and social media. More women are in unhappy relationships because they are comparing themselves to other people, other relationships, and they have access to more men, which is causing more unhappy relationships, which is causing more cheating.
Yeah, but despite all of that, men still cheat more.
Oh, I don't disagree. Men cheat
only slightly now.
But it's only slightly now, but you would imagine that
but
if
they close together, really closing the gap right
there
now.
are a couple polls. Well, there was a recent YouGov one. I read that New Yorker article that you read that referenced one in 2016 that showed that the gaps were closing quite a bit. But there's more recent data that shows that it's still about 2x.
The thing is, there's an article like damn near every year where and it goes both ways.
Sure. Well, but the problem with that New York paper is it was citing something from a McKinsey Institute, which the people that they surveyed is questionable. But
I really don't understand why Destiny's going down this rabbit hole of like fucking ultra academic scientific discussions. He should have done what I said, was just hit him on hypocrisy. That's the easiest thing you could hit Rollo on, is hypocrisy. I don't know why he's going down this rabbit hole.
But regardless, let's say that I grant you that it's the same. If we're arguing that women are hypergamous, women have access to all these men on social media, women are on Tinder, Instagram, and all this, and I know you've tweeted out before, and I think you guys have said, I don't know if you agree with that women celebrate cheating more than men, or like women are going to get shit from it.
Divorce.
Sure. Yeah, and that women's friends are going to be like, you go queen, and men are like, don't cheat, right?
Go,
all of these things were true. Wouldn't we expect women to be cheating way more than men?
No, because women,
and they have an easier time doing it because they go fuck anybody they want, right?
For sure, but women don't cheat more than men because men are more interested in casual sex. Like if men are obviously, I mean, you don't disagree. I mean, men are more interested in casual sex than women. That's the reason. So let's go back to the thing I said before. The main point of the study was that 83% of the time when a woman cheated on her, stepped outside of a marriage, she fell in love with her affair partner.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying.
30% for men, which means for men, they could have sex and it didn't mean as much, where women, when they would have sex with another partner, their intention was to switch partners.
Sure, and I could buy that. But then there's the schism here is I'm fighting against the dual sexual.
So you agree with Mike on the mate switching. You disagree with Rollo on the
exactly, yeah, because you guys have a big disagreement.
It's not a big disagreement.
It's a huge disagreement because the question is, what is the mating strategy? Because you're saying women are always fucking to find long-term partners, which I agree with.
Yeah. But here's the thing. The reason why I don't completely disagree is because I used to live in Los Angeles and I live in Las Vegas, and there's tons of women who are straight up cucking their boyfriends, and I meet hundreds of them. And then what you're going to say is, well, yeah, I mean, that's selection bias.
Well, what I'm going to say is at the beginning of the debate, I agree that we're not going to do stories. We're just going to go on the research, right?
Yeah, sure. What I'm saying is, but there's enough for me to say it's statistically viable that women are still doing what he's saying. It's just not all women. So the discussion is it 50-50 or is it 85-15 or is it 90-10?
Well, based on like cuckold, I think one of the studies I even have is like the cuckolded fathers or whatever. And again, those extra partner parents are literally it's like 1% of all.
Because of contraceptives, I don't know if that's.
It's not even contraceptives. It's no. This is historically because the only way they do this is through genetic analysis of like broad spectrums of people to try to figure out like So it just doesn't seem to be the case that many women practice that reproductive strategy. Another study that you guys bring up too, that's kind of in this wheelhouse, is a long time ago there was a genetic collapse where there was one man for every 17 women. Right?
Are you talking about during the
it was like 8,000 BC, I think.
Ago, yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So for a while, and I think in 20
a near extinction event, but after the agricultural revolution. What are you
there was a 2015 study that showed that prior to this, there was a big genetic collapse because of near extinction event, but this was a particularly interesting one because it was only a genetic collapse of the Y chromosome. So it looked like for a while, only like there was like one man's genetic diversity for every 17 women's
Are you
worth.
talking about the whole thing? Pat Bet David came out with a thing saying 40% of men throughout history have replicated and 80% of women. Is that what you're talking about?
No.
Damn, how long do you guys think this is going to keep going for? Because honestly, I'm about to fall asleep.
It was more specifically something that Rollo specifically brought up in his show, that there were 17 women for every one man. Yeah, there's a 2021 video where he brought it up. I can play it for you if you want.
Oh, I use it all the time.
Sure. Yeah, exactly.
I know exactly where it is.
However, so researchers from Stanford in 2018 went back and they looked at this data, and then they looked at how people lived in those time periods. Yeah. And if you really think about it, it's impossible that one man could have 17 women for a variety of reasons. The first is because you can't partition that many resources. These were hunter-gatherer tribes that were like doing early like clanning. One man could never provision enough resources for 17 different women. You didn't have like castles and stuff.
So what was the explanation?
So,
you don't need to provision resources to fuck every girl. Sometimes girls are horny. Sometimes you just fucking, well, in those days, you just roll up on a cave woman and just start fucking her, I guess. But yeah, you don't always necessarily have to give resources in order to fuck a girl. Sometimes girls are just horny and they want to fuck you.
The explanation was back then the way that humans organized themselves was through patrilineal clans. The way that it worked was if you had a clan and you went there, it was one man and all the genetic lineage for the men were from that one man. However, women,
like Genghis Khan and Kulia Khan and
a little bit, but women would actually go and marry other clans. So what happened was anytime there was
Whether they wanted to or not.
Sure, but what happened was anytime there were warring clans, what you would find is if one gets wiped out, that Y genetic lineage is gone because all the men are dead from that particular war, but the women were married off to other clans, so their chromosomes could continue to spread. So that Y collapse is most likely, now you can't prove it, but most likely the explanation, the reason why that Y collapse happened was because of the patrilineage organization of society in those days.
And including the violence that was partaken from one tribe to another. Meaning what you're saying is like one tribe kills all the males in another tribe and then takes the women, and that's the reason.
Or just kills the whole tribe even. They can take the women out. They don't have to, but those women have already been married off to other tribes, so their genetics are spreading more than the men who are self-contained.
I mean, even if you go back to the Bible, what is the Jezebites, the Canaanites, all those one it says God says you're to kill the men and then to take the virgins. Do you remember that? Right. So in that case, we're still going back to the dark triad traits. We're murdering these men.
Can we please get Sneeko back on? I feel like it was a lot more interesting when Sneeko was here.
And stealing the virgins.
Naked murder rates.
Well, no, I mean, it's warring tribes. I mean, that's part of war. You don't have to be dark tribes. Like, I don't think everybody that landed, at Omaha Beach, it was like a dark triad murderer, right? It's just part of war.
I'll read it to you. 8,000 years ago, 17 women reproduced for every one man. By the way, now, but through genomic tracking, it's more like 7 for 1 right now, but this is 8,000 years ago. Analysis of modern DNA uncovers a rough dating scene after the advent of agriculture. Once upon a time, 4,000 to 8,000 years after humanity invented agriculture, something strange happened to human reproduction. That's very important. After agriculture, across the globe, for every 17 women that are reproducing, passing on genes that are still around today, only one man did the same. Now, when we talk about this, whether or not the how that happened, we can say, well, it's warring tribes and they're taking war brides. It's forced sexual copulation, since I can't say that.
No. What I'm saying is
there's a lot of other reasons why it could be, but
it wasn't one man for 17 women. It was one man probably for like every it was probably like at the worst it would have been like 2 women per one.
But he passed on his Y chromosome to his son, and then that's what you're including in this.
The issue is all the men stayed in the same tribe. If my tribe got into war with somebody else, my Y chromosome is gone. I'm wiped the fuck out. But the women go off and they marry. If I have daughters, she's going to go marry somebody else. So her genetic material passes on. So if you run this war for 4,000 years, well, what's going to happen is you're going to be deleting a Y chromosome every single time tribes go to war and somebody loses. But the female side is always going to live on because they outmarry these patrilineal clans.
It accounts for that. It wasn't like there was a mass death of males. They were there. So what were they doing? Okay. So and this is Melissa Wilson Sayers.
Yep, she was the original one in 2015.
Right. So computational biologist at Arizona State University. Let's see. Another member of the research team hypothesizes that somehow only a few men accumulated lots of wealth and power. So it could also be resource acquisition.
Well, but so in Stanford, their response to this, the reason why that doesn't make sense is in every part of the old world, every single part, the bottleneck lives approximately 5,000, 4,000 years ago. This is precisely the period when chiefdoms and states first emerge, which are often associated with extreme inequality. Because once you've got a state, now you can really have, because think about it, like 10,000 years ago, one caveman can't have 50,000 resources. You're going to get fucking killed by another caveman, right? But this is when extreme inequality happens. Mass human sacrifice is commonly seen in first states, etc. However, the emergence of chiefdoms and states is associated with the lifting of the bottleneck, not the intensification, meaning that the inequality wasn't what was causing it. It was the fact that these civilizations were no longer completely killing each other.
Here's just a hypothesis. I haven't read this whole data, but what if the advent of the chiefdoms actually caused it so you had more stable societies than what you had before? So the beginning of the agricultural revolution, which is 11,700 years ago, is the first point in human history where one man had more than another man and one man worked for another man. So then we had more defined hierarchies. Those men up at the top had more sexual access, had access to more women, and maybe it was just super inegalitarian, and these societies were more fragile. And then once you had had the chieftains and city-states, now it's harder for Athens to destroy Sparta. It becomes more difficult. And in those cases, that's the reason why more men would be able to procreate. And whereas before you would have more men being disposable, you would have less.
I think we think about it recently, like it's not a good reproductive strategy if you have a whole collection of people and nobody's allowed to have children.
If one tribe's killing another one, it's not a strategy. It's just like survival.
Socially enforced monogamy.
Sure. Well, to some extent, unironically, that is like the dominant.
We went from Old Testament polygamous societies where it's one man with many two wives and many concubines, whatever it is, and now you're going to one man, one woman, and we're changing really the mythology around that. Like,
well, the biblical stuff is hard.
Well, it doesn't have to be biblical. It could be like, I don't know, the poem of Gilgamesh or whatever. I mean, it's at that time, that's when it became one man and one woman. Whether
sure, but even prior to that, it was never that unbalanced.
Yes, but it coincided with agriculture.
Sure, but I'm saying that even at the height of unbalance, it was never more than like 1 to 3.
The thing is, it still was 1 to 3. There are fewer men having children than women. Is that?
Yeah, it was fewer, but not 1 to 17. 1 to 3 is a lot different than 1 to 17.
Did you?
Well, even now it's 1 to 7, and they can show 1 to 7. So it's not. It's somewhere between 1 to 7 and 1 to 17.
And 80%. I think isn't that the number?
So that's. But who's to say? Like, I don't know the numbers behind that, but that was Patrick Bet-David putting out a thing saying 40% of
Pat, he was over the top.
Anyway, we did digress a bit here because we're talking about promiscuity, but I was really fascinated by what you guys were talking about.
No, okay. So as far as promiscuity,
anyway, we agree. The thing is, how much do we agree? I never thought it was 17 to 1. I thought it was more like. I thought it was more like 3.
I heard the number 17 to 1, and this study gets thrown around.
Yeah.
But it doesn't make sense because if you imagine that men were using their resources to capture women, why is it that when states emerge and wealth inequality starts to explode, we saw the bottleneck disappear? Because now inequality is getting bigger. Should it be even more women?
So I think possibly because you have a more, even though these chiefdoms are totalitarian, I think you have a more stable society once you have city-states.
Yeah, and men are getting wiped out because they're in patrilineage clans that are getting completely and totally destroyed.
Right. I think the likelihood of you wiping out one tribe or another once you have city-states is less.
They're not living in tribes anymore. They're living on farms.
Exactly. Now it's harder to wipe out an entire.
Yeah, I agree.
I think you guys are in agreement here.
Yeah. We are.
About going back to the promiscuity, because I know.
Well, just real quick, because we can do the promiscuity right next, but I'm just
Dude, kill me now.
Thing that I want to highlight in all of this, because that 1 to 17 thing does seem to be true. The extra partner pairings does seem to be true. I don't see as a reproductive strategy this dual mating thing practiced anywhere. It doesn't show up in any empirical study ever. It can't be measured. It's an interesting theory about like the parts of the women's cycle.
Okay.
Yeah, but it doesn't seem to show up anywhere in the data.
Let me just explain one thing here. It's like when I see Dr. David Buss, who has you can always go. You can go back to Trivers if you want. You go back to the mid 70s, where the dual mating strategy has become sort of picking up steam. Let's just say, and then it comes into its own with Gangstad and Hazelton mostly. And everybody's all on board with that. And then suddenly, somewhere around 2015, everybody wants to change their mind about it. And where that also coincides with the crisis of replicability. So that's number one. Number two is even if the dual mating hypothesis is correct and the mate switching hypothesis is correct, they can still coexist together. Because if you're looking at dual mating, it doesn't necessarily preclude the interest or the reasons why that woman would want to be with that guy in the first place. So can we go and talk about sexy sons theory on top of that? So the
whole point of dual mating is that there's a difference between the beta provider and the alpha provider. And I know we're saying that
the mate switching hypothesis presumes you're already in a relationship to begin with to cheat on that person in the first place.
But it still supports the dual.
And it also presumes that you are in a monogamous relationship, not in a polycule, not in some sort of
but that is like the reproductive success of especially men is the serial monogamy. It's being in a relationship for as long as you can.
I think
and being in another relationship.
Lower quartile of men, you're correct. I don't think for all men.
No. For reproductive strategy, period. Now, if you want to talk about exceptional circumstances where one guy's like buying rights to like the aristocracy or harem, sure, we can talk about that. But at that point, we're not talking reproductive strategy. We're talking about like some social, that's like socially constructed, right? 20 women don't gravitate towards one man. If one man has a kingdom and he says, you 20 women are going to live here, I'm going to fucking kill you, right? So I wouldn't consider that part of like reproductive strategy any more than I would say reproductive strategy is to play StarCraft for 10 years so you can fuck a lot of girls that show up in your Instagram dance, right? I would say that's like a valid reproductive strategy. That's like a very unique situation.
Does that work for you?
Yeah.
Okay.
But I would say that's like a valid, I know, right?
I'm playing Matt and I'm fucking up. All right, I'm going to switch over to
right. But like in terms of like trying to find research on this, like Dixon et al. 2018, Jones et al. 2018, Younger et al. 2018, Markinkowska et al. 2018, Stern et al. did 3 different studies, 2019, 2020, 2021. All of these people are trying to find evidence that women fuck differently based on their hormone cycle. Nobody has ever.
And they all started it when? 2018.
Well, but this has been researched for like 20 years. People are trying to get anything. Now, if you want to say that academia is broken, that's fine. But one of the reasons why I laid down those initial ground rules is because we can only argue from the data.
I agree with you on that.
Yeah, because we start saying like, fuck the data now. But because the thing that bothers me too is you guys are very keen to cite Buss and Gangstad when it supported you. But now that it seems like the research is going in another direction, now we're like, okay, well, hold on. Now I don't know if I trust the data.
And I would, it's too lengthy to put this in here, but there was an interview between Dr. Gadsad and Marty Hazelton. Marty Hazelton has also been the subject of a p-hacking scandal kind of thing, where it's like she had an opposing group of mostly female psychologists who went out of their way to try to disprove her for 25 some odd years of ovulatory shift research. So we already know that element already exists there. So we can talk about studies and everything else, but you also got to look at the personal biases that are going on at that time. Right?
What did he say? She had some kind of tape or something? What? I don't even know what the fuck.
Well,
Yeah,
that is
let's say-
true. What about like all of psychology initially? If you look at Freud and his treatment of women, like all of that is just sort of pretty anti-women, right?
Let's all snort cocaine and interview.
Yeah, talking about women are frigid because they're fucking bitches, and women have all these problems, and
We all
all
wanna
the cluster B personality
we all
disorders are
wanna-
built around like women traits and
We
shit. Like,
all want to fuck our moms.
I'm not to say that like you're absolutely right that there are.
What I'm going to say is that honestly, I think that there is a personal bias against obvious worship because it is an unflattering truth of female nature. That's why they're going after it. That's why it's not reproducing or replicating, but it's also one of like hundreds of other hypotheses that are either replicating, not replicating, or there are null results. The problem is in academia right there, and it all starts right around when you're saying about 2018, which also coincides with about the same time that Dr. David Buss comes up with the mate switching hypothesis and comes out with men behaving badly and comes out with his own dating program at that time, endorsed by Huberman and Alex Hormozy. I mean, I don't know Hormozy, but I know Huberman is on board with that too.
Chris Williamson and him are writing a book together. Yeah.
Exactly. So, which by the way, you can still sign up for the pre-orders that's been out since like 2020. So when I see stuff like that, I kind of go, you know, is there some reason why he's switching over to this right now because he wants to turn a buck? I don't know, but the fact of the matter is, even if that's the case, or even if that's not the case, I still don't see why.
I don't know if I can tolerate too much more of this. Put a 1 in the chat if you guys want me to keep going. Put a 2 if you want me to, I guess, end it here. I'm getting like ultra bored. This discussion is just it's not even the fact that there's no excitement. It's just it's so technical and nerdy and boring. Like I don't give a shit what some random fucking academic said 5 years ago. I don't care. I don't give a fuck what these people think. That's not interesting to me at all. So I don't know. So yeah,
or shift or dual mating strategy can't also coexist with mate switching because you would have to have a mate in the first place before you can switch the mate. What is the adaptive strategy to get to you to get that guy in the first place?
Well, the adaptive strategy is just simply looking for the man that can provision resources for you the most.
But you're only focusing on one side of that nature. Would you agree to this, that women want to get the best genetic material that they can get from a guy, short-term sexual, alpha fucks, and beta bucks being long-term security, provisioning, protection, and
no, I disagree.
See all these thoughts that are out there showing.
Is there more, huh?
Because again, we go back to Dunbar's number. But for those of you who don't understand, he's an.
Oh my god. Okay. Most people are saying they're bored of this. I'm getting fucking bored. Dude, this was, oh my god, this is so gay. This debate would be so much better if I was there. That's all I can say. We all know the real question. We need to discuss is Brendan Carter high value. According to Rollo, he's definitely high value. Dude, this is just so like technical and nerdy. Yeah, I mean, what's his name? Destiny told him his goal was to destroy Rollo or end his career in this debate. That's not happening, okay? None of that is happening in this debate. I don't think anyone's going to come out looking good in this debate, with the possible exception of Michael Sartain. This dude is like the cringiest motherfucker ever. I see my chat. Yes, that's the reason I got. That's the reason that I got bored, because they don't agree with PA philosophy. It had absolutely nothing to do with the fact that they were boring as fuck and they were talking about technical scientists and academics that I know nothing about. Nope, it was because they don't agree with PA philosophy. You called me. What a dumb fuck. All right. Anyway. El debate, Rollo hijacked this entire debate by hiding behind Michael Sartain. Yeah, it would have been a lot better if he wasn't there. There's so much like juicy things I would have just gotten in on. I think Destiny should have done what I said, which is just focus on the hypocrisy. That's how you win that debate. You win that debate, but don't control the conversation. Stop it from taking millions of years to come to the same point. Yeah, I mean, I guess it's more exciting if you're in the debate. But watching me, I'm watching it from the sideline. I'm just like, this is so boring. They banned me over there, by the way. Oh, yikes! Yeah, they tend to do that. Yeah, I don't know how long. I mean, is it going to go for like another 5 hours? Like, is there a stopping point for this debate, or is it just are they just gonna be listing off like academics? Alex, they're debating facts and using legit words for Southern Gamer because you can't follow and they hate PUA crap. Oh my god, this dude is so cringe. Larry, either come on the panel and like actually have a discussion with me, or just shut the fuck up. You are the cringiest dude I ever see in my comments. This dude like also never comes on. He he watches all my streams just to like complain about it. I do need something to distract myself after that little cringe fest. You should text Destiny afterwards. I mean, he's not going to pick it up. He's not going to answer my text while he's debating. I don't think he has access to his phone, but I'll have a discussion with him afterwards. I'm going to get him. I'm gonna get him on the panel probably at some point this week and have a discussion about it. Now you know how views feel when the stream gets boring. Okay, fair enough, guys. I do feel now. I do feel your pain now. I do feel the pain. Okay. I'm not saying my black pill, by the way. I just think that looks. I think that saying that looks matter is not like a black pill philosophy. That's just a common sense philosophy. They're talking about studies that no one cares about. Agree. Alex, did Rollo say he would debate you if you go to Vegas? It's not so much a debate me if I go to Vegas. It has to be in his studio. So I counterbalance. There was actually multiple people who offered studios. I said I'll accept any one of those. I even said I'll pay for Rollo's plane ticket and I'll buy his hotel. So I'm said any studio besides his. So yeah, I don't know. That's kind of my position. There has to be a balance between academic and anecdotal stuff. Yeah, the academic shit I just find so boring, especially for like dating stuff. Tell Kyler to hop on now. Well, I think she's gonna go until the end, right? Nobody disagrees. It looks mad. Let me know that's not semi-black. Agreed. I was looking forward to this, and it was such a freaking flop. Agreed. Would have been funny if he had Destiny wear tiny eaters for this debate. Fed him talk. I know that would be funny. All right, dude. Call him a hypocrite. Call him a little bitch. Call him a little bitch. If only Alex didn't have beef with Fresh. Dude, I'm willing to put that beef aside, man. I'm down to debate any one of them. I don't even really hold that much of a grudge against them. I mean, it's whatever. It's in the past. So, yeah, the issue is not on my end. Let's just put it that way. Alex, have you challenged a dude who's trashing about running away from Myron in the street? I don't know who that dude is, so I'd have to know who he is. Alex, now you see why you need to get more disagreeable in debates. Although, in my defense, I did not just reference a bunch of fucking nerdy academic arguments. Like, I think I make my points a little bit more interesting, hopefully. Okay, anyway. Am I the only one that was enjoying that debate? I think so, yeah. I think it was. Let's see if it got anywhere interesting. Let me fast forward, see if where it's at right now. Here, let's
to want serial monogamy, like you're saying, but 13% of women and 20% of men cheat. That's
ovulatory cycle. That you can see. That is a quantitative study.
Okay, there we go. He's still talking about ovulatory cycles and quantitative study. Yeah, it's not going anywhere. you just like fucking like tune in. He just rolls like ovulatory cycle and I'm surprised with some of the cringy takes that actually Destiny had. No offense to Destiny, I love the dude, but the idea that like a really fat dude could do very similar to a skinny dude, and the only thing that's missing is like their desire, I think is just such a cringe argument. I love the debate. Yeah, I know you did, Larry, because you're the epitome of a cringe lord. But most people I don't think did. Destiny appearance on whatever podcast will be more fun. It'll be Destiny and his leftists. How is he going to do that? Because whatever podcast is in California, unless he's flying out tonight. I found PWF from the debate. Spirit debate is more my thing. Gotcha. I'm enjoying watching Fresh and Fit sit there and stare into space. He's probably having a random two world thoughts on peanut butter. Fresh is so bored right now. I mean, Fresh always looks bored, but he's like extra bored. He's like, I just wanna talk about shiny things, cars, pussy, money, yeah, Fresh. He's flying out tonight. Oh, okay. What do you think about whatever podcast host? I don't know enough about them. See, Fresh did it again. Pancakes. Fresh is like a 3-year-old. Yeah. I disagree with Alex on Sunday Day Pod. No one has been a better nickname than me. Okay, anyway. I don't know if there's much more to watch. Oh, I want to bring up this comment. The original thumbnail banner was a picture of Roll and Destiny that only said Roll versus Destiny. Then now later became roundtable conversation, including pictures of Sartain and Sneeko. Yeah, I did notice that. I don't know why that happened. What do you think about Fresh charging $200 for a CEO network? I have no idea what's in that network, but it's probably going to be cringe. Fresh is waiting to go play with his shapes shifter toy. Okay. Alex, what are your thoughts on the dollar store Myron kicking out girl from his podcast for calling him a 2? Oh, yeah. I thought that was like super cringe. I'm actually setting up a debate with those guys right now. They're down to debate me. Yeah, I'm waiting for him to respond because they said they're down to debate me, but we're just trying to set up the date right now. So hopefully that happens. Yeah, I think those guys are just as cringe, if not more cringe. Imagine paying first $200 a month for advice. Yeah. Alex, can you do a reaction to it? I mean, you guys know what I'm going to say. I'm just going to say it's like super duper cringe. It's like it's a dude who gets really butthurt because he doesn't get the answer that he wants. I mean, that's just like, how else can I explain it? Who's the dollar store Myron? Just type in like Fresh and Fit Copycat on YouTube and you'll find it. Let me just check one last time and see if this debate is anywhere more interesting. Nope, still super fucking technical and nerdy. Yeah, nothing is happening. Yeah. So I don't know. I think unfortunately we gotta wrap up here. This is like super anticlimactic. Probably one of the most anticlimactic moments ever. I thought this was gonna be a dope debate. I thought there was gonna be like so much like exciting things to break down. Near the end, I was just getting really quiet because I was getting so fucking bored. Yeah, I don't know. If you guys have any questions, we can discuss them real quick. Or if there's anything anyone wants to chat, but it's like super duper anticlimactic. Fresh just realized Pearly Things counts as 2 more words. Alex, do you get fat girls on Hinge recommended? No, not really. Yeah, it's called the Unfiltered Podcast. You change up your stream room maybe like half a year ago to a year ago. For real, I thought Destiny was going to go Super Saiyan or turn into the Hulk. Yeah, me too. I was hoping for that. Are you answering out-of-topic questions? Sure, why not? Alex, isn't Fresh and Fit like 2 ways you should go knock on the door? Yeah, it's in a high-rise building. I know that building. I've been to that building. I'm not going to even be able to get up to their floor without being buzzed in. So what would happen is I would go to that building if I did seriously want to do that, and they have like security. It's like a very fancy building. So I'd have to go to the front desk. They would call them up, and you know what happened? They'd say, no, we're not sending him up, and that would be that event. I couldn't even get to their door. The only reason that Allende was able to do that is because he was on their guest list, right? Because he commonly used to go there. So they let him up without calling first, but that won't happen with me. Isn't Pearl kind of from Paradox, given that she's a woman, says men don't want? That is true. How did Allende get in? So yeah, that's because he used to be on their like freaking guest list because he used to go there all the time for work. So Fresh tries to contribute. Destiny immediately says no. Pretend to be a pizza delivery guy. That would be so cringe. But that would be funny. Pretend to be Fresh's pizza delivery. That would be funny. I just wear like one of those like like glasses and mustaches. I'm like, hello, my friend. I am here to bring Fresh the pizza. Fresh, I am here for your pizza. I mean, I've never seen it be that boring. I mean, this was the most anticlimactic. I think Pearl is a Miami. Will you have her on show? Yeah, I mean, I've had her be. She's been on my channel before. So yeah, I would have her on. I like Pearl. I was on a panel with her like 4 or 5 months ago. Alex, do you think Destiny knows Fresh is dumb and can't contribute? Absolutely. Larry always taking the cringiest position. The debate wasn't cringe, it was incredible. And the panel had common ground, agreed what makes a high value man and which men get the most women. Yeah, my name is Larry, and I always take the most contrarian position ever. Omeo, I need a job in that building as a janitor just to knock on the door. Alex, you say you like big booty Latinas, yet Natty has a small booty. Natty does not have a small fucking booty. Natty has a nice, juicy Latina booty. If you think Natty has a small booty, you're out of your mind. Did you do the Destiny pickup challenge yet? No, because he didn't want to do it. Oh, I appreciate you defending my woman's honor, Ron, and Ashley, and E-Love. Myron is a very loyal guy. If he wasn't, he would have cut ties with Fresh, Down Sharp. He doesn't give a Zunach. That is true. I do think he's a very loyal dude. I will absolutely acknowledge that. That's kind of my impression of him as well. I can vouch for it. Not in a sus way, but yeah. Okay. Do you have any other good questions before we wrap up? Let me just take one last look and see where this debate is at. Nope, still sucks balls. Larry, are you ever going to come on debate me, or are you just going to keep hiding in the comments? I don't think Fresh brings down the podcast. He's often the whisperer, just that he's not smart. Yeah, I don't know enough I don't watch enough of their shit to make a definitive judgment on whether he adds or detracts from the show. As I said, out of topic, but in need to double test, do you think it's always worth doing non-needy takeaway, calling a girl off for ghosting, or there's situations you shouldn't? Yeah, I would generally hit a girl with a takeaway. There are some situations where I would, but that's contextual. I would say Fresh is neutral to the show. Yeah, I would say that's probably similar. Call Kyla, talk for 5 minutes, and then leave. Isn't Kyla doing her thing right now? Let me see where she's at. Here, I'm gonna change things up. Let's see where Kyla's stream is at. I don't want to like interrupt her if she's still going.
Leaving their lawyer husbands to date the pool boy.
No, but I'm on the side.
No, she's still reacting, so this is probably gonna go for like another hour. But yeah, I don't know. Larry, Sneakos Burns last time were deadly and got way more attention. That's true. I would say that like out of all these like fucking what's his name? Sneako's probably the most interesting one. Alex equals fresh and fit equals boring plus cringe. I mean, I want to fuck with her flow. I can chat with her another night. Maybe we'll reschedule it and do this like tomorrow or something like that. Watching Kyla's reaction to the stream be more entertaining than watching the stream itself. I do agree with that. Debate should be factual and need legit sources, not always about views. People need to understand that these debates are more like rap battles than academic debates. Very true. I do agree with that. Optics is huge. Kyle's reaction to the stream, boring. Alex, what do you think was going through Destiny's head tonight? I can't think this performance would. I don't know, honestly. I don't know. I'm just gonna ask him instead of like speculating. I really don't know what was going through his head. Yeah, I think I'll just have him on sometime, and then you're in the very near future, and just ask him directly. Larry B, anecdotal so do you think Alex won't allow to properly express his view? No, he just needs like an excuse not to come on, just keep hiding in the comments. Dennis is 100% right at Beastman ideal. Well, he wasn't saying that, but yeah, I see your point. Alex, your hater voice cracks me up. Thanks. Larry definitely sounds like that. He just said debate should be like rap battles. The purpose of a debate is to argue an idea, and he thinks it's a rap battle. Shaking my head. I'm actually kind of curious what this dude sounds like. I think he's Australian, so he probably has like a strong Aussie accent. Like, oh, you got to put chips on the barbie, Mike. You should be academic, Mike. No, like, probably just fucking can't understand a word he says. Have you ever tried Match Group? Match Group is a company that I believe owns all the dating apps, so I don't know what that means by trying Match Group. Do you have anything set up with Zerko soon? Not right now, but he's like really tough to get a hold of, honestly. I guess Alex Shadowban. Nope, not Shadowban. Still here. I hate monopolies. Me too, man. I actually can't stand monopolies either. I'm not a fan of Facebook and like all those tech companies having massive monopolies either. I think that has disastrous effects. Alex, I was waiting to get drunk and take a shot every time he said Brent Carter. I know that was disappointing. That didn't happen. I guess he decided to like. I guess he decided to just like not hit on Brandon Carter publicly tonight. Why did you team up with Zerko? Dude's a schizo. Well, I didn't choose to team up with him. I mean, it wasn't like by choice. If anything, I probably agree with Hunter Avalon more than anybody, or maybe Ashley. It was just that's how we were paired up. So that was I didn't get it. I didn't get a choice in that. That was just the organizer. Larry can't say one nice thing about Alex. Yeah, Larry, can you say one nice thing about me? That would be curious if you can. You watch every single one of my streams, so you got to be able to say at least one thing. Oh, here we have a good question. Alex, what's the ratio of girls that can actually suck dick from my 1.4 has decent technique? Am I just unlucky? No, I would actually say that that's like pretty similar to my experience, honestly. Will Allende ever return to the channel? Yeah, absolutely. I have no issue with Allende. I'm sure he'll be back on some point. What are your thoughts on Jay Waller? Don't really know enough about him to make a definitive opinion, but I think he likes my content. He said in multiple videos that he recommends my texting videos, so I appreciate him, I guess, shouting me out. Lol, one nice thing from Larry. Yeah, I'm curious if he's going to be able to do it. I don't think he's going to be able to. Have you been on Saucecast? Yeah, I've been there twice. Larry B, wouldn't it be better to actually call him out in real time as opposed to text? Well, if he was a real man, then sure. But since he's like a little internet troll, then the answer is no. How do you feel about Indian P claiming he's 12 inches? I severely doubt Indian P ever said he's 12 inches, okay? That's like 0.01% of dicks. I cannot have, link me a clip. I severely doubt that has ever happened. Can you schedule an interview with Jay Waller? Yeah, I emailed him. I haven't heard back from him, but yeah. "12 inches." That definitely did not happen. When are we getting more infield? I don't know. Probably in the next few months or so. Whenever I feel like doing more. Their ROI on infield isn't that good. Like, it's just like, it's way more work for the same amount of views or whatever. But I don't mind doing it from time to time. Do you think if Sneeko stayed to be another clear lower loss? Probably not, but I think it would have been more interesting at the very least. No, Indian P is more like 15 inches of pure pubic hair. Interesting. All right, anyway, I don't think we're getting a nice statement from Larry, so let's give him like a few days to think about it. Maybe he'll be able to come up with something. But yeah, all right. I usually say hopefully you guys enjoyed that, but I don't think I'm going to say it this time because I don't think anybody besides Cringe Lord Larry enjoyed this stream. So yeah, I think this was just a boring. I mean, dude, I'd like to be positive, and I always like to end things off on a positive note, but I don't really know how I can end this stream off on a positive note with the idea of that. I guess Larry had a good time, so that's what matters at the end of the day. All right, guys, appreciate y'all, and we'll see you guys tomorrow night.